Okay, it took like an extra second or two to start recording. No, it was set at 7 o'clock exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have a morbid curiosity to watch this because of the tag. So let's see. Probably not worth watching, but I gotta make sure. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, man. Peace.
Definitely might, but listen, you're an employer, right? If you're an employer,
Oh, no shit, hold up. That's kind of quick.
definitely matter, but listen, you're an employer, right? If you're an employer,
we employ
hold on.
400 people.
If you're an employer, right, and you're looking for an accountant, right, you can take someone who is completely, and this is probably a pretty common talking point, but I kind of want to see what you say to it. You can take someone who is self-taught, right, has like their own credentials, and I'm sure you would interview them, right? You have 100 applicants, right? You're telling me you wouldn't screen on someone who probably, I don't know, like went to Harvard for like accounting, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
if they went to Harvard, they would never work for Turning Point USA, like ever.
it says a lot about your organization then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That yeah, we don't have any sort of weight for credentialing.
So let me just hear your point. So like, what you're saying is like someone could be overqualified based on the degree that you think is worthless, right?
If you go to Harvard, I immediately think you're an intellectual idiot. Like,
Oh, wow, okay.
if you go to Harvard, I think you are infected with the worst possible
I mean, that kind
ideas
of like
in the
goes
world.
against what you just said about them being overqualified to work for your organization, right?
I never said overqualified. I said they'd be overcredentialed.
So what do we learn here? There's nothing to learn here. Just pointless. Kind of pointless to debate against a fucking brick wall. But I guess someone took it down. So, who actually won the debate after all? Oh, a brick wall who was just demolished. And the fucking neck. Pointless. I'm gonna replace the link for something else. Overcredential. Whatever. I get it. Some people may think Harvard is overrated. But that doesn't mean it's the worst or the worst either. By far, it's not the case. Just replace this. No. Okay, got a great start. I mean, if I said it was just kind of morbid curiosity, I know it would been a bunch of nothing there. Oh well. And for some reason, the fucking thing crashed on me. Come on, don't do this. The first link right there. Oh, wait. I wonder what? The fuck? What? God damn it, it's just fucking. Where is it? Second link.
Steam Bullet Fest is June 8th through 15th, which means I'm excited to be able to go pew pew in this trailer, even though everyone told me you absolutely should not do that. But look, it kind of works over things like this twin stick shooter adventure. And just look at how pew pew goes over these axolotls. Okay, they're holding AKs. I see it now. And that sound effect doesn't really match as nicely to these bullet hells.
See, this is what happens when you go to Harvard. You create Steam, the most hated fucking platform ever. What to me? They're fucking consumer friendly.
Hack and slash bullet hells, where you're also sword fighting and trying to kill your jailer. Can you survive a whole night of Lovecraftian nightmares or vampires? There are even games that have you crafting weapons and unlocking secret spells. You can play horde survivors steeped in Norse mythology, party your way with friends through the Middle Ages, and you'll even find anime side-scrollers and incremental bullet hells like this one, where you're trying to return coffee to humanity. In this one, you get to be the final boss, just like I am for this trailer, which is why I'm gonna go ahead and say pew, 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 all I want, and end this trailer the way it started. Pew, pew, pew. Perhaps I'm also ending my career by insisting that it stay. Steam Bullet Fest, June 8th through 15th on Steam. Pew! Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, I guess.
Pew!
Bullet Hell, Bullet Heaven games are kind of like that, I guess. I guess it's fine. They're probably going to play a bunch of indie games. They don't even disclose. They have some Bullet Hell slop and some of those bosses. And then they fight the boss. It's just, yep. It is this 1% of the game is just Bullet Hell. And you didn't know about it. Get fucked. Try again. But do you know how to dodge all those bullets? It sucks. Maybe. Just that 1% of the game I just hate it because they turn into bullet hell out of nowhere.
If UCLA was the birthplace of the internet, then Ashburn, Virginia is the backyard where it grew up into. If UCLA was the birthplace of the internet, then Ashburn, Virginia is the backyard where it grew up into the marvel it is today and continues to grow. Chosen for its reasonable proximity to both Europe and North America, Ashburn has the highest density of dark fiber in the world, and Equinix sponsored our trip here to show you their role as a connector of clouds, if you will, providing a neutral ground where every internet service provider and online service can connect to exchange data. Without further ado then, let's head into the belly of the beast. Well, not all the way inside. Apparently I need a confined space certification in order to volunteer. Yeah, no. But I still wanted to show this to you guys because it's so easy to fire up Netflix on your TV or load up YouTube on your phone and go, I'm streaming a video over the air. But there's a funny saying in Equinix that goes, there sure are a lot of wires in wireless networking because to get that YouTube video, the one you're watching right now, your phone is going to connect to a cellular access point on a tower somewhere, which might have a high-speed wireless backhaul to another tower. But if you trace it back, every packet has to have come from fiber, just like this here in the ground. And eventually, if you keep going, an internet exchange like DC2 here, where Equinix leases cages large and small to everyone from AI and cloud providers to financial institutions to three-letter agencies. Each of these is hundreds or even thousands of strands. Like, wow, look at it all. Since we're here, Equinix asked if I'd like to see what is probably the most crowded intersection on the entire internet, to which I replied, yeah. Above me is basically Internet Carrier Grand Central Station. All of these are completely occupied by optical fiber, including the layer above and the layer above that. I'm in your data right now. Now, we can't look too closely at any paid deployments because Equinix takes customer privacy extremely seriously. Like, I'm talking biometric authentication up the wazoo, which, oh, sorry, no, it's not in the wazoo. It's just your fingers. Okay, that's actually really good to know, thank you. Anyway, there's a lot of customizability depending on your needs. Hot, exhaust, air management, and venting, dual redundant, 240 or 415 volt power, all the fiber you can shake a stick at. Of course, if you watched the video that we did with Equinix a couple of years ago, then you'll probably know a lot of this. Why don't we look at something a little different? This cage is specifically set aside for Equinix themselves to test experimental technologies and deployments and show them off to potential customers. And there are a few choice relics in here that really stood out to me. Now, you guys have seen a liquid-cooled server before, of course, right? But have you ever seen a fluid-cooled server that's not all liquid? This right here is an older system from Zutator. Do you see how tiny these coolant tubes are? That's because instead of using water, it's actually using a two-stage refrigerant and a rack-mounted compressor to increase its cooling efficiency compared to water. I don't know how it happened, but this paradigm totally escaped my notice over the last 4 or 5 years since they started building them. These things are super cool because just like with water, you get dramatically better heat mobility, which makes it way easier to reuse that thermal energy for good. Equinix has aggressive environmental and community stewardship goals that are made much easier by waste heat capture. They have a data center in Amsterdam, for instance, that kicks heat into a college dorm for heating, and they showed off an experimental deployment during the Paris Olympic Games that heated a swimming pool. That's a pretty good idea. I wonder where they got it. Also in this room is a newer generation of two-phase cooling from Excelsius. And you might have noticed the tubes are a lot thicker. Damn. One of the biggest pressures in the data center space right now is skyrocketing power requirements, and especially increases in density that are just making the old paradigms for building these spaces, and especially for managing thermals, obsolete. The red and blue cabinets, those are in the 20 to 30,000 watt range. These ones, more like 80,000 watts. And what's really crazy is that's not even the cutting edge. Okay, this is a bit of an aside, but I couldn't shoot it because it was a customer's space, but Equinix showed me a 1 megawatt deployment from about 10 years ago. It took up at least 1,000 square feet and was well over 100 cabinets full of servers. Now, this is 80,000 watts, and 100 plus thousand watts is commonplace in an AI build-out with a cutting edge closer to 200 to 300,000 watts. Also, if Jensen's to be believed, and he would know, 600,000 watt cabinets are on the horizon. That would consolidate that old megawatt deployment with 100 plus racks down to less than 2. Clearly, the innovation is needed. Moving on, this one is super cool. On first glance, it just kind of looks like a more rugged server cabinet, doesn't it? I mean, what could it cost, Michael? $10? Try $30,000. And that's just for the box. Why? Well, remember how I said that security was a big deal in this industry? Well, depending on who the customer is, sometimes it's an even bigger deal. These bad boys right here are for your financial institutions, your military, your three-letter agencies. What does it do? It blocks EMF. And not like mostly blocks it, like the IoT on the back of your PC. I'm talking about it blocks the trace electromagnetic signals that can be emitted by computing devices that can maybe be snooped to collect sensitive data. Overkill when you're already in a facility that uses airlock-style access? Maybe. Cool? Absolutely. And Equinix says that interest in solutions like this is only growing. Coming back to scale, it's hard to accurately say just how much traffic flows through Equinix here in Ashburn, but they did give me some rough numbers that I can share with you. There are between 1 and 300,000 strands of fiber going into their Ashburn campus buildings. With current switching technology, each of them can do somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6 terabit per second. Now, obviously not all of them are doing that all the time, but the point is that the amount of traffic that converges here is unfathomable. And providing that kind of connectivity is a uniquely Ashburn challenge that makes sense if you look at the history here. Equinix's first data center was built here in the early days of the internet to provide fair, managed communication across disparate networks. That incentivized more growth here during the cloud era, which pushed Equinix to keep up, and so on and so forth, until you ended up with the snowball effect that turned this place into data center heaven. But especially lately, there's a dark side to the data center that has been thrust into the limelight: power consumption. Now, Equinix currently sits at 96% renewable energy sources, according to them, which is pretty cool. Okay, life isn't as simple as, well, we did our part, and they're always looking for new innovations, including nuclear power partnerships, which we won't be looking at one of those today, but hint, hint, Equinix, nuclear plant. Anyway, what we can look at today is something I've never heard of before. Check these out. These are called bloom fuel cells, and while I would need a postgraduate chemistry degree to fully understand everything that's going on here, I can give you the basics. In goes some kind of fuel, like hydrogen or natural gas, and then out comes electricity with somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% efficiency, which, okay, doesn't actually sound that impressive, except that it's just about double of what you would expect from the internal combustion engine in your car. How? Well, it's because these depend on a chemical reaction rather than the combustion of that gas, releasing heat and a concentrated CO2 stream. It can be used for either situations where grid power reason of suspicion or as a backup. Now, this is just a test deployment, but they have a much larger one on the order of over 14 megawatts in California that Patrick from Server Home actually looked at fairly recently. That's worth checking out if you guys have a few minutes now that you're done watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I don't know.
Mom. Mom. Yeah, true enough. Though the big faces are more obnoxious than this. Big face, big side face here and there. They're way more obnoxious, so I think the AI garbage is more welcoming. Oh well. The biggest jungus. Brum, brum, brum. Brum, 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 brum. Yeah, someone's actually making it. Someone's actually gonna make it. Man, I was gooning for 2 months straight. Gooning for 2 months straight, and now I'm no longer straight.
Last week I made a video talking about the difficulties in getting a Doom-style game running on the Neo Geo thanks to its sprite-based architecture and the way that it kind of renders its graphics. Now, if you haven't seen that video, I do recommend you check it out before you take a look at this one. I will leave a link to that in the description below. A lot of you have watched that video and it's kind of been passed around a lot. But the interesting part about all this is that there have already been some interesting enhancements and updates to the Raycaster program that I wrote last week, kind of showing off a Raycaster-style Wolfenstein 3D style game that potentially could run on the Neo Geo. Now, if you recall, my version of that Raycaster was very unoptimized and ran at 8 frames a second or so. But the community has already come to the table with some very important updates. On Blue Sky, a developer known as Morb or Messen.Ninja was able to optimize my raycasting program to run a lot faster. It's probably at double the frame rate here. It was just some small but impactful optimizations that were done to the code base. And look how much better it runs now. It runs so much better. And I was able to pull down his changes and compile it myself and test it on my own build here. And as you can see, it runs very, very well. This is great to see because this to me does really solidify the fact that a game like Wolfenstein 3D could run on the Neo Geo without any additional hardware at all. Because if we're getting performance like this on C-base code, then with a optimized assembly language raycaster routine, it does mean that I think it opens up the door for a game like Wolfenstein. And the developer has not stopped there. He's also started to implement sprites, monsters in the game, as well as the weapon sprites in the HUD layer or in the fixed layer. And slowly but surely, this is something that I could see a 3D style raycasting game running on the Neo Geo. This is really cool, right? But it doesn't stop there. This is a little bit more interesting because another developer known as Sabino also forked my raycasting program, and he's built what is known as Doom Geo AES. Now, I had to build this for myself because I still wasn't quite sure if this was a real project, but this is what it says here. On the GitHub, it says Doom Geo AES is a Neo Geo AES research prototype that pushes Doom-like gameplay through the hardware the way the machine wants to draw. Sprite strips, pre-baked graphics, fixed layer UI, and very small runtime data. Now, if you take a look at the screenshot, this looks pretty good, right? And you can, as clear as day, see the 80 strips of sprite data being tiled across the viewport. As clear as day. This is very Neo Geo. But I kind of had to see this for myself because these screenshots kind of look too good to be true almost. If you take a look at the screenshots on the GitHub page, these look like something that you wouldn't really expect to see after a week of my video coming out. So I ended up compiling this for myself, and as you can see here, it's very early proof of concept, but it's starting to look very promising. Of course, this is still using a raycaster, so even though this is has a Doom style look about it, it's really just a Doom coat of paint, if you will. There's still inherently a lot of things that make Doom not available in this build. This is still very much a raycasting game. But as you start to move around the map here, you can see how this is all working, right? Especially when you kind of approach a wall, you can see that sprite layer, the shrink layer, really kind of kicking in. And I will say that as you approach a wall, it does kind of expand a little bit too much, and it kind of takes you out of the 3D-ness of the scene itself. But these types of things can be fixed. There's also the implementation of weapons in the game. There's also monsters have already been implemented, as well as changing out weapons and picking up keys and stuff like that. Obviously, this is still very early on in development, but this is also very encouraging. And again, this is something that runs on original hardware, on real hardware, and emulation. There's no additional hardware that is needed at this time. Now, the very clever part about Doom Geo AES is that it does take the WAD files from Doom and it converts the lumps, the player start, the doors, the secrets, the sectors, everything into a Neo Geo grid that can be run on the Neo Geo. And of course, this is something that is still very much early in development. Now, I think for me, the biggest issue that's kind of taking me out of the feeling of this being a true 3D world is the floors and the ceilings. As you can see, the floors and ceilings are static. So as you kind of move forward, the floor isn't moving with you. So it almost feels like you're suspended while the walls are moving towards you. And this is one of the things that I kind of talked about in my previous video where I said it would be difficult to implement ceilings and floors in the game. It's not impossible, and there's definitely a way to work around that. I think even if you just have pre-computed wall and floors that kind of just move towards you with pre-computed values, that may be good enough. But as it stands, this is probably the biggest omission that I'm seeing in this proof of concept build at this time. Some of the weapons have already been implemented. The fist, pistol, shotgun, chain gun, rocket launcher, plasma fire, BFG have playable runtime pass when the selected IWAD supply the matching P-sprite art. These two updates have just occurred after a week of my video coming out. So yeah, a lot of people kind of said, MVG put some bait out to see if it was possible. And look, I'm not going to deny it. There's definitely a lot of smart people out there than me that really know their way around the Neo Geo and how to optimize code and how to make things work, right? But I'm very, very encouraged about this. Look, I'm going to leave it here for today's episode. I just wanted to give you guys a follow-up to the Doom on the Neo Geo video that I did last week. And if there's more interesting updates to show you, I will definitely follow up again in the future. But I think it's just a matter of time at this point before someone out there gives us Doom on the Neo Geo. Whether that is completely stocked with additional hardware, it's still very much up in the air. But people are definitely up for the challenge, and I'm very much here to see what the results are. We're going to leave it here for today's episode, guys. I will leave links to both the things that you saw in the description below, including the GitHub repositories where you can find both. Both of these can be compiled up and tested by yourself. This is not smoke and mirrors in any capacity. But for now, guys, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Okay, what the hell is this channel anyway? Why am I getting recommended this 6 hours ago? 18K. Whatever. It's this shit again, god damn it. They never rest.
Welcome back to Slop Live. Today's Sloppy Watch Mojo is at it again. You may remember a few weeks ago I covered them crashing out in the comment section of another YouTuber. Well, it gets worse. I came upon this tweet today from Jenna Banks saying my late husband Total Biscuit being mentioned in a monetized lazy listicle video by Watch Mojo. 10 YouTubers who made videos and knew they were dying. It's tasteless enough. Plugging the AI Slop music project in it as well. Music project in it as well. Well, unforgivable. You should be ashamed. And yes, every single thing mentioned in the tweet is correct. It turns out this all came to light because of Jack's film and his community. He really is doing most lately to combat scumbags on YouTube. In his video titled Watch Mojo has hit a new lojo, he goes into a lot of detail in this video talking about the video they released called 10 YouTubers who made videos when they knew they were dying, which was already bad taste enough being monetized on YouTube. But right in between this top 10 list, as mentioned by Gemma, they also shilled their AI music slop channel. And here's what that looked like.
Causing several video games to honor Bane's legacy.
Before we continue, check out the single from Sound Mojo's album Balance. Classical music reimagined as rock hard rock, and check out the full track and album below.
In the description, they also shilled their AI music project right at the top, as well as their new Watch Mojo multiplayer game. Well, since jeopardizing this, they have now since changed their description to say that 100% of the proceeds from the video will go to the charitable initiative Mojo gives, which donates to charities including colon cancer. They also left a pinned comment saying I've made the changes requested and recognize the unintended and accidental insensitivity, saying they've also edited out the AI music promotion. Nothing quite like being held accountable. Well, in Jack's video, he also did some diving into the AI music they promoted, and it seems the person who was responsible for the crash out in the comment section a few weeks ago was also the one continually crashing out anytime people left comments about the music being AI, applying to things 3 weeks ago, such as someone saying please don't be AI, and they respond saying we understand the nature of YouTube users being fickle to receive different things, but are you saying we can't promote new formats? Seems silly. AI just allows humans to do more, and they continue to argue further in the comments. Well, it turns out this AI music was generated by a man known as Ashcan, and it turns out he is a CEO of Watch Mojo, and probably also the one typing these comments. Well, given Jack's films put attention on this whole situation, this caused a lot of people to comment on the AI music, and he's still replying to these comments now. Also worth noting, a lot of these comments arguing about AI music were made about the same time that they made their retraction on their poor taste YouTuber list video. I guess they've got their priorities in order. Someone commenting saying you can tell when the song got finished generating, Ashcan leaned back in his chair and said, oh yeah, this is it, you can't stop this. And Ashcan on the AI Sound Mojo account responded, anyone who can't appreciate this lacks taste, which is ironic because the anti-AI crowd is big on thinking they have taste. And again, we're not putting this on Watch Mojo, it's a whole other channel. The crashing out by some is indeed a music piece. And this prompted a particularly brutal response from one user saying, hey Ashcan, how does it feel knowing for a fact that your life legacy will forever be that of a ghoulish content who could never conceive something original or meaningful? Must be awful, I imagine. Hope that sensation lingers through the rest of your life. Yeah, check out Jack's video if you really want to see how deep crash outs go. And it really does beg the question, how Lojo will Watch Mojo Gojo to keep making that though. Thanks for sloppy Mojo.
What is this? I'm already. Fuck my life. Already. I need to update my program because this still says there's a New York server. They no longer have one. They no longer have one. Okay. Did I skip a bunch of videos? Go from here to here now? Wait a second. Oh, I was actually skipping. Holy shit. Somehow I went here first. For a short.
The cavalry's here.
It's a lucky day.
I can dig that.
Maybe.
Look at us. We're amazing.
That was it.
I've still got it.
Transcending. Cringe. Somebody said cringe. Well, whatever. Cringe, I guess. That's the point. Be cringe and happy about it.
I'm going to do a TLDR of the 40-minute video I did on why you should never buy a Dragonfly Energy or Battleborn battery. I know some people may not have the time to view that or read through a 28-page wiki post.
Ouch.
Imagine that you want to buy a car that's fast. You're looking at the Dodge Charger, and it's pretty fast, but the Challenger is even faster than that. You buy the Challenger, and you put your foot on the gas, and the moment that you hit 49 miles an hour, the suspension and everything just falls off the car. The transmission explodes, the engine explodes, the wheels fall off, and you have a broken car. You find this really weird because it's advertised as having a really fast 0 to 50 time, and you never even made it up to 50 miles an hour. You made it to 49 miles an hour. And you want to be fair to the company. You don't want to just criticize them without a reason. So you decide, I'm going to buy an entirely new car. I'm not going to use it at all. I'm going to put my camera up. I'm going to film what happens when I go 49 miles an hour. You film it, and when you get to 49 miles an hour the second time, the car explodes again. The engine, the transmission, the wheels fall off, and everything else. You post your video showing that this car that has a very fast advertised 0 to 50 speed cannot make it to 49 miles an hour without the wheels falling off. And then you get sued by Dodge. Dodge tells you that you are misrepresenting the car. The car is not supposed to go 50 miles an hour. It's only advertised to be able to go 37.5 miles an hour. And because of that, you have abused their name, and they are suing you for trade libel. They want to ruin your reputation. Not only that, but they tell you that the car exploding when you get to 49 miles an hour is not a bug. It's a feature. It's there to protect you when you abuse the car by using it in a way you're not supposed to. This is exactly what Dragonfly Energy did. Meet Will Prowse. Will Prowse does reviews of batteries. This is a 100 amp hour battery. Will Prowse bought this battery and he's testing it at 49 amps. While he's testing the battery at 49 amps, it starts melting, oxidizing, and everything just starts going to shit. Then he gets a lawsuit from the company claiming that his testing is intentionally abusive and invalid. The abuse is demonstrated in the video, and the company released data included the charge current was simultaneously 49 amps, 30% over the 37.5 amp maximum specified in the manual. And then when you look at the manual, you'll see that it does say 37.5 amps. However, at the time that Will made his video, it was 50 amps. So they changed the specification on their site, and then they tried to make you seem like you were crazy, even though you were using it within specification. What's further disgusting here, and what I missed and that you're pointing out in the video, is that Will actually is testing the 100 amp hour battery, which if you take a look at their website to this fucking day is still advertised in their own documentation as being capable of 50 amps in charging specs. So their current specifications are that this battery can do 50 amps. They're referring to a smaller battery than the one that Will tested. So they're saying that he abused the battery, which is a 100 amp hour battery, by charging it at 50 amps. This is a 100 amp hour battery, and he was charging it at 50 amps. They're claiming that he's abusing it. Not only is their 100 amp hour battery supposed to be able to do 50 amps, even their smaller battery used to be advertised as being able to do 50 amps. This is like a Dodge Charger being advertised as being able to do 0 to 50 in 5 seconds. And then when you go 0 to 49 in the Hellcat Challenger and you try to do that in 6 seconds, they tell you you're abusing the car. That's ridiculous. The Hellcat Challenger is supposed to be faster than the Charger. The same way that a 100 amp hour battery of the same series should be more capable than the 75 amp hour battery of the same series. And even if that was not the case, the 75 amp hour battery of the same series was advertised as having a max charge current of 50 amps. They simply were not able to scrub enough of the evidence before they put together this ridiculous lawsuit. In my opinion, they decided to change the specifications of the battery right before suing Will so that they can make it seem like he was abusing the battery when in fact he was using it according to specifications. Further making this even worse is when you take a look at their other advertising materials, you'll see that they've changed even more. If you take a look at the same model battery and you look at the half-second surge load, it used to be advertised for loads over 500 amps, and now it's advertised for loads over 200 amps. Not only did this company lie, but they are too stupid to scrub the evidence that they lied from the internet. And instead of actually trying to fix the fact that their batteries melt, they are claiming that this is a safety feature. Now imagine if Dodge told you that that is not a bug, it's a feature. The Hellcat Challenger is supposed to have its transmission melt and its engine explode if you go over 49 miles an hour to protect it from abuse. That's what this company did. They're actually making the claim that all this oxidation and the melting and everything that's going wrong with these batteries, with the temperatures going up over 200 to 300 degrees on them, is not because it's a bug. They're saying that that's a feature to protect you. This is akin to saying that the wires melting in your wall or the bus bar becoming discolored and burning and oxidizing inside your electrical panel is a safety feature. Forget about the fact that we have breakers and millions of other pieces of technology that can be used for this. We're choosing to have the components oxidize and melt inside of a lithium battery as a safety feature. It's obvious upon a quick look why they're deciding to do this rather than recall the battery. When you take a look at their company financials, they lose between $40 to $70 million per year. The company has a total equity of around $10 to $30 million while losing $40 to $70 million per year, and the CEO is paying himself about $600,000 a year while all this is happening. In my opinion, he's looking for a golden parachute while the company tanks, and he's looking to make as much money for himself while avoiding any liability. This company does not have the ability, in my opinion, financially, to be able to actually support people, re-engineer their products, or cover them under warranty because they have no money and they have no profit. They're not able to replace these batteries under warranty because if they started replacing them under warranty, the company is going to go under. And I think that they have an understanding of the fact that that is the case because when you take a look at their warranty obligations, you'll notice they continue to go up year after year, in spite of the fact that sales have been trending downwards. So they're selling less batteries, yet in their 10K, they've gone from $307,000 to $514,000 to $867,000 in warranty obligations. Warranty obligations means what it's going to cost the company to provide warranty to users that are returning their batteries within the warranty period. This is not a company that provides proper support. This is not a company that properly engineers their products. And above all, they're changing the numbers on their spec sheets retroactively so that they can make it look like honest reviews were done improperly. Don't let them get away with it. There are many other batteries that you can buy in the same field that are going to do a great job, and you can check out Will's channel and many other channels on YouTube that are going to review those batteries honestly, show you their quality, and show you that for the same price you can do much better and get something that is not dangerous for your home, your RV, your boat, or anything else. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now. Branco, negro, amarelo. No vídeo de hoje eu vou revelar o mistério de qual era a cor da pele do primeiro ser humano, com base em estudos mais recentes sobre as nossas origens. Será que a diversidade enorme de cores de pele que a gente vê hoje sempre existiu? Ou será que tudo começou com uma cor que originou todas as outras? O primeiro Homo sapiens que surgiu na África era negro como as pessoas que vivem lá hoje ou era branco? Para entender tudo sobre a evolução da nossa característica mais marcante, eu preciso te contar o que define biologicamente a cor da nossa pele. Olha esse mapa aí que mostra a distribuição das cores de pele dos seres humanos de cada região do mundo. Você consegue ver um padrão? As cores de pele mais escuras tendem a se concentrar na região onde tem tem mais incidência de luz solar próxima à linha do Equador. E essa relação entre o Sol e a cor da pele não é coincidência, porque a molécula da pigmentação da pele, a melanina, também funciona como protetor solar natural. Ela absorve a luz ultravioleta do Sol, impedindo os danos do DNA e que as células queimem com facilidade. A melanina é produzida por células chamadas melanócitos, que ficam espalhadas pelos olhos, pelo corpo cabeludo e, claro, pela pele. Depois de fabricar melanina, os melanócitos empacotam esse pigmento em pequenas cápsulas microscópicas e distribuem esse material para as células ao redor. Como se os melanócitos fossem fábricas de tinta e as demais células fossem receber essa pintura aos poucos. Com exceção dos albinos, que não produzem melanina por questões genéticas. Ou de quem tem alguma doença que destrói os melanócitos, como vitiligo, todos nós produzimos melanina. Mas a diferença entre o europeu mais branco do norte da Finlândia, o sul-africano mais retinto, o asiático e o indígena, está no tipo e na quantidade de melanina que os melanócitos produzem. Existem dois tipos principais de melanina no corpo. A eumelanina tem a tonalidade marrom escura ou preta, ela é mais eficiente em absorver a radiação solar. Quanto maior a proporção de melanina, mais escura tende a ser a pele, os olhos e os cabelos. Já a feomelanina tem tons mais amarelados ou avermelhados. Ela está mais associada a características como cabelos ruivos, sardas e também a cores esverdeadas dos olhos. Agora, nos casos em que os melanócitos produzem muito pouco, os dois tipos de melanina, a baixa pigmentação gera uma pele bem clara, cabelos loiros ou olhos azuis. E aí, já dá pra verificar que tipo de melanina predomina no seu corpo, embaixo. Interessante que os genes que controlam a produção de melanina nos melanócitos trabalham de forma independente na pele, no cabelo e nos olhos. É por isso que uma pessoa que tem a pele escura com muita melanina pode ter olhos claros com mais feomelanina, assim como pessoas mais brancas podem ter olhos escuros e cabelos pretos. A melanina de um lugar não influencia o outro. E a proporção e a quantidade dos tipos de melanina é que vai produzir uma diversidade enorme de tons de pele, uma das características mais marcantes do ser humano, tanto que vira motivo de orgulho ou, infelizmente, preconceito. Pelo menos é isso que vemos hoje. Mas será que sempre fomos assim tão diversos? Qual é a cor do primeiro ser humano? A resposta veio quando os cientistas olharam para onde o Homo sapiens surgiu. Os fósseis mais antigos da nossa espécie, o Homo sapiens, foram encontrados no continente africano, datados de 200 a 300 mil anos atrás. Ainda está em aberto exatamente qual foi o berço da humanidade, o local onde nós surgimos. Alguns fósseis muito antigos foram descobertos onde hoje fica a Etiópia e o Quênia. Por muito tempo acreditou que a gente vindo lá, mas outros fósseis mais antigos estavam em Marrocos, então a gente não sabe exatamente. Mas independente do país exato, o fato é que nós surgimos e dominávamos o continente africano. Só que viver na África 300 mil anos atrás não é exatamente fácil. Era só intenso, savana aberta, calor o dia inteiro, e a sobrevivência dependia de uma coisa: correr por horas atrás de uma presa ou fugir do predador. E a hipótese mais aceita sobre as mudanças corporais que nós passamos a sofrer até chegar até nós, que permitiu a sobrevivência ambiente, foi a perda de pelos do nosso corpo. O excesso de pelo impede a dissipação do calor corporal, pode superaquecer o corpo até matar. Com menos pelo, o Homo sapiens conseguia suar e dissipar calor com muito mais eficiência. Geração após geração, os ancestrais com menos pelos sobreviviam melhor e foram passando esse traço adiante. Mas qual a relação entre a perda dos pelos e a cor da pele? Pois é, se você raspar o pelo de um chimpanzé, que você encontra uma pele levemente pigmentada, quase rosa, é provável que os nossos ancestrais unidos antes do Homo sapiens, como o Australopithecus e o Homo erectus, que ainda tinham pelos, tivessem uma pele mais clara. Mas quando esses pelos foram sumindo no caso do Homo sapiens, a pele clara fica exposta diretamente ao sol da África, o que é uma condição praticamente impossível e incompatível com a vida. A radiação UV extrema causaria queimaduras e danos no DNA das células da pele. E tem também um efeito ainda mais grave que passa percebido. A radiação UV degrada o ácido fólico, um nutriente essencial para a formação do embrião e produção de células do sangue. Sem ácido fólico suficiente, o ser humano desenvolveria anemia severa e a mulher não conseguiria gerar filhos saudáveis. Na prática, a pele clara exposta, nossa espécie teria se extinguido antes mesmo de se consolidar. Por isso que geração após geração, ao longo de centenas de milhares de anos, quem tinha a pele mais escura foi sendo selecionado, sobrevivia mais e tinha mais filhos. E aí, quando o Homo sapiens já tinha surgido como espécie, a pele negra já era o padrão. Era simplesmente a única opção viável para viver naquela região. Só que se os primeiros humanos eram negros, como surgiu toda a diversidade que vemos hoje? Qual é a explicação para a pele branca e os diferentes tons de pele? Eu não sei vocês, mas viajar no tempo e buscar das nossas origens é algo que realmente me fascina. Eu fico imaginando os primeiros Homo sapiens se escondendo de leões e hienas, se preocupando com as crianças enquanto elas brincavam na savana africana, em meio a elefantes e giraffas. Em um tempo muito longe de celular e computador, nossos ancestrais estavam lá, se relacionando, procurando comida. O que será que eles pensavam? Você também tem essas viagens de vez em quando? A sorte é que você não precisa. Agora, se todos os seres humanos Homo sapiens surgiram com a pele negra, pode descobrir como surgiu a pele mais clara. Até pouco tempo atrás, a resposta para essa pergunta parecia ser padrão. O ser humano saiu da África, migrou para regiões mais frias, onde o sol, e a pele foi clareando para facilitar a produção de vitamina D, que é essencial para a vida. Faz sentido pensar assim. A vitamina D é produzida pela interação a vitamina D é produzida pela interação da luz do sol com o colesterol da nossa pele. Em uma pele muito escura, a grande quantidade de melanina vai absorver parte dessa radiação solar antes que ela consiga penetrar mais profundamente na pele para produzir vitamina D. Inclusive, por isso que pessoas negras têm que tomar muito cuidado quando vão para países muito frios, então norte ou sul, elas produzem menos vitamina D. No passado, pessoas com a pele escura que saíram da África, por exemplo, poderiam sobreviver menos nos ambientes mais ao norte, não seriam selecionados pela evolução. Mas o que estudos muito recentes mostraram é que essa história estava no mínimo incompleta. A hipótese da vitamina D continua, mas hoje os cientistas sabem que genes associados à pele clara já existiam dentro da própria África muito antes da grande migração do Homo sapiens para a Europa para a Ásia. Ou seja, a pele branca ela não nasceu na Europa, ela nasceu na África, nos genes dos primeiros humanos. Tanto que dentro da própria África existem populações até hoje com tons de pele extremamente diferentes.
Entre si.
Um tom de pele extremamente diferente entre si, com uma variação maior do que a diferença entre um africano e um europeu. Você sabe disso? É porque a África é um continente gigante e a parte do sul não recebe tanta incidência solar quanto o norte. Quando vamos falar do leste africano, com a tribo Muxi, possuem tons de pele mais escuros já registrados. Grupos como o San, no sul da África, podem ter tons muito mais claros. Outra descoberta incrível é que a pele branca, como a dos europeus que nós conhecemos hoje, é muito recente na história. Um estudo de 2025 parece recente. Ele analisou o DNA de ossos humanos encontrados na Europa e na Ásia e viu que até 3 mil anos atrás a pele escura ainda dominava, era a maioria das pessoas. A pele clara só começou a aparecer mais depois disso. Mas por quê? Como a população com a pele mais escura sobrevivia lá sem produzir tanta vitamina D, temos essa hipótese, tá? A primeira explicação é que os Homo sapiens que chegaram à Europa eram caçadores-coletores. Eles não cultivavam próprio alimento, não tinham agricultura. Eles comiam muita carne e peixe gorduroso. Fontes naturalmente ricas em vitamina D. Mesmo a pele escura, eles conseguiam a vitamina D que o corpo precisava pela alimentação e não foram eliminados pela evolução. Então a pele escura teve lá no tempo por causa disso. Foi só uma chegada na Europa de populações
Oh, my VPN. Oh, my VPN being so slow. I'm not paying for one, goddammit.
de pele mais claras, vindas da Turquia e da Rússia, que ela começou a se misturar e ser lentamente selecionada porque era de fato mais vantajosa em um ambiente de baixa incidência solar. Essas pessoas da Turquia e Rússia tinham pele clara porque essas já eram populações de agricultores que tinham dieta sem muito peixe, sem vitamina D. Ou seja, a principal hipótese hoje é que o gene para a pele branca foi selecionado nessas populações e depois propagado para todo mundo. Ele não teria surgido na Europa. A verdade é que a cor da pele é um dos traços mais diversos que existem no ser humano. Sabemos que o ser humano nasceu negro no continente africano, mas pelo menos 26 genes já foram traçados à melanina e identificados com relevância para definir a pigmentação. E o número continua crescendo. Mesmo no continente africano, a diversidade há 300 anos já era enorme. Cada uma dessas combinações de genes produzidas essa diversidade foi sendo sorteada, selecionada ou eliminada pela evolução ao longo de centenas de milhares de anos. Em resposta, o único grupo que comia quando o sol recebia e com quem se relacionava. Inclusive, essa última parte vale mencionar. Nos primeiros anos de Homo sapiens, a gente não se misturava só com outras nossas espécies, nós somos casados com neandertais, denisovanos e outras espécies de seres humanos que a ciência ainda está descobrindo. A cor da pele, que hoje já é tanto racismo e discriminação, no início da nossa história, era só um detalhe pequeno diante de diferenças muito maiores. E ainda bem que nós estamos aqui para contar essa história. Se você gostou desse vídeo diferente sobre a evolução humana, me conta nos comentários. O que mais você quer saber sobre esse assunto? Caso goste de curiosidades, eu te recomendo esse vídeo aqui sobre a pele do Michael Jackson. O que aconteceu com ele? Ele nasceu negro e de repente ficou branco. Um grande abraço, vamos colorir o mundo com conhecimento e diga olá ciência. Tchau. Let me see the thumbnail. Only the thumbnail. Whatever the curves.
Throughout my long life of living, what a cruise.
Oh my fucking god, hold on.
Cruise makes stories over the years. As many stories which would be great to share, great for views on youtube.com. And yet I don't.
Okay, whatever.
don't share them all, because no one's going to be wanting to make news stories with you down the road if they think you're just going to be spreading all that shit online for all the world to see, right? But you see, sometimes there's certain events that occur which make you no longer feel any impediments towards telling stories. Stories which may be otherwise better left unsaid. Well, today, let me tell you, about 2 years ago, I was in Libya for a friend's wedding, Benghazi, of all places. But on the way back, though, I had a layover in Cairo, 14 hours. I was entitled to a free hotel, and let me be telling you, a 14-hour layover, I sorely needed that, okay? Oh, I wanted to off myself. But you see, that free hotel I was entitled to, it was 3 feet across the street, and so the Egyptian government would not let me fucking go. They robbed me of my entitlements because they had a requirement for visas for Canadians, some tit-for-tat bullshit, but we required it for them, and now they're like, fuck you, let me require one for you. And you want to know what I had to do? I had to sleep in the fucking smoking room, okay? It was just me and a bunch of Arabs ripping darts and me nodding off in the corner, sorely in need of a shower. Holy Jesus, 14 hours, I wanted to fucking die. And so for that $100 you saved, Egypt, let me divulge every document and artifact I stole from the Egyptian embassy in Ottawa. This is real. Should give me my fucking hotel room.
Let me take you down, 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 down.
And so before we get going here today, let me tell you a story about how I ended up finding this embassy. You see, I was on this first date with a girl, maybe the best first date of all time. You see, we ended up meeting up at 10:30 a.m. or so for coffee after meeting on a stairwell at a house party a few days prior. It ended up going like 15, 16 fucking hours. It was great. At the end of the day, I remember I was walking her home and she's like, I used to love growing up exploring abandoned buildings. I'm like, no way, me too. I bet we could find one here in Sandy Hill, Ottawa, where all of the students live. It's a student ghetto for you, Ottawa. But also, it's where all the embassies are, right? I didn't have that in mind at the time, but as I said, oh, I bet we could find one here today. I look over yonder, I'm like, a broken window, no way. I bet that's one there. And so we go poke and prod at the door. She swings right open, and I'm looking inside. I'm like, what's all the Iraqi flags? I'm so embarrassed to say. I'm a vexillologist at heart, okay? But I thought the flags were Iraq, okay? Anyway, we get chased out by a homeless dude, as is tradition in Ottawa, but she's holding me there on the sidewalk. I'm like, you see anyone? Somehow that never came up. And she's like, I am. What? What do you mean you're seeing who? For the best. But I kept those flags in mind. I'm like, that was bizarre. What is with all these flags? And so a few nights later, different house party, I'm like, yo guys, and I told the story. Let's go check that shit out. And so we go in there, you know, just like a dozen drunk guys. Going through, I'm like, those flags aren't Iraq. Oh fuck, that's Egypt. Why is there a bunch of Egyptian flags everywhere? And there's a bunch of Arabic writing all over the walls. It looked like some schizophrenic Arab dude must have been living there. Going through, I'm like, okay, dead rat in the toilet. What the hell's with all these shredded documents in the bathtub for? This is bizarre. Reach down onto the ground. I'm like, what's this? It's a manila envelope. I'm like, Embassy of the Arab Republic of Egypt, 454 Laurier Avenue East. Wait, what address do we have right now? I look at Google Maps, 454 Laurier Avenue East. Holy fucking shit, this is the Egyptian embassy? Huh? It's abandoned, though. I mean, that explains the shredded documents, I guess. Still, though, what the fuck? Anyway, everything that wasn't bolted down to the ground, I'm like, holy shit, look at this fucking presidential portrait of Mubarak, okay? Holy Jesus, Hosni, get over here. You're coming home with me tonight. But what else have I stolen from this embassy? Now, I don't know what the hell ended up happening here. Who the fuck abandons an embassy like this, okay? But you should count your lucky stars that it was me and not someone else who ended up pilfering all of this plunder. Because some of this shit here, you will be aghast. It was left just for anyone to come through and take or look at. For starters, surprisingly nice book. The Qatar Katrina Fund, dedicated to the 100 mil or so that Qatar ended up donating to Katrina after the hurricane ripped through there. And I think it could be summed up by the very end here, where sponsored by Raytheon. It says, on the back spine here, Americans shouldn't forget their friends. The people of the Gulf Coast certainly won't forget Qatar. I'm sure Qatar is really thankful America didn't forget its friends today, eh? Anyway, what else we got here? Get the fuck out of here. Hey, get the fuck out of here. Where were we? The letterhead that made me realize, oh shit, this is where I am, the Egyptian embassy. Found inside of it this old field manual. It looks like it's from the 1920s and they fished it out of the goddamn Sahara Desert. Basically, it's just a guidebook on how diplomats are supposed to handle the country that they're in and their laws come into conflict with Egypt. And I think it's pretty smart. Obviously, you want them to know when certain laws don't apply. Like, for example, if you're in the UN, don't pay parking tickets. What are they gonna do about it? Or, you know, you hit and run someone, just run home to your country of origin. You're good. What are they gonna do about it? I'm sure that's in there somewhere. Oh, also, actually, I think there was some other thing in here. Yeah, oh, the Egyptian government's checkbook. Yeah, I have the Egyptian government's checkbook. What are you gonna do about it? No, I assume it's been expired for like...
Another truck. And... There.
half a decade at this point. Honestly, I don't really know how checks work. I just know I get angry when I get them. But, you know, beyond grandmas and shit, I do find they are a great novelty gift. Like my friend Wes here, he had a birthday, and I'm like, fuck Wes, happy birthday. Here's $1 million from the Egyptian government.
Nope. Every time the video increases the bit rate,
I've never tried
it just
them, and they
nope.
should be thankful a guy like me found them and not someone willing to commit a little bit of check fraud. Speaking of other shit they should be lucky I'm the one to find, I'm gonna have to blur this, but a log of every single person that has ever entered and exited the Egyptian embassy from 2008 to 2014. I shit you not, I just have a record, a perfect record, to the minute of any time anyone entered and exited the embassy, what their social insurance number is, their passport number, name, date of birth, why they were there, and details about every visit. I just have this. And I really gotta wonder, what the fuck were the documents that were shredded in the bathtub, right? Because if you're leaving shit like this lying around, what the fuck was worth shredding? It's crazy. Who knows? Anyway, here's a... Hello.
Oh, are you filming?
All right, I guess I'll wrap this up for today, but... Well, this is an export development loan to the Egyptian Railway for... How much was it? For 15 locomotives to be bought from General Motors of Canada. And for all the train autists out there, the specific model was the 2475-2250 horsepower model JT22MC diesel electric locomotive with related parts. Isn't that nice? For 16 million Canadian dollars, and for all the finance autists out there, the interest rate was 10.5%. Jeez, okay, sorry for the interruptions. Anyway, as I was saying, so there's this book next from the Egyptian government for their military. It's a yearly report. It's essentially the yearbook, and it feels as such. Reading through it, it literally looks like a goddamn yearbook for what the fuck the Egyptian government got up to that year. And some of the shit they divulge in here is absolutely absurd. For example, boys, I don't think I'd be fucking just saying we got new encrypted comms networks this year so that we could talk without the Israelis hearing, and then detailing the specific Motorola make and model. That seems rather goddamn insane to me. But, you know, I guess that's just what you do in the Egyptian military, which I keep conflating them with the government because it really is both. They are one and the same. That was actually the big disappointment of my boy Mubarak over here, the old president of Egypt. It's honestly a tragedy when you talk to Egyptians abroad. They're always lamenting how his son wasn't the one to take over from him when the Arab Spring sprung, because they thought it would have been so good to have a non-military, college-educated leader for a change. Pretty sad when your society is longing for the bloodline monarchy, essentially. Quite the contraptions they got going. Like, I see at one point they're saying, install American Sidewinder missiles to Russian MiGs. They seem really enthused with the whole using computer viruses and counter-electronic operations as a concept. Again, listing the exact make and models. Again, why would you do this? They also list all of the different competitions and shit that they get up to throughout the year. Like, they got religious competitions here. The Prophet's birthday competition. I don't know how much this relates to the military, but they report the winners every year, which is hilarious. It really feels like they're all just in high school. Some of the torturous shit they get the recruits up to, too. They got here paratroopers during a 300-kilometer march while wearing chemical protective gear. Imagine being stuck out in the Sahara sun, dripped out in fucking level A hazmat protective gear, having to march 300K. My goodness, okay? I like how their border unit also reports on how many different seizures there were. 31 tons of smuggled fish and shrimp seized. Oh, they also recovered 12 individuals who lost their way in the desert for 4 days while on a tourist trip. I'm really enjoying here the way that they refer to the new housing they developed for trainees in the military. Like this one Soviet commie apartment block here is titled, "In God's Name, Non-Commissioned Officers Housing." In God's name, indeed. Like how they also have here a dedicated page discussing contracted North Korean slave labor to help excavate shit and different antiquities. Oh, and they're also bragging about building a refrigerator of 1,000 tons at the cost of 3.6 million pounds. I don't know, it sounds like more than 1,000 tons. They're also reporting on ways to raise morale among the troops, one of which is by making a bunch of propaganda videos about their glorious victory of October. So weird to see them openly discussing, oh yeah, new KPI for the year, 3 different propaganda films made. Like they're just, this feels like something you wouldn't discuss. Really should have fucking earmarked these pages, goddamn. I thought they were called Arabic numerals. There's no fucking Arabic numerals here. Like what kind of chicken scratch shit is this? What, you guys switched it up? Ah yes, page number pop? Like come on. Was that Saddam Hussein? Hold up, swear I just saw Saddam. All right. All right. Look, okay, if I'm gonna be admitting to all these other crimes, let's add some more onto the pile, shall we? Because, you know, back in the day, I was a little bit of an onion farmer, one could say, right? I was on the darknet, as one does, looking for any way I could to spend Bitcoin on its intended use case, right? Magic internet back in the day, on the darknet, remaining secure via Tor, and Tails too for the size movers among you. But if there's one thing none of us could do without, it is Proton Mail. Back then, just came out, but it is totally beyond that now. They got a whole suite of privacy tools. Take the VPN, for example. I always hear people doing the ad roll for it, but I never hear them talk about some of the best parts. For example, data usage on my cell phone down double digits. It goes beyond that too. I mean, you already know about the whole Netflix in foreign countries shit. Copyright infringement. You wouldn't download a car. Christ, I downloaded every goddamn season of Game of Thrones from day one. And on the final season, I suddenly got this pop-up that I didn't even know an ISP could do on your computer, but it was a pop-up from Eastlink. Nova.
Wait, what? I mean, or yep, that's why you always VPN your way to become free. God damn it.
On your computer, but it was a pop-up from Eastlink, Nova Scotian internet. We see you pirating Game of Thrones. Knock it off, bucko, or else we're gonna have to rat on you. So I just turned on Proton VPN from then on out, and suddenly no more notifications. Your ISP could really see everything you do. Top-level domain that you connect to, they got you. Go to protonvpn.com/netloss, and you'll get, what, 65% off? I fucking forget, but it's a good goddamn deal. I've been a subscriber for over a decade, and for once, you are being served as a customer instead of being served up on a silver platter to the guys trying to screw you over. And so if you don't give me a good fucking conversion rate on this goddamn ad, I'm gonna get you, okay? You better be using Proton, because I'm gonna find you otherwise. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna.
No matter if it's faster, I'm still using the VPN.
Yo, Saddam Hussein cameo. I expected him to be kind of lying down like this. You know, it is funny as well. They're bragging about their criminal monitoring department. They're like, yes, after their sentences conclude, we have our team of FBI agents with the latest technology. It's just a bunch of CRT monitors. It's like, yeah, we have them monitoring the criminals after their sentence ends so that we can make sure they stay on the right path. Openly showing all of the direct and indirect covert communication devices for filming of events and advanced technical capability. That just straight up looks like a gun. I don't know what the fuck you're hiding with that. They also have their CIA essentially, and the reading list is quite telling of the times. Egyptian relations with the US in the wake of the USSR falling, Palestine, a state or refugee people, and its impact on the Egyptian Arab national strategy regarding Israel's rejection of the principle of a Palestinian state and its pursuit of its grand dream from the Nile to the Euphrates. The role of the Zionist lobby in Soviet decision-making circles and the promotion of Jewish immigration to Israel and the possibility of Arab-Egyptian action to reduce its efforts. The future of water in the Middle East. A history of the Israeli army. The future of the alliance in NATO from a French perspective. History of Israeli intelligence, bracket imperfect spies. Number 8, the hidden bomb. Israel and Latin America. And then there's a whole subfield of periodicals on Israeli affairs, such as the Palestinian question. Again, more focus on the Soviet-Israeli angle and Zionist influence within the Soviet government. They also have a section here on the most important achievements during 1990. I don't know if this is generally or just for some specific sub-part of the government. 14 semi-automated bread production lines were procured to complete the plan for equipping and developing bread production use in the armed forces. That was the most important achievement for Egypt in the year 1990, apparently. Again, the installation of a 1,000-ton refrigerator, second most important. The third most was a pasta factory. Fuck is this all food focused for? It must be for the food department of the military. They also have a tact scope device which measures attention span, observation skills, and memory of new military recruits. The fuck that? All right, fuck the military yearbook. We're done with the yearbook, okay? Now on to the meat of the subject today, all right? That's right, we're looking at the NATO folder. Egypt's not in NATO, by the way. Why do they have a folder called NATO? Who's to say? Let's find out. Just beforehand, I know there's some other random loose documents I found here. Like, a lot of it relates to passport procedures passports and shit. Also, a bunch of prayers, more regulations around issuing new passports, more passport shit. Anyway, NATO folder. Israel invasion plans. Is that what that is? Israel, look, it's just a fucking map of the Middle East showing huge new borders for Israel. And if you translate what the name of this document is, it's called Zionist Settlements in Iraq. Woe to a nation that does not read. And I'm just trying to read what the hell this says. I mean, one, it's in Arabic, but it's for some sort of scholarship shit. Like, it says that there's like a scholarship involved, and the president of the scholarship selection committee is either being sent this or sending this to someone. And it's just, it feels like a middle school assignment. It's very bizarre. And it has giant borders around Israel. The meat of the article essentially is something about a Zionist collab with the Kurds, settle and occupy Iraq in a broad scheme to make, greater Israel, I think. I can't fucking read Arabic. Apparently this is from some online journal from 2009. Either way, all around, just very bizarre shit going around. Reading the final page here, which has the dude's email on it, it sounds like this is like a commentary doc. Woe to the nation that does not read. It's just a bunch of Israeli leader quotes about creating greater Israel or some shit. And then it starts quoting, this Arab expatriate who enjoys a quiet and peaceful life in Canada writes with the prior and certain knowledge that Arab rulers do not read, either because they're half nations or because they got no time to read. Therefore, he writes for those who do read, and for them indeed. And that is the reminder, faithful martyr, how difficult it is to remain silent about the truth, except in the grave. Editor Murad at bell.net. I can't tell, is the scholarship committee writing this, drafting it? I don't know. But either way, apparently somewhere out there in Canada, there is some sort of national press club with a scholarship committee Eid Murad once was writing for or controlling about a decade ago, sending emails to each other about woe to the nation who does not read, with Zionist conspiracies for the settlement of Iraq in a grand scheme to make greater Israel and conquer the Middle East. I don't know what the fuck scholarship is being given out for Jewish conspiracies, but hey, if you got some, I guess they're giving money. But regardless, after the Jewish conspiracies, what else we got here, huh? More visa shit. Also, there's a French end times call to repent, and it seems to be written from a Christian perspective. Again, I don't know what the fuck. It reads like a middle school document. This seems like something I was assigned when I was in middle school French class. Very bizarre all around, but the real nugget today hidden amongst this stash is what I am convinced could only conceivably be read as some sort of espionage, a spy letter, because otherwise this is the most innocuous, inane bullshit I have ever read in my life. I cannot imagine a human being wasting their time sending, writing, or receiving and reading this. It can only be interpreted in my mind as something more than it appears to be. Let me read this to you. Dear Gab and Dr. S, cannot help but pass on some good thoughts to you. I have pushed all day. In a moment of deliberation, I found myself short and tired. That is not what I am going to share with you, though. I send on some humor, and I am still short, and I still think that good thoughts and some love travel the best between us. I put some more prints in the mail. I asked questions, wrote assertions, took a nap that is going to make me have a long, thought-filled night. I ate cold Chinese food and thought about not being quite so strange. Imagine that. I had a couple lovely bits of cold pizza, and I wondered what it would ever be like to rise up out of this internment that I have been producing in. I may one day eat better, walk around without eccentricities that show up in striped socks or wild hair. Not yet, but who knows what's in my future, huh? My dear Brit is probably breaking up with the young man that she's living with. Honestly, I've expected this. I have to be a more attentive mom. Yes, I've gone through this long distance with her more than once. One time, it was 2 a.m. when she called. I put on my sweater and boots and sat all night. After another call that she made around the same time, told me if I did not take her call, she would become an American statistic. I think she means offing herself or some shit. I hope they both adore me as much as I have spent assets on adoring them. I offer you some humor. Last year, my mom asked me to help her put on a new toilet seat. We worked so hard, and nothing was working between us. She laughed and asked me, how many Norwegians does it take to get a toilet seat on? Today, we set a trap for a woodchuck. I share with you the picture of the two of us holding our own with an empty trap in the backyard. Humor is a part of wellness. Laughing and knowing the kick it gives our heart is essential when something tries our body or our spirits. I wish for you, Dr. S, great humor and good health. Took Tolstoy, 15 years to write it down. Victor Cousins has, to me, done it best, though. And then in brackets, there are 16 copies of this Victor Cousins' French philosopher writings in the States, all under lock and key. Elaine Scarry's book on beauty and being just is worth looking at. If you are interested, I will send my copy. Other things that I believe are terribly important, as any one part of us is under duress, are fantasy and intelligence. I suggest Robert Shattuck, Boston University, and Robert Rudin, Eugene, Oregon. You have some wonderful people to meet with them, and good winning over evil always helps. If The Wicker Wars would get published, I'd send you a copy. The story wrote about children, neighbors, and someone's needing a crown, and a few tears that had to be seen so that the children's play of war could end. Like love, peace is both elegant and primary. Like peace, love, and friendship are couriers for the human in each of us. How can we become each other's reminders, I wonder? The next story that wrote itself is about the Sleeping Beauty, the sleep of what we can stay in and what we have to decide to move out of. It is a beautiful and sincere story. The third story is called Cold Soup. I began it 25 years ago. I think it's about affections finding us. There's a woodcutter, a found baby girl, a doe, 2 rabbits, a dog named Lear, and a widow fair that make up the cast. I send this one to you to share a gentleness that I have when doing writing. Get well, eat silly foods, giggle before any gossip, get better pillows for the top of your bed. That is all I know to share right now. Love to you. P.S. It crosses my mind to quit and find a way to just do simple good living. My second choice, be around people that are thinking together because there's something that they are individually invested in that might make a difference. I think about finding out more about the think tank at Princeton University. I either work with my need for mindedness or I feed the simplest forms of my common appetites. What do you think about that? What do you think about that letter, huh? I don't know if this is what people used to do back in 2002. Maybe they just sent bullshit, waste of time letters like this to each other. Who's to say? Either way, all I'm saying is, like, when you're talking about digging more into this Princeton think tank and about these weird flowery stories you write, thinking about the future, talking about, like, it just feels like coded language, okay? I know it's conceivable that it's all innocuous bullshit and it doesn't mean anything. I know I could be reading way too deeply into what could very well be a fucking letter from Paula to Gab and Dr. S, okay? I get that, but I want to believe, okay? I'm convinced that this is some spy communique. You can't convince me otherwise, okay? Anyway. Fuck, dude, I do want Domino's now. How could you do this to me?
I can order it. I can order it. I can order it. I can order it.
What else we got in the NATO doc? We have a meeting for the High Commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago. Subject is Carnival cruise ship trip. Okay. We also have a money order made to Sascan Pulse Trading for $82 in exchange for 25 kilogram bags of 8mm chickpeas. 110 metric tons for $82? What? That can't be correct. Also, they have this Mohammed Mahana, who that is, but it's some embassy worker. Bro, your whole shit is just constantly strewn about this embassy. If you are still around, I just want to let you know that it's safe with me, and by safe I mean no one will ever see these, because they could easily steal your identity if they so chose. Also, we have the post-Arab Spring draft constitution from October of 2012. When the Arab Spring happened and he went to jail, and then what else followed. It is funny how the Egyptian embassy staff there would conceive of this. Like, what was the reaction to the Arab Spring? Your government got overthrown and a new one put in place. This draft constitution they wanted to spring upon people is pretty shitty. Sharia law. If I'm gonna pick which sort of system to live under, we also have the Wi-Fi password and their old list of contacts for various shit. More letterhead, embassy docs. Oh, also, holy shit, I found a fatwa hidden amongst these docs. You know, one of those religious decrees. And this one was a fatwa ruling on the proper prayer direction in North America for Muslims. And all I'm gonna say is I want to issue a counter, okay? That, not okay. Generally worship in the vague direction of Mecca. You don't even gotta do that, they're saying. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine, just worship in the southeast direction and that's good enough. What the fuck? Do you want to know what I know? Mecca is that way. I know this, I'm not even Muslim. Mecca is that way. If I know this and I'm not reverted to Islam, why the fuck are they saying it's okay for Muslims to not care where Mecca is? You gotta pray to Mecca 5 times a day. It's one thing if you're traveling, but if you're actually living somewhere, how the fuck do you have any excuse not to know the cardinal direction of Mecca? It's that way, by the way. And fuck it, I'm reverting. Where's the Imam? Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. Bismillah, you're Muslim now. counterfactual. Fuck this dude. If you're actually living somewhere, you should be able to know what direction to fucking pray. Considering the absence of geographical and natural locations in the southeast direction, not the flight path to reach Mecca, and God knows best. All I'm saying is God probably knows where Mecca is, like any other devout Muslim should too. What else we got in here? Oh, more itineraries. This one, ambassador is scheduled in February of 2017 to meet with Michelle Rampell. What are you looking at? Are you fucking stop tracking Mubarak, okay? Buddy, I'm right here. What else we got here? A Hajj visa application, more prayers, lots of prayers. We got this document, How to Heal Yourself with Healing Energy Found in the Beautiful Names of Allah. And it goes over all of the various health issues one could have, and then what you gotta say to make them go away. Pancreas issues? Well, it turns out that's actually the creator. You got migraines? The artist. Nerves? The enricher. Heart veins, the bestower. Heart, the light. Dandruff, glory be to God. Hair issues, the originator. I don't know what the fuck any of this shit translates as, but apparently this 12-step method involves placing a hand on the area of pain, reciting God's names and God-given words, repeated until, by God's permission, these pains disappear. Just recite God's name a bunch of times. I don't fucking know. Anyway, we're done. No more goddamn Egyptian government docs. Honestly, I'm just very thankful to have found the Egyptian embassy abandoned all those years ago. It's torn down now, so it's fine for me to say all this shit, I guess. But, you know, at the time, it was awesome. I could just be at any house party in Ottawa and be like, hey, who wants to go check out the abandoned Egyptian embassy? And everyone's like, I do. And then we'd all file out and go traipse through the goddamn abandoned structure.
All right, we're going upstairs, okay, Pat?
It was a lot of fun. My friend was terrified that the place was haunted. And I remember we got blackout one night in that embassy. And afterwards, we brought back that painting, then hid it in his house. And the next morning, he woke up hungover as shit. Comes out, he finds it. He sent me a Snapchat. He's like, not funny, bro. I don't know who did this, not funny. But I do find it funny, and I miss those days. But, you know, like all days, they do pass. And you can just enjoy them while they last, I guess is the concluding message here. Live life to the fullest. Go into abandoned buildings. You'll never know what you're gonna find there. Maybe some spy docs. Who knows? But like all days, they do pass. And this filler episode's over too now. The next episode should be back in the factory. No other real conclusion to draw from this other than just, wow, isn't that interesting, eh? I'll look at all these abandoned Egyptian embassy documents. I really do want to know what the fuck was worth shredding, though. But, you know, regardless. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say here.
Yo, can I hit your bait, bro?
Sure. And that's the real horseshoe theory or something. No, fuck that. Real ending here, especially after editing this whole video. I keep coming back to this thought that the Egyptian people deserve better. I mean, fuck, they haven't had a good government since Nasser, maybe. Disgusting. They can just leave all of their citizens' shit just strewn about in an abandoned building. First off, abandoning a building in downtown Ottawa like that. Prime real estate, how do you afford to be able to abandon a building like that? Afford to build a brand new fucking city in the middle of the desert just to get away from your own people. So many fucking problems with this government. The Egyptian people deserve better. It's disgusting. Oh, also on that fucking topic, disgusting, eh? I'll let you know, the Egyptian from Egypt to Canada, I found your ointments. Yeah, that's right. I found your fucking prescription ointment, bud. In the middle of an abandoned building, just strewn about there. Imagine I come into this dark room in the abyss of this building, and there's just nothing in there except for a lone prescription ointment tube. I go down and pick her up, and I mean, okay, look. Why was he picking up a prescription ointment in an abandoned building? Good question. Okay, I was probably drunk, all right? Who fucking is to say? But what I found, if you're seeing this means my lawyer couldn't clear this, so I can't say what it was. But, you know... on an unrelated note, you know, it's funny, you know, cold sores, right? Did you know that's oral herpes? You know, most of us actually, especially if you're younger, this was vaccinated against. So a lot of you probably don't know that it was a thing, let alone the fact that it was herpes, right? And it's because, you know, most people, when they hear herpes, they don't think of cold sores, they think of the other one.
Herman Miller. I immediately think, I can't afford this crap. The second thing, Herman Miller Gaming, those things don't go together. Herman Miller makes nice stuff. Gamers are losers. We live in ugly layers. Or do we? So today I have a bunch of boxes of stuff. 4 of these big boxes comprise what you get when you order this coil gaming desk. And then a bunch of the other ones are little accessories. So we're putting together. But the reason that this is compelling is because maybe I can't afford this. I actually was told the price and I wasn't outraged. Desks are pretty expensive. They're almost all over $1,000. Even the cheap ones are a couple hundred, and they're cheap and ugly. So is Herman Miller a gamer? And does Herman Miller supply other gamers with nice looking wipe acceptance factor furniture? Let's find out. I have no idea if I was supposed to open this first, but it's black. It's pretty thick. It's pretty heavy. Box 2 is a beefy unit. When I first started working here, you used to have to feign things being heavy, but now I'm just old. Come on, grip drag. I don't have a handle. Now look at this, ladies and gentlemen. A combination of letters. Coil. Some curse about it. Whoa, coil. Look at this thing. It's like an air compressor. How far can this go here? Zah! Watch brush. I
guess this means the desk is powered. They wouldn't just give this to you, right? So it must be a standing desk. I know nothing about this product. We're on a journey of discovery together. It's got USB, A, and C ports on here and multiple, like, seems pretty dope to get this. It's above and beyond. Thanks, Herman. Some kind of control box. Looks like it mounts to the underside of the desk. It has some power connectors and RJ45 looking kind of ports on it, and a little pigtail guy. Yeah, a very lightweight plastic and tactile ratcheted knob with a finger-sized indent. That is actually really satisfying. Cheap feeling though. Cables and hardware. I think has to do with the power function. These are chunky. They look like they could be the feet. This is like just peeling back layers of an onion here. Now this looks like the telescoping leg. There's power connector. Some holes there. Oh man, this is dense. Maybe it connects to these. We'll find out. You just kneecap yourself. You can hear that like it's on camera WCB. Now this feels lighter. This could be Phyllis. Oh for God's sake. This looks like a nice stealth undercarriage type thing. It's got a hole. It's got actually a 3 cable management type hole. This looks maybe magnetic. I just can't wait to discover you. These feel very sold separately, so I'm not even open right now. I'll save these for later. I got enough on my plate. And finally, box 4. Maybe this is where to keep the gaming. This is a perforated all metal backer board. I think this goes. Jesus. I believe this goes at the back of the desk. It's like a little kind of pegboard with the different size holes you hang your pencils out of, you know. They said I can make this in 30 minutes or less, so it's really exactly 40. Game on. Step 1 is to attach the leg brackets to the tabletop, and it specifically says do not put the screws through the square holes. Look for round holes. Actually pretty cool. That's a round hole. That's a square hole. So it's just a visual way of telling you what to put in when. Right now, I only do the circle one. That was easy. I will say it does feel substantial and quality. There are threaded metal inserts inside the holes, and like screened MDF or anything like that. And even just artwork, you know, it's nice and dirty. It's a little bit of chud, you know, it's a little like a chode, there's a lot of words there. You were racing me, saying you were racing me. I could tell. I was racing you too. I get a little jostle here.
That's our last overproof, so.
Herman, don't give me any extras, come on.
Oh shit, I forgot.
They replace it with known good. That one either way. Little switcheroo, you know, the desk with the different diagrams. The fact that the instructions don't specify which way they should go. Kind of tells me it's up to you. The cable only goes in on one side, so you get to pick which way the cable is going to plug in there too. Maybe it matters to someone.
That's sad. That's sad.
Well, I'll play on that. It's tight, but there's a lot of play on that. So this is going to be for my right hand. Which way does this go? You don't want to access that, so let's say it goes that way. Connect the hand switch to the control box. M1, M2. Does it say on it? We're going to learn today. D1, D2. I don't know. We're going to see. I like how it looks like a PSU cable behind that. You know, these guys get gaming. We've reached base camp. This is everything you get with the base tier, and from now on we're selling things that are additional and cost extra. Starting with the wire management tray. Fellas, if the ground. Whoa. Now we just rid into the square holes. And with the optional wire management tray attached, you actually have to reroute the control knob cable through this little guy over here. Oh yeah, look at these grubs. It must go this way. Over there. It looks better. You're looking at it down that way. That's cleaner looking. But this is easy to weld this way, right? So those only 4 look at those. You're not care about things for no, it's gravity. Fourth of it, I'm gonna put this thing in. I will say, this feels new kind of sounds. Back guy. These little grab handles are doing this right now. It's all gonna come clear. Oh yeah, you just have to do that, don't you? Oh, but that does. I think that's gonna have to do with the accessory. We take this off, and that's how you put on that back guy. Time will tell. You kind of need space for a motor arm still in there, but at the same time, you've got this in the way in the kind of wide direction, right? So if that motor arm is bigger than this, it's like this. Look at that. There's a little notch. Come, look. See that? It's got. Oh yeah. Now it's in there. And this, oh, it flips up and there's an. Oh, see, these happen. You can hide your mess. But also, access it. Next is our friend here. You get to put it just where you desire. We're gonna grab this just up the back. Anyway, there's a hole here. Oh, and that hole is sweet. Cool. It's actually the power bar accessible from the top here, which is kind of nice. Not floating here, though. You might want to utilize. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Is what I would be saying if we hadn't opted to get the perforated shroud. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think it might just go that way. Come here. Come see this. We didn't use this, but if we had used this and relied on this in the future, check out this. I love this. Okay, right over here. A little color for your fingers. Boom. There it is. You're ready to rock. The only thing I have left is the wood screws and these little guys, which are meant for under table cable management. Which is cool because somebody lied to this. You know, this one in particular, it's just right here, so I want to put it back. I'm gonna try one of these out. I'm gonna try this right here. This isn't really meant for this table. It's a little pretty dirty. You just gotta hot dog down all the way through it in there. Yeah, the point is it's not dangling down, so I'm not gonna see how it's nice. The last thing left to do is plug it in and enjoy it. But first, surprise time. Remember these? I actually don't know what's in here. Accessories. Oh, these look like little cable management loops that have little pegs, I think, going here. So you can do like so. Okay, one down. Look at the boxes are so huge. A little control holder. What is this? Wait a tick. Oh, okay. And you can even have it plugged in and have the charging cable routed down where you don't see it. Not too bad. Rice bowl. It's a planter. It's a planter. This one seems like kind of the most efficient, cheapest. It has all these little boxes in it. Snackable. It is not food safe. I don't think this is food grade. Gamers. Don't put on maybe a supplement. And last but possibly least, we'll find out the pedestal. You know, display shelf. There's another one. Oh, the diving board. The luge. Oh, thank you very much. It's kind of a sweet angle if it's on. There is a little gap here, so potentially you could plug it in and have that routed there. You could plug it in. You probably don't do this. That's like playing on gravity. Control box should make a clicking sound indicating it has been programmed. It looks like a cool screen. It's very like retro. Oh, this is the old one. How low can you go? That actually might be nice. Once in a while, just go crisscross and walk in. Preset 181. Okay, so there. Take it with you. Decent preset. It's a good size desk. It's nice and deep. Yeah, this is like a really Goldilocks zone of desk size. I would say I want to go up a little bit. All right, that's stock prices. It's available in 4 finishes. Clear on ash, studio white, medium matte walnut, and ultra black. And that's all base. Also, get the cute little red power cable regardless. And the cable trough itself ups the price from $1,100 to $1,475. I think they're making a margin on this additional optional accessory. Now, if you like the shroud but you don't like the cable trough, screw you. You cannot get the shroud unless you've already gotten the cable trough. So you're going from $1,475 up to $1,635 just for this little guy. Jeez, that's the accessories. They range from $30 to $40. That's too much. All that's too much. What I would do is find someone with a 3D printer. Wait for the glorious people in the maker community to just pre-print these. Look at this thing. This is not worth like $30. Pre-print things that they didn't even provide. Now, compatible with this, just make your own. You know, you'll be more satisfied. So overall, I think the price of the base unit is pretty fair. It gets a little crazy. I don't know if the value is there for the accessories. It's a bit too bad because although I can take or leave the shroud, it would be nice to get that cable management tray. But is it worth $4? In terms of whether Herman has successfully made gaming cool, it's kind of hard to tell with just a black desk. It's really minimalistic, but also kind of basic shape. It's just a black kind of squircle. You can get a better sense of a more unique design language from this thing. It almost looks like nothing made it. But other than that, it's kind of basic. My recommendation would be to consider getting this desk, but don't not look into other desks. Maybe what you should really look into is how much costs get cool. Pick daily cable like this. That's honestly the real selling feature for me here. Let me talk like desk content. We've done this a few times. Some really funny people. So go check out Colton Desks and their videos.
Lá sobre avaliar o assunto da semana é o uso de xaropes para tosse em crianças. Chegando no frio, os casos de infecções respiratórias aumentam, em especial nas crianças e idosos. Diante de um quadro de ciúmes e tosse, é comum que pais utilizem xaropes para controlar os sintomas. No entanto, a própria Sociedade Brasileira de Pediatria não recomenda o uso de xaropes para tosse sem prescrição médica. A primeira coisa importante é entender que a tosse não é uma doença, mas um sintoma. É um mecanismo de defesa do corpo, principalmente os resfriados e viroses comuns, com o objetivo de eliminar secreções e proteger as vias respiratórias. Por isso, nem sempre o objetivo deve ser parar a tosse. O importante é descobrir a causa para então tratá-la se necessário. Isso porque a tosse nem sempre é sinal de resfriado. Ela pode ser sintoma de outras condições, como alergia, sinusite, asma, bronquiolite, pneumonia ou até refluxo. Além disso, existem vários tipos de xaropes para tosse. Alguns tentam diminuir a tosse, outros ajudam a soltar a secreção e alguns misturam diferentes substâncias. Em crianças, muitos desses medicamentos têm pouco benefício comprovado e podem causar efeitos colaterais como sonolência, agitação, coração acelerado, enjoo, vômitos e até intoxicação quando usados de forma inadequada. Na prática, esses medicamentos só devem ser considerados em casos específicos e sempre após avaliação médica. Para crianças pequenas, especialmente menores de 4 a 6 anos, as principais sociedades médicas não recomendam o uso de xaropes para tosse. Conversei com o pediatra Dr. Paulo Teles, médico da Sociedade Brasileira de Pediatria, e me explicou que os pais devem procurar atendimento médico se a criança apresentar falta de ar, esforço para respirar, lábios arroxeados, muito cansaço ou sonolência, febre por mais de 72 horas e hora do estado geral, chiado forte, forte, suor no peito, tosse após engasgo, sangue no catarro, tosse em bebês pequenos ou tosse que dura mais de 3 a 4 semanas. Pessoal, a principal mensagem é: xarope não é solução para toda tosse. Em muitas situações, ele pode trazer mais riscos do que benefícios. O mais importante é identificar a causa da tosse, aliviar os sintomas com medidas seguras e ficar atento aos sinais de alerta. Se você pelo tema e quer orientações para lidar com tosse em crianças, é só clicar no link na nossa.
Cuidado com o bronzeamento artificial. As câmeras de bronzeamento artificial são proibidas no Brasil pela Anvisa desde 2009. O motivo é que elas emitem radiação ultravioleta em níveis que podem causar danos profundos à pele. É verdade que esse tipo de bronzeamento estimula a produção de melanina e deixa a pele mais escura rapidamente. Mas junto com a coloração vem também queimaduras, manchas, envelhecimento precoce, rugas, flacidez, problemas nos olhos e até câncer de pele. O perigo é ainda maior para pessoas de pele clara e para os fumantes. A radiação ultravioleta é considerada cancerígena porque ela consegue penetrar na pele e danificar o DNA da célula. Isso aumenta o risco tanto dos cânceres de pele mais comuns quanto dos melanomas, que são o tipo mais agressivo que podem se espalhar para outros órgãos. Existe então uma forma mais segura de se bronzear. Existem cremes autobronzeadores e o bronzeamento a jato feito em clínicas de estética são alternativas que não usam a radiação ultravioleta. Eles funcionam por meio de substâncias que reagem apenas na camada superficial da pele e criam um tom dourado que é temporário. Mas estar com a pele bronzeada não traz proteção só. Mesmo usando o autobronzeador, você precisa continuar aplicando protetor solar diariamente. Alguns alimentos ricos em antioxidantes, como a cenoura, mamão e abóbora, também pode ajudar a manter a pele com uma aparência mais uniforme e saudável. E se for tomar sol, prefira os horários antes das 10 da manhã e depois das 4 da tarde, sempre com proteção adequada. Bronzeamento seguro é aquele que valoriza a sua pele sem colocar a sua saúde em risco.
Does anyone find the biggest forehead in New York City?
Here's why I found the biggest forehead in New York City. First, I got 400 flyers sweating with Stan at RCDC event. Then I had celebrity guest Josh Block to help me build the hype.
Ahoy everyone, I'm excited to announce that I'll be at Will's biggest forehead competition.
Over 100 of the biggest foreheads in New York City showed up to compete. We used a high-tech measuring system to ensure fair competition. I might be wrong, but this old guy tried to sneak in, but was quickly disqualified. And he's
That was
More
not
Wing News
so
may be
good.
going live a little early. I think like 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on issue for there is indeed a Nintendo Wrap happening tomorrow. It's been rumored for a while. People like Jeff Grubb had mentioned Tuesday, June 9th. Also, around we got further confirmation Nate would be this week, and now we have Nintendo fully announced. They initially pushed it out on Nintendo today, but eventually it found its way to other social media platforms. With full extra details that I can understand why there's a lot of anticipation because it's been a long time. Last September, since there was a full general draft. This one, especially one of the longer ones, 50 minutes. We're going to go over some predictions, we'll say, and some things I'm expecting to be at the show. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the video, and let me know your hopes and dreams for what you would like to see at this Nintendo Direct. This is from Nintendo. Saying join us June 9th, 7 a.m. Pacific, so 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where Nintendo will buy Nintendo Treehouse Live. Our showcase, Indie World. No, this is a full general Nintendo Direct. It'll be roughly 50 minutes long, and there'll be Nintendo Treehouse Live. It'll be 95 minutes long. It will immediately follow the presentation. Yes, that is kind of the thing we normally do at E3, where they will have several days of Treehouse events. Still 95 minutes. They got some stuff to show there beyond just the presentation. Sometimes they'll do subtle announcements, maybe an amiibo reveal or accessories or features of the games. But primarily, they'll be playing the different games that we see in this Nintendo. It's here. There is a YouTube page that's already out. It's all over the 5,000 people right now. And if you look on their account, it's 10 million views on the already. So people are quite excited for the idea of this, right? And I don't know why you look at the games that are being rumored. There are a number of them. And I know I'm over every single game that's out there right now that is rumored. There are a lot of games, folks. I just outline some of the obvious ones and then a couple of shots here and there. Interesting ones that could pop. So obviously Nintendo wants to sell their policies. Right? They have a number of titles that are not dated at the time. And don't worry, I think they'll hear some 2 trailers, right? So we release them at least now in August. And then from there, Iron Lord should be, I think that's September. And then the Dust was in October. And I think Ocarina of Time remake is a thing. I think most people trust Nate at this point. And I think that's November. How there's a lot of GTA 6. I mean, at this time, it's not coming to Switch. It's time to never know. Or whenever Rockstar 2 decides to drop trailer 3, there could be a Switch logo in there. It's absolutely possible. It's likely.
Oh, I'm gonna literally slip through that. 10 in the morning. I'll probably slip through that. Because I just want to know what's going to be announced. But I'm not spoiling myself at all of any gameplay trailer. Unless I'm uncertain whether or not I'm going to play or something. If I'm uncertain, fair enough. Oh wait, hold on. There's this one.
E dois óbvios. Eu vou explicar porque mesmo sendo uma notícia não é fim. A banda revelação de voz brasileira para os passos hoje. Depois da próxima 2025, vai cerca de 500 mil vozes agora. Esse meio milhão de pessoas vai ter diversas CBS e duas operações não rápido. Assim, os casos apareceram bem após a vacinação. Mas o fato de ser suspensa não significa que esse sistema está funcionando. O Ministério da Saúde foi honesto. Até agora, a investigação não identificou a vacina para causar ações de morte. Não porque isso porque é exatamente isso que o sistema de saúde sério faz toda a vacina depois do lançamento segue sendo vigiado. Quando aparece uma reação que não aparece nos testes clínicos, você causa investiga, protege, não se confia em vacinação, não vai tomar. Os casos tiraram das sociedades, por exemplo, casos de 100 mil vacinados. São pessoas não vacinadas no hospital, cada 100 mil casos de 3.300, 400 vezes mais. Muito rápido, as universidades faz parte da vigilância. Ainda bem que o Ministério da Saúde avisa, não tem efeito para o sistema de vacinação não tivesse sido causado depois desse caso. Se você já com a vacina não tem nada, fica tranquilo. Você segue o projeto. Essas primeiras horas, os primeiros dias após a vacina, principalmente o tempo sem resposta. Porque as próximas horas da vacina, como vocês, enquanto já você fica uma pessoa preocupada e diga pela ciência.
What the heck? What could that be about? Networker. What could that? Let me see. That's weird.
Hello friends, my name is JJ. On this channel, I like to talk about the importance of cultural literacy, which in one manner of speaking basically just describes your ability to recognize things that are culturally important. The question I get asked most of this, however, is how you even go about figuring out what is culturally important in the first place. One way is to just rely on books written by experts that claim to offer up curated lists of culturally important stuff. But since I am a professional YouTuber with nothing but time, I like to do little investigations into what the broader culture itself seems to be telling us matters. Today, I thought we'd look at one of the biggest cultural realms of them all, art. Specifically, what particular works of art does society generally expect us to be able to recognize. Now, as you well know, the broader culture is truly awash in references to famous works of art. Famous works of art are constantly being referenced in movies and TV shows and video games and toys, often in very satirical ways that really take for granted just how familiar the public is.
Yep. I'm still not paying for a better VPN.
I don't get it. Next to maybe stuff about different countries, there is probably no realm of culture where casual expectations of literacy are higher than famous art, and it seems to be true not just in America, not just in the West, but in the wider world as a whole. So I thought I would do a full investigation to see if I could come up with a list of like the most fundamental, the most core set of famous art that everyone is expected to know. Okay, so what I did was I found 20 things containing references to multiple works of famous art. This wasn't that difficult to do because, like I said, famous art is referenced everywhere these days. I did, however, try to specifically focus more on whimsical or satirical things because I think that whimsy and satire do not tend to have overly high or elitist expectations on what the public will know. So, for example, here's a charming calendar that I bought called Artsy Cats, and you can see every month we have a cat done up in the style of a particular painting by a particular famous artist. And here's a paint by sticker book of various famous art pieces that I bought at the Vancouver Art Gallery gift shop, along with this charming trip to the museum, magnetic playset. And here are the player's guides for Mario Paint for the Super Nintendo, both the Japanese one and the American one. Both of them contain recreations of famous works of art to inspire you and show off the game's capabilities. Speaking of video games, here's a magazine ad for the game Rayman. You can see he's done up in different ways. And here is a Christmas card that I bought a while ago. You can see they have Christmas trees depicted in various different artist styles. I'm sure you've seen a billion cards like these. It's a bit of a cliche. And here is a set of adorable little jumbo collectible figurines made by our friends at Big Gallery. Today's video sponsor. Pretty good integration with this one. Anyway, the point is, I was able to find 20 different instances where someone or some company had made something featuring a bunch of callouts to famous artists and their works, and we can think of each one of these things as containing a collection of votes for individual pieces of art that matter, with nearly 300 votes being cast in all. And I crunched the data, and now we shall go through the top 10 most consistently cited iconic works of iconic artists. The 10 pieces of art that absolutely everyone needs to know if you hope to function in this modern world, or at least get the gist. Alright, so I bet you can all guess what number 1 is. That's right, it's the good old Mona Lisa. I actually got to see the Mona Lisa in person last year at the Louvre in Paris with my dear YouTuber buddy, Big Joel. Since everyone's seen the Mona Lisa like 100 gazillion times, the fun of seeing it in person mostly just comes from getting to witness how such a famous work of art is displayed and famous work of art is displayed and interacted with by the public. In order to accommodate the over 20,000 people who reportedly come to see it every single day, Mona is kept in the Louvre's largest room, safely sealed in a little humidity-controlled glass box. Its instruments are being quite a bit smaller than most people imagine, only about 1.5 feet by 2 feet or so. Anyway, she was painted by the famed Italian artist Leonardo da Vinci. That's right, sometime in the early 16th century. Da Vinci is, of course, the most celebrated artist of what we call the Renaissance era of Italian art, which was defined by great technical sophistication, especially in depictions of the human form. The Mona Lisa is a great example of Renaissance era realism, but it's not necessarily the best example, just like to a lot of theories about why precisely this painting got to be so famous, and not some other more ostentatiously grand piece from the same period. It's certainly not because Mona herself is anyone important. The evidence suggests that she was just the wife of some local rich guy. No, most of the fame of her portrait is just due to the fame of Leonardo da Vinci himself, like a most uniquely impressive and talented individual to emerge from the Italian Renaissance, a man who was not just an artist, but a scientist, an inventor, an architect, and all the rest. And while da Vinci did a lot of stuff, he didn't actually make that many paintings. So the few he did make have long enjoyed enormous veneration as monuments to his brilliance, even in his own time. That's the reason the Mona Lisa is even in Paris at all. In fact, Leonardo spent the last few years of his life living in France as a patron of the French king. It's believed to be during this period that the Mona Lisa was completed through somewhat unclear circumstances. It then became a possession of the French king himself following the French Revolution. It was put on public display as one of the great treasures of the French state. There's an urban legend sometimes here that no one cared about the Mona Lisa until it was stolen from the Louvre in 1911. It's a very sensationalistic news story of the time, but it doesn't really make sense because the only reason why its thievery was such a big news was precisely because the Mona Lisa had already been admired by the public for centuries. If you go back to the newspapers of the time, you can see that even back then it was very much understood to be the world's most famous painting. Alrighty, and according to my tally, the world's second most famous painting is a Scream. This was painted by the Norwegian artist Edward Munch in 1893, looking at a few other versions in other years as well. You can go and see it at the National Museum in Oslo, where it is one of the proudest symbols of the country. I've never been to Norway, but something tells me if you go to their souvenir shops, they probably put the Scream on everything, just like they do with Mona Lisa in Paris. The Scream is obviously a very emotionally expressive painting, and Edward Munch was one of the most notoriously depressed and anxious men in history of art. In that sense, it's considered a pioneering example of what would become European expressionism in the early 20th century. This was a movement that saw artists shift away from strictly representational paintings towards art that primarily sought to express feelings and emotions. I actually found this fantastic quote from Munch himself that really captures this idea of the shift from so-called pre-modern artists like Da Vinci to modern artists like Munch. Just as Leonardo da Vinci studied human anatomy and dissected corpses, so do I try to dissect souls. Alright, now let us go back to the Italian Renaissance for painting number 3, The Birth of Venus, painted by Sandro Botticelli sometime around 1485. In addition to realistic depictions of the human form, pre-modern art is closely associated with paintings that are full of religious symbolism and references myths and legends, usually in the direction of promoting some particular virtue or moral lesson. Venus was one of the great Roman gods, the god of love and beauty, according to legend, was born from the sea, just what this painting depicts, and as now Europeans like to think of themselves as heirs to the civilizational greatness of ancient Greece and Rome, and art celebrating Roman culture was common during the Renaissance. So it could also be controversial, given how dominated European life was by the Catholic Church in those days. By some accounts later in his life, Botticelli was said to regret spending so much time painting pagan gods. You can see the Birth of Venus for yourself at the Uffizi Museum in Florence. That's the part of Italy that Botticelli was from, as well as Leonardo da Vinci. It was accordingly one of the great capitals of Renaissance culture. The Uffizi Museum says that Birth of Venus was probably commissioned by the Medici family, who were these wealthy people who ran Florence as their private fiefdom and were great patrons of the Italian Renaissance artists. I was always curious what political system they had in Florence at that time that gave the Medici all this power, so I looked it up, and apparently there was no political system. They just ran things. Next up, Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Much like Edward Munch, Vincent van Gogh was another late 19th century Northern European artist associated with expressionistic emotional works. And like Munch, he was also known for being a bit of an emotional basket case, though Van Gogh's art is also known for being more colorful and upbeat, though sometimes this was done of explicit emotional code. Case in point, Starry Night, which was made in 1889, was painted during Van Gogh's time in a French mental hospital. It's based on the view from his window. Van Gogh was quite notoriously unsuccessful as a professional artist during his short and miserable life, and he only achieved success after his suicide when his enterprising sister-in-law put a lot of effort into selling his giant back catalog to wealthy people in the early 1900s. Some of his most famous pieces accordingly wound up in all sorts of unusual places. And today, if you want to see Starry Night, you have to leave Europe altogether and head to the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. The MoMA got the painting in 1941, and it had never been publicly seen before that, meaning that much of the fame of this Dutch masterpiece owes to the popularity that it achieved with American audiences. In fifth place, we have another Dutch masterpiece, The Girl with a Pearl Earring. This was painted by Johan Vermeer around 1665. It can be found in the Marathaus Museum in The Hague in Holland, and they rather grandly refer to it as the Mona Lisa of the North. And to be fair, she does have a fair bit in common with Mona. The realism of the girl's expression, especially her eyes, painting a similarly uncanny quality. People always say that she's looking right at them, and her eyes follow you in the room, and all this. Johan Vermeer is considered one of the great masters of Holland's golden age of art, which was part of what's usually called the broader European Baroque period of the 17th century. In the Netherlands, this was an age defined by very realistic and detailed depictions of people and places, often in ways that emphasize the glory of the upper classes. Vermeer was unique in that he also had a strong interest in ordinary people. Probably one of the reasons why Girl with a Pearl Earring is as famous as it is just because it's a relatively unpretentious, simple portrait of an ordinary girl who didn't even exist in real life, which made it stand out in a sea of this aspect. Number 6, The Kiss. The Kiss is another great masterpiece of early 20th century expressionism, completed in 1909 by the Austrian artist Gustav Klimt. And this piece clearly shows the emotion that Klimt's art was most interested in expressing was lust and sensuality, which made him a particularly controversial figure among the expressionists, given that these were not themes that Europe's conservative establishment was particularly keen to see on public display. In that sense, Klimt is associated with the more transgressive faction of early modern artists, those who wanted their art to be more openly rebellious against the stuffiness of the artistic traditions that had come before. You will accordingly often hear the Kiss described as an early example of avant-garde or art nouveau, all these various other movements and factions that were obsessed with rebellion and liberation. The highly decorative nature of Klimt's art, with all the little shapes and embellishments, and his fixation on a particular sort of relaxed female elegance, made him a very influential figure on 20th century aesthetics in general. I feel like The Kiss, in particular, is still a painting that is widely appreciated for its beauty this day. In contrast to some of the other paintings we've been discussing, which are now mostly treated as symbols or cliches, I feel like The Kiss is a painting that people continue to sincerely enjoy on its own terms, and one that you are most likely to see someone unironically hanging a copy of in general. You can find the original hanging in the Belvedere Museum in Vienna. It is by far the most famous painting to ever come out of Austria, and in that sense is another example of a piece of art that plays an enormous role in the tourism industry of a particular country. In fact, that could have been an interesting video in its own right. The most popular paintings of every country. Next up, we have The Persistence of Memory. The Persistence of Memory. You might not recognize that name, but I bet if I tell you it was made by Salvador Dali, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's the one with the melting clocks. Salvador Dali was probably the most famous and influential figure to emerge from one of the most extreme subversive art movements of the 20th century, surrealism. And Persistence of Memory, which was painted in 1931, is famous because it's such a good example of surrealist art, an image of grotesque, impossible things depicted in a style deliberately intended to confuse and unnerve. The idea of a melting clock in particular is truly one of the most memorable images in the history of art, just because it so easily evokes all these powerful human feelings through time as a formless, upsetting, miserable thing. Salvador Dali is the most modern artist to make our list. He only died in 1989, thus existed in the age of modern mass media, and his fame as a celebrity was almost as great as his art as this deeply eccentric, flamboyant character who's always doing interviews and speeches where he would say goofy or provocative things in an effort to get a rise out of people.
It's really great. I call it the dong. The dong is exactly representing the molecular structure of desoxyribonucleic acid. I think we all agree on that.
There's very often a strong parallel between the sort of person an artist is and the sort of art that they make, but Dali, with particular effort, into making this connection impossible to deny, went out of his way to make it clear to the world he was a man every bit as surreal and wild and disorienting as things he made. Persistence of Memory is also at the MoMA, just a few rooms over from Van Gogh's Starry Night, in fact. It was donated to the museum only a couple of years after it was painted. Given the enormity of its reputation, it's quite shockingly tiny, barely larger than a sheet of office paper. Dali claimed it only took him 2 hours to make, but this was probably just another one of his trademark lies. Alright, in number 8, we have another good example of art and artist being impossible to separate. Self-Portrait by Frida Kahlo. Although when I was doing tally, it was sometimes a little bit difficult to tell which exact portrait of Frida Kahlo was being referenced, given that she painted over 50 of them during her career. She was a very distinctive looking woman who disliked her own appearance, and the unflattering way that she portrayed herself with her thick eyebrows and hairy upper lip would give her self-portraits this unique appeal as something simultaneously vain and self-deprecating. Frida was a Mexican woman who lived in the first half of the 20th century and was another surrealist who routinely painted quite disturbing and grotesque scenes. But in many ways, she was also a very deeply idiosyncratic artist whose style was very particular to herself, and thus represented the rise of a newer type of modern artist who was more confidently themselves and less tied to any particular movement. Frida wasn't very famous in her own lifetime, but as you can see from this Google in-ground, interest in her only really picked up in the 1980s and 90s. And a lot of this has to do with what we now call the intersectional appeal of her art and biography. Frida had a very interesting and complicated life defined by themes of femininity, queerness, disability, radical left politics, Latino identity, and more, much of which was expressed through her art. As interest in these subjects grew in the latter years of the 20th century, so too did interest in Frida as a forgotten trailblazer. Well, her self-portraits, though great works of art in their own right, also became iconic simply on their own terms, compelling pictures of an important person. Because she painted so many of them, today Frida's self-portraits can be found all over the place. This very iconic one from 1940, known as Self-Portrait Dedicated to Dr. Lesser, is owned by a private collector, thus is on public display. However, this equally famous one, Self-Portrait with Thorn Necklace and Hummingbird, also from 1940, can be viewed at the Francis Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Number 9, Composition with Red, Blue, and Yellow by Piet Mondrian. This painting is probably the most iconic example of the most aggressively abstract faction of the modern art movement in the early 20th century. Piet Mondrian was yet another Dutch guy. He thought that the most important way to break with the artistic traditions of the past was to make art that aggressively rejected literally everything of the physical world. He accordingly created paintings like this one that were little more than colored squares and black lines. Between 1920 and his death in 1944, he made dozens of fairly similar looking paintings featuring thick black lines and squares of red, blue, yellow, and white. And I feel like this general style of art he made during the space of his life that's more famous than any one individual piece, all of which have quite similar names as well. And this art was enormously controversial in Mondrian's time, and remains controversial today, just because it's seen as one of the more provocative examples of the way that the modern art movement really sought to test the limits of what people would accept as art. And as one of the earliest pioneers of this sort of thing, Piet's primary colored paintings have long served as one of the most familiar symbols of so-called abstract art, if not modern art as a whole. Much like Frida, Mondrian made so many different versions of his most iconic paintings that you can now find them all over the place in London, New York, Switzerland, Germany, Paris, and of course his native Holland. And lastly, in 10th place, can you guess? It's the Son of Man. This is another one where you might not know it by the title alone, but as soon as I show it to you, you'll be like, oh. Yes, this is another very iconic piece of surrealist art painted by the famed Belgian artist René Magritte in 1964. Magritte is known for his skill at creating these uniquely unsettling, strangely ominous scenes that present mundane objects of middle-class life in disorienting ways. The Son of Man is perhaps his most iconic work, just because it captures this vibe so efficiently. Why is the apple floating? Does the guy behind it even have a face? Fun fact, René Magritte cheekily claimed that this was a self-portrait. I would say the Son of Man is probably the most famous painting in the world that cannot be viewed by the public because it's owned by a private collector. It's kind of funny that even at the René Magritte Museum in Brussels, you can buy souvenirs of the Son of Man, but not see the painting itself. And speaking of souvenirs, I've been enjoying these little figurines of mine. Like I said earlier, Alright, so what do you think it means that these are the 10 most commonly referenced pieces of art, at least according to my little investigation? I think the main thing it reveals is just the degree that we tend to think of fine art as something primarily defined by style, with our broader culture tending to highly sentimentalize at least one representative piece of all the major art styles and movements of the last 400 years or so.
Or so. We thought.
The movements of the last 400 years or so. If we kept going down this list, you would see this trend continue with other highly iconic examples of other famous styles like Impressionism.
Oh, why?
or pause. The other conclusion, however, is maybe something even a little more obvious, which is just that we tend to be drawn to works of art that center around a single clear subject, whether that's a face or a figure or a distinctive object. In addition to offering clear examples of different artistic styles, the subjects of these pieces help enrich our collective visual vocabulary by providing us with highly memorable representations of specific things that we've learned to evoke as symbols or metaphors in writing or conversation or pop culture. And I think this is a lesson that many savvy contemporary artists have internalized today. They too seek to create the culture's next big symbol, a symbol that works as a tool of human communication, as well as being a symbol of themselves and their particular style of art, as well as art itself. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little art tour. Have you seen any of these paintings in person? If so, did anything about them surprise or affect you? Do you think a more deserving piece of art got robbed from its place in the top 10? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week.
It's been 1 hour and 19 minutes. What? 5 and 6, okay. It's kind of slow, isn't it? Gonna...
Some people like wear a rosary because I don't actually know why people wear rosaries because Jesus.
I wore one as a child from like the age of like 3 or 4. I was like, I need an accessory. Oh wow. And then I would get in trouble for it because I was supposed to not what that's for.
Yeah, you can not religious accessory.
Yep. Still having problems.
Next to like the papal orb. I don't know what that's called, but you see what I mean. Welcome to Deposit.
Shut up. I'm gonna win here. If I sit down, I must water. I'm right.
Friend, you are stylish, you're suave, you're smart.
You're gonna take pictures doing that before you start laughing too much. Comedian, actor, fashion influencer. Okay. You literally picked your outfit based on what I'm wearing.
You look like the live-in spin instructor for Jared Leto's sex cult.
Yeah, she's fucking excited.
And that's why I brought you into Deposit, so I get some fashion inspo.
With the collar, it kind of gives scholarly. The tassels and everything. The tassels match your shoes. I'm a genius.
But also get some life inspo about how I can better express this world of gender identity, of gender expression. And so if you could describe your style in your own terms, how would you do that?
I would describe my style as like sort of like acid grunge.
Acid grunge.
Yeah. It's like camo panties, some sort of baggy and or statement pant. It looks like I do a lot of acid because I do. I'm sorry, Canada.
I'm sorry, this is a fun one. I see some Mick Jagger in there. You know, I do see a little bit of like Hannah Montana with the earring. I'm sorry to go there. It is giving best of both worlds.
It's season 3 specific.
It is so season 3.
There's so many people just like walk around in that sort of Kim K, monochromatic, clean girl aesthetic, and like if that works for you, fantastic. But I could never do that. It sounds so bland and so disheartening. I need the vibrancy.
I guess sound is rolling, so we don't have to. A lot of people are getting exposed to you through your work as a stand-up comedian. You're a public figure. Is that ever an opportunity for you to say something with your clothing or with your body?
When you're a performing artist, 90% of your job is managing audience expectations. The audience will look at you and snap decide what they think of you the second you walk on stage before you go over. And I'm a queer crazy person with a color that comes with expectations. And if I come out in something edgier that people aren't expecting, it wakes them up and it goes, okay, we don't know what to expect. And then I get to dictate where that goes from there. If I'm doing it for your expectations, it's not going to be the same for me. Now that I'm doing it on my own terms, it's a lot more potent. And that's just kind of like the shorthand for any confidence you need. Is like if I just act and dress like a rock star, people will start treating me as such. When I was growing up, we didn't have non-binary. We had 2 genders. They were Hot Wheels and Barbies. And I was like, none of the above. You know, if anything identifies Legos, you know, pretty genderless toy. I can make myself whatever I want to be, and I can fall to pieces at any moment. This is a shirt that I get so many compliments on, which I stole from X. He stole from his ex, and then inevitably someone else will take it, and so on and so forth. Yes, the chain goes on evermore.
That's so beautiful. That's nice community. Where do you find the courage to put on that piece? What's the story behind her?
I've had to say for like 5 years that when your friend birthday party, I wanted to throw a bachelor party. And then I was like, listen, I'm turning 30, it's my birthday, it is on theme, there is no safer place in the world for me than my friend group, my family. I'm gonna fucking dress.
What's the experience of putting on for the first time, actually?
It was scary, yes, right, it was scary. It was sort of this like thing of like, what if it looks bad, what if it throws me into a sports spiral, and then worse, what if it looks too good, and I learned something about myself.
Yeah, this just changed you completely.
Yeah. She's getting married! Can you believe it? I don't think I think it looks great. I'm trying to think of another situation where I would wear it. I love where I live in Midtown. It is like a 10-minute walk to the subway. That's too far for me to feel unsafe. I love walking down the street and getting a double take because that's trans. Trans is fun because it's saying the rules of the world I was brought up in are bullshit, and I do not accept it. With that, I'm eliciting that response, but I'm not controlling that reaction. And that's where I sort of pull back sometimes and be like, we can be tamers just to get to the gig. You know, you're not calling trans people predators, which is bananas to me because I've never seen Aw Baby. Not one. And like friends and family members are like, look how cute the baby is. Like, okay, groomer.
When it comes to your pieces in general, what strategies do you use to have the confidence to let them live on you and what you want them to?
You can pull off anything as long as it looks intentional. I wouldn't even say that like every outfit I've ever done looks good, but it looks intentional and it looks like
I can say that every outfit you've done looks good because it does
so much.
I
was fishing. Are you person like looks for a lot of like role models or mentor figures?
Growing up, it was like it's embarrassing. Martin Luther King was like huge. I had a Martin Luther King poster above my bed with the entire I Have a Dream speech behind it. He was born in a 3-piece suit, like he was born ready to go to church. Say in the closet. 1, 2, 3.
In the closet.
Wow, that's so cheesy. I'm sorry for having you do that.
No, that's perfect.
That's perfect.
So comfortable.
Is that so natural?
That's my resting state.
Wow.
It's just saying in the closet.
I've had to say a lot over the years.
Ever since I was a child and like sort of cluing into the whole queerness aspect, like you hear the word and you go, I know what that is, but I can't explain it. And then growing up Catholic with all these voices around you telling you what you're doing is wrong. If all of these voices are saying I'm wrong, the lowest common denominator is me. And that just can't be right. And that sort of like went outwards. Like most queer aesthetics are developed out of a desire to embrace what we weren't allowed to in childhood.
Oh my god.
So like I remember in Catholic school we had uniforms and my uncle had given me a bunch of his old dress shirts, and so I just wear that over my polo shirt, and it was so big on me because I was tiny, it just acted functionally as a kimono. And if I walked at a homosexual pace, everything would just like flow out of me, like Beyonce catching the wind. And I love that feeling. It feels like you're taking flight. I'm like, great, I'm a wizard, I'm untouchable. How other people perceive me is not my problem. I
I put all the effort I care about into presenting myself, into how I style myself, I dress myself, I care. Yep, this is the image that I'm putting forward. If you're not smart enough to keep up, that's not my problem.
Slay weed. Can you even hear me?
No. Okay. I get complimented on this because I just had time to sit down and think what makes me feel comfortable, what makes me feel secure, what makes me feel confident, what makes me feel cool, and there was no wrong answer as long as I liked it. Everyone will either catch up or die. I didn't know it was such a binary result at the end of the day. So
binary that I follow.
thank you so much for sharing all of that, and thank you, Ben, for being here with me in the closet.
Thank you for having me.
You do not know how much I want to take all this home to my actual closet.
Yeah, take what you want.
Okay, I'll just do it.
United Ireland yet? Sorry? Have you had a chance to think more about a United Ireland?
There's always more to learn, but I can tell you as someone who believes deeply in the principle of self-determination that I think
Fuck the Pope, fuck the Fenians, fuck the Takes, fuck the fuck all of it.
I don't know if as a homosexual, this is just allowed to be shown with me in the same frame, but I have a Wales jersey because I really love sports. When the boys are doing the puck, it just makes me so happy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the closet. Okay, yeah, that's the closet, my closet. It's good to see you girls, good to see you. This closet was built to represent non-binary stories, non-binary identities as expressed through clothing. I'm Dr. Charlie. My pronouns are they, them, that, it. I'm an actor, copywriter, filmmaker, and you know, a lot of attention. What the fuck do you want? I actually am incredibly disappointed in Trudeau for having the audacity to walk onto that stage without his beard. I knew that non-binary was the gender expression that represented me best, but I didn't think I was doing it properly. I was getting hit with a he, him all the time, and I was like, is it the way I look? Is it the way I'm dressing? And so I thought, if I open up this closet to other non-binary friends of mine, maybe I could take that back into my life and feel more empowered to express myself in a more wide-ranging, all-encompassing, gender-fluid way. Okay, let's cut. Cool. Hi. Well, I would describe my style as soft boy luxury. Yes. I want clothes that make me feel like
You're a girl in the city, ain't you?
the soft boy half of it is like a genre of man who's sensitive and deeply tuned to his emotions to the point where it's actually kind of off-putting and annoying. I'm kind of still living in traditional male structures of clothing, but finding an element of sensitivity and emotionality. For luxury, I like movement. I like something able to twirl. Silk, a suede. I'm fully outing myself as a bougie bitch, but I love a cashmere. But my number one is pearls. Soft boy luxury. I think I have a better understanding of what my style is and where I'm comfortable, but I'm still living in a place where I have dreams of the pieces I want to try, the clothing I want to see myself in. I have a bunch of pieces here that I've been very excited to try, but have not yet in my life, but on my body, but we're gonna try it. Okay. Wow. Maybe like an heiress is this vibe. I do like the boots. It feels like I'm seeing someone else's feet though. How am I standing right now? I don't do this. What maybe I do now? There's a little bit of church in here too. This is a little bit of a God-fearing look. I grew up in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. My mom's a recent immigrant to Canada from Guyana, and being a single mom, raising 4 kids, you can already do the math of who we're working with. I was living in these hand-me-downs that I already knew didn't fit me physically or emotionally. I'm pretty sure that little egg was a little gay egg. I still identify as a gay egg, by the way. When I started to work, I started to have my own agency as my little bank account. I started to experiment with trying on clothes that felt like they might reflect me at the time. Yeah, I used to do this, and then there's like a skateboard in front of me. I would stand on the skateboard and just be stationary. I had a very now ill-advised goth era. The thing that really set soft boy luxury in stone was really working in the arts for the first time. Costume pieces are really important for me because they're my first opportunities to really play, and performance gave me some space to be experimental without being judged. Like on Station 11, where I played my first non-binary character. I started to buy pieces and try things on that piece by piece changed and defined who I was becoming and kind of who I am. I'm rich. I feel like we're getting more church as we go on. Oh, sharp. I could kill someone with these. Excuse me, I'm tiny. And these, we have power. We really do. We have the power of pronouns. I could go by bang bong. And you have to use that or you infringe on my civil rights. You have to say it. That's power. And I'm black and non-binary too. I could do some really shit. Like, I could change my pronouns to just nigga and watch the whole world burn down. Like, you have to say it, but you can't. But you have to. A piece that emphasized my sense of movement and mischief on stage. Not quite a kimono, but definitely influenced by Japanese jackets, while also melding British textile construction. The openness felt like an exciting new commentary on what can be considered masculine wear, but also empowered me to do my work as a comedian. There's another piece, it's upcycled, it's reinterpreted. So the shape of this piece is like a men's workwear jacket, basically the kind of jacket you put on and go down into the mine with. This jacket is made from vintage saris, which I believe are traditionally feminine pieces of clothing. So that element of like a queer reimagining of that male concept in a way that felt like especially pertinent to what I was trying to express. I'm subversive, that's me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here we go again. It's not so easy, but I enjoy myself.
Okay, great. I feel like this. Take me to your gala. Open bar only. Where's the caviar? There was a moment I was like 9 years old. I don't know. I was just having a little fun with my clothes, and everything was always like baggy on me. So I kind of just did a fun thing where I kind of took this giant neck hole I was swimming in, and I just stretched it over one shoulder and exposed some collarbone in the shoulder. And I got like, look, it was a fun look for the day. And then my stepdad at the time saw that and was like, don't do that. Take that off. People are gonna think you're fucking faggot. And a moment like that just cut so sharply for someone so young that I think that that kind of atmosphere instructed me to hide. And so even today, in the beautiful soft boy luxury pieces that I own, I think that my instinct is to cover up to make sure I can control people's perceptions in that way and feel safe. If that moment of trauma is what's informing my choices that I make in the clothing that I wear, then I can't say that I'm really free in terms of my gender expression, in terms of what I wear, in terms of who I am. So far, I've taken small steps to try to keep experimenting and keep playing and keep pushing to let that inner child have that opportunity that was shut down for them and actually get the opportunity to indulge in a real sense of liberation.
Put your hands around my body. Come try to show it to me. I know you're definitely. Put your hands around me.
I want to embrace my body. I want for my body to be part of enjoying the craft. I want my booty to pop. I just want to know that I wear what I wear because I'm choosing to live within this spectrum of clothing and not because I'm afraid of other expectations of what a body like mine should or should not be wearing. I want to know that it's a choice coming from within me and not from society around me. I want to feel colorful and bright and free. Yeah. I feel like Kamala Harris. I want to say to the entire non-binary world out there, because I know you're all watching, it's a Canadian short documentary. How can you not be watching? I see you. Someone sees you. At least 6 people see you. If that's 6 more than yesterday, then at least I can give you that. Thems, theys, let's get back out of here. Let's get out. We've been here for a while.
Okie dokie. Gotta pause for a while. Okay, I think I'm done with the video. Gotta go for the watch later stuff. Yep. But mano, 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 mano. Wait, what? Is that the door of a paid service? You kidding me? Huh? Or okay, whatever. Gotta pay to scrape other websites. Crazy how that works. Well, oh boy. God damn it. Yep. Gotta pay so I can kinda duplicate other people's data with or without their consent. I'm gonna pay someone to do the job for me. I do at least pay the tool for that. The world we live in. Anyway, 1.5 hours. 1.5, 19 minutes. Bro. Mano. 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 Who is that anyway?
Se você dá mais um, fica bem colorido. Estava vendo? Tá passando aqui, você rapidamente não gravou.
Eu nem sei, na verdade. Eu acho que na hora eu nem tive dimensão das coisas, mas... Ai, já tá tremendo inteiro. É enorme. Lá, olha lá, gente. Meu Deus, vou gravar o que eu faço.
Sua vida é essa, senhor. E aí? E aqui é um campo, e eu já tenho essas luzes aí há pelo menos aí uns 5 anos já instalada, então...
Você tá achando que é o fim? É só o começo. Você não pode contar porque eu não quero morrer, eu não quero ser torturado, eu não quero que sequestrem minha família. Pode vir passar com a galera da apologia, ó. Ainda não tem da minha mãe que vai comentar mesmo, a gente vai colocar um monte de luz aqui, a gente tem um monte de luz aqui.
Eu pago imposto de importação, eu pago imposto no Matagal. A situação do divo dos OVNIs realmente está bem complicada. Depois de toda essa repercussão cósmica, era óbvio que os investigadores iriam a fundo. E a resposta para o que estava dentro daqueles pixels RGB Gamer, todos borrados, era uma chácara. Só isso. Não uma nave-mãe interdimensional, não um portal do Paraná para outra galáxia. Era uma chácara com umas luzinhas de jardim que parece que compraram na Shopee.
Aqui pra todo mundo ver, sempre viu, sempre acompanhar. Vou dar um zoom aqui pra vocês verem. Eu tô gravando na tela do celular porque aí usa a melhor câmera. E tá aí o objeto que ele está falando aí nos vídeos dele, que tá viralizando, certo? Como vocês podem ver.
Não tem mais como esconder, é tipo tentar colocar um elefante atrás de um poste. As luzes que os pesquisadores filmaram são exatamente as mesmas que o Mike gravou.
Alô?
Bom dia.
Oi.
Nós viemos lhe buscar. Venha conosco.
Alô?
Venha conosco para o nosso planeta.
Ainda tem um vídeo do cara no telefone pedindo pro dono da chácara apagar as luzes pra confirmar. Ele pede pra apagar e olha só, as luzes apagam. Que coincidência cósmica, né?
E agora só, tem algumas...
Tá apagando as luzes, tá apagando as luzes aqui na câmera.
Sim, eu só apagando todas, só tá apagando as campistas.
Beleza.
E até aí tudo bem, mistério resolvido, acabou a palhaçada, vão todos seguir em frente, cada um pro seu lado.
E hoje, é mentira.
Isso teria acontecido se o Mike não estivesse agarrado na versão dele com unhas e dentes.
Gente, meu Deus, eu tô com medo, o que é isso?
Ele não só confirma que tudo era verdade, que a nave pairou sobre a casa dele, como também solta a pérola de que a chácara comprou aquelas luzes depois do caso pra ganhar dinheiro.
Eu fosse o vizinho, eu fosse um lascado, tivesse disso na minha casa, eu estaria alugando por R$1.000 por cada pessoa que estivesse entrando lá. Pelo menos daqui uns dias. Daqui um mês, 2, o acampamento, ó.
A plebe está à loucura. A massa de manobra que não consegue acreditar que é mentira e acha que a galera tá tentando desmascarar ele por ódio, por puro hate. E, cara, qual que é o problema em saber a verdade? Não é como se as pessoas estivessem fazendo isso porque odeiam o Mike pessoalmente. É simplesmente a curiosidade humana, sabe? Aquela mesma coceirinha no cérebro que nos fez sair de tribos primitivas comendo fruta no mato por uma sociedade complexa com Wi-Fi e iFood, como vemos hoje. Mas o buraco é muito mais embaixo, porque ele sempre ficava muito bravo toda vez que alguém queria investigar o local. Somando ao fato de que ele ameaçou pessoas de processo, o que fez a galera duvidar totalmente da história dele. Primeiro, porque ele se contradiz várias vezes. O que é um clássico quando falamos de mentira, porque a pessoa vai esquecendo os próprios fatos que criou como argumento. E o cérebro não dá conta de manter aquela fanfic. Primeiro, essa nave tinha luzes vermelhas e fazia um barulho de corrente, né? Quando passou por cima da casa dele.
O que passou em cima da minha casa era vermelho, lilás, azul, verde. As luzes depois passaram em cima da minha casa também. Um objeto não identificado. Barulho em cima da minha casa foi como se fosse uma corrente de navio. Luzes, que né, elas vibravam, como se fosse assim.
Porém, em entrevistas futuras, ele disse que ela passou em silêncio e também não tinha luz alguma.
Logo em seguida, ele disse que o objeto era silencioso e apagado. E também ele passou apagado, né? Lá ele tava ligado, né? Não fez um pio, não tinha vento, não tinha barulho. Eu pegava a minha casa inteira, desde a ponta até as árvores.
Mentira!
Acho que ele alterou esse pequeno fato porque a propriedade dele é repleta de câmeras. E é claro que elas não são apontadas pro céu. Mas luzes assim, obviamente, refletiriam no chão com a gente ouvir o barulho infernal de corrente. Mas nada. A pior parte, algo que eu já tinha relatado lá no primeiro vídeo, é o fato que ele faz uma atuaçãozinha barata, nível novela mexicana, enquanto a nave supostamente tá ali no céu. Mas ao invés de filmar a nave, ele fica gravando o próprio bigode.
Meu Deus, gente, tá aqui na frente. Cadê? Gente, é vermelho, é enorme. Lá, olha lá, gente. Meu Deus, eu preciso gravar, como que eu faço? Gente, ó, tão vendo? Tá aqui terminando de piscar, ó. Ela tá indo. Ó, tão vendo ali, ó, piscandinho?
Não consigo ler nada.
Ele também foi no programa do Celso Portiolli. Nossa, esse aqui eu não vou nem comentar, cara. Dá um desconforto, né? Parecia um velório esse programa.
São cordão de luzes de um camping que tá lá alugando o local para as pessoas irem estudar. Não sei, gente, isso daqui não é uma estrutura de festa porque a gente é em cima do rio. Teria que ter 4 km de altura, não tem como ser humano isso, gente. Gente, é literalmente em cima das árvores.
Não bastando isso, o Mike consegue piorar ainda mais a situação, dizendo que não poderia falar toda a verdade, pois sofreria ameaças e que provavelmente teria que apagar o story. Depois ele vai lá e apaga o story. É tipo uma novelinha que ele criou, entende?
Vocês não sabem nada. Por isso que eu estou proibido, até pela polícia, de receber qualquer pessoa na minha casa. Porque vocês não sabem nada e eu também não posso contar porque eu não quero morrer, tá, gente? Eu quero viver ainda, pelo menos comprar uma comida, na pública.
E eu sinto que ele parece estar tentando terceirizar a culpa da mentira que ele mesmo criou no próprio público, que só quer saber a verdade, saca? Isso é bizarro.
É uma vida muito tranquila, né? E não tão fácil, muito difícil mesmo. As coisas que...
As coisas tudo.
Mas a pior parte foi ele subestimar a inteligência de todo mundo. Basicamente ele falou, vocês são tudo trouxa, ao dizer que mais pessoas filmaram a tal nave que passou na casa dele, porém ele não ia expor ali pra não prejudicar essas pessoas.
Tem outras pessoas que moram na região que pediram proteção pra mim, falaram, Mike, aconteceu isso, mandaram foto, mandaram vídeo, de outros ângulos. Só que eu não vou expor, galera. Não vou colocar famílias com crianças pequenas.
Mike, em que momento a gente disse que quer ver pessoas, cara? A gente quer ver naves espaciais GB com alinzinho verde estereotipado, cabeçudinho ali, não queremos ver família dos outros, não. Agora que temos o veredito, podemos notar várias outras gafes nessa história. Como, por exemplo, o fato dele ter arquitetado a mentira desde manhã cedo. Ele já começa falando que os animais estavam assustados, que tinha a cerca caída, sendo que os animais estão totalmente normais ali, vivendo a vida deles sem autoconsciência como nós humanos, não conseguindo dormir por ansiedade. Eles estão ali pastando, tipo... Depois ele já começa com as questões dos aviões, deixando rastros no céu.
Mas tem gente que vai dizer que é normal. Gente, você viu a quantidade de risco de fumaça de avião, de nave, sabe o que é isso? De avião, de nave, sabe o que é isso?
E a questão dos barulhos, né? Estão dizendo que é simplesmente o som do bambuzal.
Meu Deus, o que é isso?
Por coincidência, tem um bambu na frente dele. Não tô falando que foi daqui seu som, mas que tudo isso pode indicar que ele tem um bambuzal ali por perto. Então ele foi planejando etapa por etapa, meticulosamente, tipo o Light Yagami, planejando os passos pra matar o Ki, o Light, o L. Então ele foi planejando etapa por etapa, até chegar à noite onde essas luzes ficariam acesas. Talvez ele também não imaginaria a repercussão, e eu não sei quantos seguidores ele tinha na época, mas não eram muitos. E isso, sem dúvida, saiu do controle completamente. Dito isso, de maneira nenhuma eu quero atacar a pessoa. Todo Mike, eu vi que tem muita confusão na internet, as pessoas não sabem diferenciar alguém que tá buscando a verdade e alguém que tá atacando hate. Elas acham que é a mesma coisa. Ai, por que vocês pegam tanto no pé do garoto? Não é isso, cara. Eu gostaria de acreditar, seria muito mais divertido se fosse verdade. Mas todas as provas e fatos, infelizmente, estão contra o Mike. E isso é simplesmente inegável. E, cara, a gente vive nessa era estranhíssima, onde um vídeo borrado de uma chácara pode se transformar num império de desinformação, porque as pessoas simplesmente não querem a verdade, elas querem o entretenimento, pois vão falar a realidade é tediosa. Você só trabalha, você só faz uma coisa política, você quer ver alguma coisa nova. Por isso que essas pessoas viram ídolos do dia pra noite. A realidade é que aquilo lá é uma chácara e o barulho é o vento batendo no bambu é broxante. As pessoas preferem acreditar na nave de 30 metros e não parecem câmera nenhuma, porque isso é muito mais excitante do que a mediocridade dos fatos. O mais assustador não é nem o Mike sustentar a mentira. É a legião de pessoas que defende com unhas e dentes e que ataca quem vai atrás da lógica. Isso é um sintoma de um negócio muito maior. Da plebe não saber diferenciar o questionamento de perseguição. Não é hate, cara. É o mínimo de senso crítico. Vocês são, a gente literalmente viu o cara, né, o dono da chácara, apagando as luzes, confirmando que não era uma nave. A gente viu as contradições. E ainda assim tem gente que vai dormir hoje esperando contato imediato de terceiro grau. Mas você, meu amigo, o que você acha de tudo isso? Foi tudo uma farsa ou você realmente acredita que ele tá falando a verdade? Enfim, comenta aqui embaixo pra saber. Aqui foi o JJ. E até o próximo vídeo.
Schizo retard. What is schizo retard anyway? For some reason.
Você já tentou de verdade imaginar o tamanho da Amazônia?
Calma.
Tenta imaginar de dentro. Você está no centro da floresta, em todas as direções, até onde sua mente consegue projetar uma linha reta. Existe apenas verde. Nenhuma estrada, nenhuma cidade, nenhuma cerca. Só um teto irregular de copas que se estende por milhares de quilômetros. Se você fosse solto agora, exatamente no ponto mais remoto dessa mata, quanto tempo você acha que levaria para encontrar outro ser humano? A resposta é assustadora. Caminhando em linha reta, desviando de raízes, igarapés e cipós, você conseguiria percorrer, no máximo, pouquíssimos quilômetros por dia. Para sair do coração da floresta, você precisaria de meses. Mas a verdade, e é importante deixar isso claro desde já, é que você não sairia. Mesmo andando em linha reta, você provavelmente morreria antes. Um corte infectado, a desidratação, a fome, um predador ou simplesmente a exaustão absoluta tornariam impossível atravessar essa imensidão. Essa comparação da Amazônia com o oceano não é poesia. Antes de continuarmos, eu gostaria de convidar vocês para entrarem no meu grupo do WhatsApp. Só tem alguém.
Não.
Essa comparação da Amazônia com o oceano não é poesia. É uma descrição técnica da sensação de sobrevoá-la. Quem já fez um voo entre Manaus e Santarém, ou cruzou a fronteira do Amazonas para a Colômbia, sabe do que eu tô falando. Você olha pra janela do avião e, por horas, o chão simplesmente não muda. É um tapete verde-marrom que se perde no horizonte da Terra. Não há montanhas, não há clareiras, não há referência. É a mesma sensação de estar em alto mar, só que em vez do azul profundo e estéreo, você vê um verde que esconde milhões de histórias. Vamos aos números, porque eles ajudam a materializar o absurdo geográfico que a Amazônia é. Ela cobre cerca de 5,5 milhões de quilômetros quadrados. Esse número é tão grande que deixa de fazer sentido para nós. Então, vamos quebrar. A área da floresta é maior do que toda a União Europeia. Você poderia pegar o México e jogar dentro dela 2 vezes. Daria para enfiar a Índia inteira lá dentro e ainda sobraria espaço para um estado do tamanho do Texas. Para cruzar a bacia amazônica de leste a oeste, você teria que viajar uma distância equivalente ao que separa Lisboa de Moscou. Só que em vez de estradas, você tem rios que parecem mares. O rio Amazonas, em seu trecho mais largo durante a cheia, chega a ter 50 km de largura. Você não vê outra margem. Você tá num barco, em meio a um rio, e não vê terra nenhuma em direção. Essa escala colossal cria fenômenos bizarros. Por exemplo, você sabia que a Amazônia tem seu próprio rio subterrâneo? Foi descoberto pelos cientistas, um aquífero que corre 4.000 metros abaixo do solo, acompanhando o trajeto do rio Amazonas. Apelidado de Rio Hansa, ele é muito mais largo do que o Amazonas na superfície e corre de forma incrivelmente lenta, quase imperceptível. É como se a floresta tivesse uma veia aberta na superfície e uma artéria secreta nas profundezas. E falando em artérias, o sistema fluvial é tão intricado que existem pedaços de terra chamados de ilhas fluviais, que são maiores do que países. A ilha de Marajó, na foz do rio, é uma ilha do tamanho da Suíça. A Suíça, um país inteiro com suas montanhas, cidades e história, cabe dentro de uma única ilha formada por sedimentos no meio do maior rio do mundo. E em Marajó, a vida se adaptou de um jeito estranho. Os búfalos pastam em campos alagados e parecem criaturas pré-históricas emergindo da água barrenta. Se a geografia já é descomunal, a fauna é um desfile de bizarrices saídas de um livro de ficção científica mal escrito. Esqueça a onça pintada por um instante. Pense na formiga cabo verde, ou formiga bala. O nome não é exagero. A picada dela é descrita como uma dor lancinante, uma onda de agonia que parece um tiro. Na escala de dor de insetos, ela tá no topo. Uma das piores picadas que existem. É como andar sob carvão em brasa com um prego de 3 polegadas espetado no calcanhar. E o mais bizarro é o ritual de passagem da tribo Sateremaué. Os jovens, para virarem guerreiros, precisam colocar as mãos em luvas cheias dessas formigas e suportar a dor por minutos sem gritar. A mão fica paralisada, o braço inteiro treme involuntariamente por horas. E eles precisam fazer isso 20 vezes ao longo da vida. Sob a água, a bizarrice continua. O candiru é o pesadelo de qualquer um que visita a região. Ele é pequeno, quase translúcido, diz a lenda, alimentada por relatos de exploradores do século XIX, que ele é atraído pelo cheiro da urina e, num ímpeto parasita, invade a uretra de banhistas desavisados. A ciência moderna debate a frequência e veracidade desses casos, dizendo que é extremamente raro e que o peixe normalmente parasita quelvas de outros peixes, mas basta um único caso documentado, com fotos e prontuários para que você jamais, sob hipótese alguma, urine dentro de um rio amazônico. E já que tocamos no assunto do corpo humano e sua fragilidade, vamos voltar ao cenário inicial. Você sozinho, no centro da floresta. O que te mataria? O que te mataria primeiro, provavelmente não seria a onça nem o candiru. Seria a própria mata, um corte no dedo, suado e exposto à umidade de 100%, infeccionaria em horas. Uma micose se transformaria.
No, I can't. Possible. Stupid thumbnail. No.
Maria em uma ferida aberta. Os mosquitos não dariam trégua. Eles transmitem malária, dengue e febre amarela. Mas o pior de todos é o borrachudo, transmissor da oncocercose, a cegueira dos rios. O verme se
It's really bad.
instala sobre a pele e gera larvas que podem migrar para os olhos, causando uma cegueira irreversível. Você estaria literalmente sendo comido vivo de dentro para fora e de fora para dentro, enquanto se afoga em suor, perdido em um labirinto verde de milhares de quilômetros quadrados. Um pesadelo claustrofóbico a céu aberto. A Amazônia é bizarra porque ela é, em sua essência, indiferente. Ela não tá tentando te matar, mas também não fará absolutamente nada para te salvar. Agora, imagina isso à noite. Imagine a Sinfonia Amazônica, um som que nenhum sintetizador consegue replicar, porque ele é tridimensional, ele vem de todos os lados e de nenhum. O achar de milhares de espécies de sapos, cada um com seu ritmo. Imagina ouvir isso sozinho sem conhecer. A cada pio desse pássaro, o seu cérebro primitivo, aquele que evoluiu nas savanas africanas, vai dar o alarme para você correr.
Vou dar mais uma chamada. Olha só. Camarada velho. Agora quem respondeu aí foi a onça mesmo, olha. Agora deu foi certo. Já tô me retirando. Não vou ficar aqui mais nem um minuto.
A bizarrice da Amazônia reside no choque das escalas. Ela é grande demais para a mente humana compreender e ao mesmo tempo opera em uma escala microscópica de fungos, formigas e vírus. É o lugar onde o maior rio do mundo não se mistura, onde uma ilha é um país, onde uma mosca pode matar um império de formigas e onde o topo da cadeia alimentar, uma onça de 60 quilos, pode decidir que você é a janta. É um planeta à parte, é o Oceano Verde, é o lugar mais bizarro e ao mesmo tempo magnífico da Terra. E a única certeza que temos é que nunca, jamais, saberemos todos os seus segredos.
Because that's what the green on the flag stands for. Op. Well. I'll double check those links. Even though I still got stuff to see. I asked it to
Hello, my friends. I'm back with a good news show to help you get through June. And though the headlines will have you thinking otherwise, the world actually hasn't been short of good news lately. So I've got a bunch of stories to share with you, from a major win for one of Florida's last coral reefs, and even some good news from Chernobyl. Who would have thought? If you're new here, I'm Sam, and I make videos highlighting good news and solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. And if you've been here before, it's lovely to have you back. And if you've been enjoying these roundups, tap that like button down below to help spread some goodness on social media that so often likes to throw doom and gloom at our newsfeeds. So let's get into it. Here's some good news you might have missed. And our first story takes us to this place in Singapore. And no, this isn't a park. It's actually a hospital where patients recover alongside gardens filled with butterflies, birds, and dragonflies. This is Khoo Teck Puat Hospital, where nature is built into almost every part of the experience. Every patient is positioned so they can see greenery from their bed, with over 700 species of plants across the site. You'll even find rooftop gardens growing food, along with spaces designed for specific needs, like a dementia garden. It's based on something called biophilic design. Which means bringing nature into buildings to support well-being, because research shows that patients with access to nature can recover faster, feel less stressed, and even report less pain. Projects like this are helping to rethink what hospitals could look like in the future, as not just places for treatment, but spaces that support healing. And from one transformed space to another, over in Germany, a region once scarred by decades of mining has been turned into something nobody would have expected. Germany has transformed former coal mines into Europe's largest artificial lake landscape, turning a once industrial region into a thriving tourism destination. The area, known as Lusatian Lakeland, now spans around 14,000 hectares and includes 23 lakes. For decades, the region was heavily mined for lignite, leaving behind huge craters in the ground. But over time, these pits have been flooded and restored, gradually transforming it into a destination with beaches, harbours, and growing tourism. It's a sign that even landscapes defined by fossil fuels can be reimagined for a different future. Next up, we're heading to the Bahamas, where they've eliminated mother-to-child transmission of HIV, meaning babies are now born free from the virus. Through testing and treatment during pregnancy, transmission has been reduced to almost zero. The milestone has now officially been certified by the World Health Organization, marking a huge moment for public health. Now for something a little more unexpected, this next story takes us to Chernobyl, once the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster that has now become an unlikely wildlife sanctuary where animals are now thriving without humans. After the 1986 explosion forced people to leave, the area was left almost entirely untouched, and in the decades since, animals like wolves, bears, and lynx have returned, along with growing population of Przewalski's horses. I hope I pronounced that right. They're one of the last wild horse species. Some of these populations are now similar to those found in protected nature reserves, despite the area's history. Scientists say the biggest reason for this isn't that radiation is harmless, but that humans are gone. Without farming, hunting, or development, ecosystems have had space to recover, and similar patterns are now being seen in other exclusion zones, like around Fukushima, where wildlife has also returned in large numbers. It's a powerful sign that even after something as devastating as Chernobyl, nature still has the ability to recover if we give it the chance. And staying on the topic of nature's comeback, a major study in Ecuador has found that tropical rainforests can recover over 90% of their biodiversity within just 30 years, when left to regenerate naturally. The researchers looked at more than 8,500 species across 62 different sites, comparing farmland, regrowing forest, and untouched rainforest. They found out that once you stop using the land, trees start coming back quite quickly, and then animals like bats, birds, and mammals help speed things up by spreading seeds and helping plants grow. It's a hopeful reminder that even heavily damaged rainforests don't have to be lost forever if they're also given the chance to recover. Before the last few stories, we're heading to Indonesia, where a group of artists is turning palm leaves into stunning artwork using traditional weaving techniques. They're created by Maker Scene Bali, founded by theatre designer Chloe Quinn and Balinese master weaver Gus Ari, to help replace single-use materials like plastic and styrofoam used in so many event installations. Instead, they make everything by hand, using natural biodegradable materials. Even the way the leaves are sourced is carefully managed, so the trees aren't damaged and can keep growing. They're woven into detailed structures, from huge sculptures and artscapes to wedding and event settings. Over their lifetime, they change from bright green to a rich bronze, celebrating the full life cycle of the leaf. Palm leaf weaving has been used for ritual arts in Bali for generations, and here it's reimagined by local artisans, helping keep these skills alive and relevant today. And from creative wins to conservation wins, a major dredging project in Florida has been halted to protect one of the state's last coral reefs. The plan aimed to deepen and widen shipping channels at Port Everglades to allow larger vessels to pass through. But scientists and conservation groups warned it could seriously damage a nearby reef system. The area is home to around 10 million corals, including one of the largest remaining populations of threatened staghorn coral. These concerns were also shaped by past experience. A similar dredging project effort in Port Miami destroyed hundreds of acres of reef and raised alarms about repeating the same mistake. Now, the US Army Corps of Engineers has stepped back, withdrawing its permit to reassess the environmental impact. For conservationists, this is a major win, but they say the fight isn't over yet as efforts continue to make sure the reef is fully protected. If you're wondering how you can help, there's a link down below here to learn more and support the effort. Now to a bit of a clean energy breakthrough, as a team in the US is working to build the world's first ever super hot geothermal power plant. It aims to tap into extreme underground temperatures of up to 500 degrees Celsius, where a single well could produce far more energy than traditional geothermal systems. The breakthrough comes from a new drilling method that uses high-powered microwaves to break through rock, allowing engineers to reach deeper layers of the earth that were previously out of reach. If successful, this could unlock a new source of clean, always-on energy, expanding geothermal power far beyond the areas where it's currently possible. And our final story is about a company in Belgium that, instead of using plastic, is using fungi to turn waste into packaging. This is Permafungi, based in Brussels, who started out by collecting coffee waste from local cafes to grow mushrooms with, but now they're using that same idea to create packaging materials. Here's how it works. Organic waste like sawdust is placed into molds. Then mycelium, the root-like structure of fungi, is added. As it grows, it feeds on the waste and binds it together, naturally forming the shape of the mold. Once it's dried, it becomes a strong, lightweight material that can be used for packaging. And unlike plastic, it can break down naturally and return to the soil. Packaging waste is one of the biggest sources of global pollution, but this turns waste into a new material using nature to do the manufacturing. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching, and tap the like button if you've enjoyed this video, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next good news episode. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, my friend. Bye!
Hello, guys and gals, me, Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, the Epstein class. Let's crack a cold one to the fact that they exist. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the movie The Matrix, right? There's a scene in The Matrix where, like, Cypher, one of the bad guys, basically says, listen, I know that I'm eating synthetic meat. I'm eating a figment of my imagination, like he's eating a steak. But he knows that he's in this Matrix, right? This world that exists where humans are plugged in like batteries, and they don't even know about the world outside. I wish we lived in that world in some capacity, It's crazy to think that one of the largest human trafficking networks we know exists. We know that files have been released. We know that the conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein still exist out there in the world, but really governments aren't chasing it. The elites, the people that we put into power, they're not really following through. It's crazy to think we live. I would rather, it's fucked up to say, I would rather live when this was all just like a conspiracy theory, because at least, you can kind of cope and say, well, government aren't going after conspiracy theories and false stories. Now you know it's real. They're not chasing it. They're not hunting people down and hunting the rich down, hunting the people that were in this network and putting a stop to things, putting people behind bars. Yeah, it's a black pill. It really is. But it's an even bigger black pill than that is the fact that instead of chasing those people, you got government offices putting all their fucking time and effort into chasing after social media bans. Let's mass surveil the public. Now, look, I'm not here to say that social media is the greatest thing in the world too. Social media, a lot of it is filled with bullshit. Okay, let's be completely fucking honest with ourselves. The reason why I just stopped getting on the internet, it's kind of simpler adage or whatever that word is. Remember that Filthy Frank video where he's like, talking about like arguing on the internet how it's the most pointless fucking thing imaginable? Because really, you don't even know who the hell's on the other side, right? Generally speaking, you go on social media and you find like somebody pretending to be the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, dropping the most hot racist takes, and then you look a little deeper into the account, it's like, oh, accounts in South Asia, accounts in Malaysia, accounts in some other fucking part of the world, and then you realize, wow, I'm really arguing with somebody that's just doing this to make like $150 so they can buy a pack of noodles to feed them through the rest of the week. It's an insane world I live in. But ultimately going into it, one of the most disgusting age verification part of the world is from the UK government. Now, literally a few days ago, I was talking about how literally by using a Graphene OS phone, it was kind of reported that one user received an email that said, whoa, hey, guess what, pal? You're using an operating system that we don't support. So we're not only reporting this to security teams, but maybe even the law enforcement agencies, right? So I don't know what the future of the world is, whether using privacy-focused systems might be breaking the law. But according to the UK Home Office, they're pushing for age verification and social media shit too. They said tech companies like Apple and Google have 3 months. So we've got 3 months. I said the world's gonna change a lot before GTA fucking 6 drops. 3 months is not a long time, okay? I've been yapping about this shit for like over 3 fucking years. 3 months goes by just like that. Activate safeguards on smartphones and tablets. So again, you realize I didn't mention computers in this because I think the UK government has realized, I don't know how we're gonna make this function on computers where motherfuckers can just, even if you're not running Linux, okay? Macs and Windows are still open enough to bypass whatever bullshit they drop. But smartphones and tablets detect and block nude images for children or will be forced to bring legislation to force you to do so. So to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, why would anybody object to this? It's definitely the right thing to do. And ultimately, look, at the end of the day, a lot of people do tend to agree with, like, if you poll, obviously, like individuals, polling data kind of does show that most people are blissfully unaware of what's actually kind of going on. Now, on the surface, I actually think this is a great thing to do, right? Obviously, you don't want any child sending nude images of themselves on their phone. You probably don't want making that image on their phone. So to give you an idea, what is actually kind of happening over here, and why is this a little weird? To give you an idea, right? Social media bans, we'll get to that in a bit, but this is actually where they're specifically talking about taking photos and storing them on your devices. Now, it's interesting how the UK Home Office mentioned this, when in reality, the kind of technology that they're yapping about over here actually fucking exists. For instance, underneath Apple, right, if you buy an actual iPhone, iPhones actually have a lot of child safety features put into them, something that the UK office didn't fucking bring up. For instance, communication safety protects your child from viewing or sharing photos or videos, for example, a picture sent through text messages or a FaceTime video call that contains nudity. If communication safety detects that your child receives this type of content, it blurs the photo or video before your child can view it. Communication safety presents multiple interventions before your child can view or send sensitive content. With these interventions, communication safety provides guidance and age-appropriate resources to make a safe choice. When you set a screen time password, children under 13 can't view the sensitive content without your permission. So to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of iPhones have built-in, I guess you could say vision models, like AI models, whatever the fuck, use a catch-all term, where if you send an image of your ding-dong over to somebody else, like if I took a fucking image of my hog and sent it over to my like significant other, even my phone, if it has these features, which I believe are built in by default, would freak the fuck out and say, are you sure you want to be sending this? You don't want to get groomed now, do you? Now, being in my 30s, obviously, if I'm sending that kind of an image, it's probably to somebody that is totally consensual and okay with receiving. Now, if you're a child, you should never be sending images of your genitalia or receiving it. It's just that simple. And so, for the UK government to make this fucking song and dance about forcing legislation when Apple as a company has put this into their devices, and you might be like, well, Muda, what if they don't have an iPhone? Well, if they don't have an iPhone, they probably won't see this screen. But they probably have an Android device. And at that point, an Android device also provides sensitive content warnings, right? So, for instance, if you're on an Android device and you're sending, I've never sent an image of my hog from an Android device. To be fair, I've also never sent an image of my hog from my iPhone either. So, I've never personally encountered these messages that I've received over here. But I imagine if you were to send an actual like image of your hog from an Android phone over Google Messages, which at this point is pretty much the default messaging application for the most purchased, well, basically almost every Android handset, they will actually detect blur images that contain nudity, right? They'll trigger a warning. They'll provide resources. Same thing you get on iPhone, you're getting on the Google end. Objectively, a good thing right here. So ultimately, right over here, you can say that the feature is currently available in Google Messages, works on images. The feature is turned on by default for supervised users and signed in unsupervised teams. So for supervised users, basically, if you're in a family plan or something like that, or you're in like a family group, your child can't turn that feature on. Unsupervised team, that can be turned off in Google Messages. So they are upfront and honest and saying, listen, by default, it's not a forced situation. But if you are a parent that, and again, in this situation, I've always kind of been the person that says, listen, if you give a shit about this topic, put some fucking effort into parenting your fucking kid, okay? All right? Just because it's your disaster doesn't mean I should live with the tyrannical government watching over me because you can't watch over your fucking disaster, okay? God damn. The reality of it is that I don't know whether it's, you don't have to be like technically literate for this. Like if my dad knows that parental control options exist, I'm sorry, Dad, I know you probably might be watching this at the end of the fucking day. If my dad can figure out computers, then you have no fucking alternative. My dad might be one of the smart, very intelligent when it comes to computer stuff. I mean, like most parents, god damn, let me tell you, Apple UI designers would fucking be fired because I'm pretty sure they're like graded on the effort of like, hey, can the most technically literate person use this device or can they not? So ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like the parental controls that the government is trying to like fucking threaten these companies with exist. So the reality of it is when we talk about the legislation in this case, let's be completely honest. The legislation is basically either going to force every single device to verify the age of their users, because ultimately at the end of the day, the cutoff is 18 plus or under 18. So realistically, if you, I imagine the only way the government foresees legislation like this actually working, and the way that I think that technically it can work is every single mobile device you buy is by default unusable, right? Until of course you set up either an Apple account or a Google account or whatever account on your device. So without setting up an account, the phones literally cannot do a single thing. They will be stuck permanently on the activation. So at that point, once you set up an account, I guess the only way to verify is if you provide some level of identification to either a third-party privacy vendor, which in this case could be something like Yoti or Persona, which also come with their own fucking caveats and controversy. Well, the other thing is you provide that information to like Apple, Google, and you hope and pray that information gets removed, maybe it doesn't get used for something else. And ultimately at that point, everyone will prove who they are when they build an account that then allows any of these smartphones or tablets to operate. So you see the problem that I'm actually having, and I think most people have with the situation, is giving up your information to servers around the world where you then have to trust for those servers to completely remove, right? I think, and again, if we're going to live in this fucking insane clown world, I think the safest way to do this is educate parents that look, the features I just talked about in this video exist. Okay, it fucking exists. Okay, those child protection features exist on they're even running locally. Okay, like they're on the devices. So obviously, look, that's a great thing to educate parents on. Hey, if you really care about your children, which I think most parents do, you will probably take extra care to make sure when you buy them these devices, which are not cheap. Okay, it's not like you go out every year and buy a fucking iPhone for your kid. No, you're probably buying them one device. One
they're probably on a plan with you, and you're paying for that device. You should probably put in the extra effort to make sure, okay, you're connected into my iCloud account, little Billy. Okay, that means you're connected to me. That means anytime you go on the internet, you want to browse shit. Okay, it's going to be through daddy's or mommy's permission. Like literally, WWDC is happening, which is Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, where they show all the new features for their iPhone account. Bro, they literally have put in almost everything, literally as of fucking today. Okay, Apple previews all their new child safety features. So without the government, as a parent, you can make a fucking child account right there. You can basically allow which apps your kid gets to use. So you know, like I don't know, like a Subway Surfers is fine, but maybe not Tinder. You know what I mean? Or Twitter or any of these platforms. Who they communicate with, so you have an understanding of is little Timmy talking to his friend from school, and then it'll even ask you if you want to approve that person in. You know, it turns out to how much you can let your kid use an application, how much you let your kid use your devices. I mean, all the features are there. Okay, that's literally all that matters. So you know, honestly, if you want to fight things like child grooming, which I think all of us do, the features that I just showed you can use to fight bad people. Okay, listen, since the dawn of time, as fucked up as it is, there have been people that take advantage of men, women, and unfortunately children. And in this case, you know, blocking off and implementing massive social media bans and worldwide mass surveillance and locking every device down to the point where you have to verify every tiny thing isn't necessarily the answer. It's basically a nice way for the government offices in this case to push this kind of app onto the average person and allow individuals, allow us to give up our rights so they can mass surveil us anymore. Right? The idea of like fighting, you know, the idea of like, hey, listen, the way to protect kids is to have all our messages scanned, is to you know, provide our identifications out there in the world. To a lot of these things when tabulated together. Look, at the end of the day, it's pretty obvious that the government in this case wants to be able to look at every single message, want to be able to look at every single thing sent, because maybe people are sharing dissenting information that the government doesn't agree with. Maybe you text something wrong, maybe you say something wrong. I think having mass surveillance allows the government to do a lot more fucked up shit with the information that's floating through the internet than just simply protect children. Okay, if you want to protect kids, it's easy to protect kids. Okay, it's called being a fucking parent. But even the guys at Signal say, look, forcing people to prove their age and having all their content scanned simply to exercise their right to communicate is a perilous proposition. And it is, because look, even if you're not somebody that doesn't care about, hey, I don't give a fuck if anybody reads my information. There's a lot of people that do need to have their privacy protected. People that are whistleblowers, people that are journalists, people that live in actual dangerous countries where simply expressing a certain way to live, simply being a certain type of person can put you into danger, right? Like imagine if you're somebody, I don't know, like you're gay or something, and you're living in a country where it's actually a crime to be gay, right? You're communicating with other gay people. Now, imagine if you have everything scanned. Well, now you're suddenly actually a fucking serious risk right there, right? When just the way for you to live is being threatened and watched by a tyrannical government that wants you nothing but dead. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but it's an example that's valid because it does exist in parts of the world, unfortunately, right? If you are somebody that is a journalist talking about breaking a massive story on serious government corruption, do you feel safe talking about that story over channels that could be watched by said government? I know I fucking wouldn't. You know, you've got the White House putting in like YouTubers at this point in their fucking list of people that they're going after or that they're putting watches on. That is never okay. This is why we have privacy to protect us when tyranny finally comes. Don't be fucking daft about it, right? It's literally what it's for. Like the reality of this is that even when you look at the Prime Minister, he's like the government will not stand by while children are put at risk online. Today I'm calling on the tech companies to introduce device-level controls to prevent children from taking, sharing, and viewing nude images. If they don't act, we will. Again, it's like I don't understand. Is this motherfucker ever even been near any technology? Like this motherfucker knows what he's talking about. Dog, I spent the last 15 fucking minutes bringing up every technological measure that you can use. It already fucking exists. They just want to actually push their master. They don't really care about the fucking. If you care about the kids, you'd be like, listen, we're gonna put some serious money into educating dumbass fucking parents, or actually ask me parents that probably don't know any better into how to protect their kids online. We put no fucking public press releases. We put no public television. We would not be pushing mass surveillance under the guise that we're protecting kids. You know, I guarantee you these people are probably salivating at the thought of another fucking terrorist attack happening just to push that as a fucking reason for this kind of crap. As we once did back in the day, right? Back when the Patriot Act was a thing that was introduced, pushed through, and that was kind of the first start into internet mass surveillance. So we've already seen what the government does with things like PRISM, right? Where they're sitting in the background of all these social media networks, tapped in, listening to every single thing that you say. We live in a crazy, creepy dystopia. But I don't think we have to accept that. I think we should always have an option to find the escape out of it and find a way where we can escape this whole hell that we're in and still live freely and still live safely and still live privately. We're not gonna get there if we let fucking scumbags like these politicians get away with this shit. And it's not just the UK, it's Canada as well. The US, fucking France, Australia, every fucking country is doing this shit, okay? Every country's pushing this crazy crap. You know, so I'm not going crazy and just screaming out into the heaven. It's a real fear. It's a real thing you have to be watchful of. And ultimately, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I cracked this cold one at the start of the video, so I'm gonna take a little sip. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, dislike, dislike. It's a good day outside. I just want to enjoy some freedom while I can. I am out. The voice of a generation. You know who it is? That's right, Jason Page, the guy who sang the Pokemon theme song. Actually, one of the most iconic theme songs of all time, and that's kind of inarguable. Jason Page has still been deep in the Pokemon TCG community. I don't know if you knew that or not. He recently found himself in some hot water over some drama about a fake card in his signature, people accusing him of being scummy and scamming kids. I didn't really follow that too closely, but I did see his response. And there's a couple of wacky little nuggets in his response that I can't resist the urge to talk about. Hello, Internet. I've seen what's circulating, a video of a vendor's reaction to a trade I made with kids back in March, claiming that I'm a con man who scammed them with a fake card. I want to address this directly.
Fair enough. Amen. That's the best way to do it. That's how you handle business like a man. Get out there, hang on, let your nuts air out a bit, get your chin on it, and maybe get your teeth on it too, and start staring a little bit. Now, something I didn't know about till all this hoopla started bubbling over is that Jason Page seems to have given himself the title of the voice of a generation. It's integral to his marketing. Am I the only one that finds that a little peculiar and kind of douchey? No doubt what he contributed to Pokemon is huge. That theme song is still one of the most iconic boner jams of all time. But I don't know, I've just always found that kind of stuff like, it's me, the voice of a generation. Just to be really, it's a little yucky. Especially like checking his website, he also sells voice of a generation custom cards that he signs for $50 as well as other signed Ultramonks for a lot of money. But anyway, this has nothing to do with like the scandal that he found himself in that he's now making this video for. I just saw this and thought it was odd. Like, I assumed that the convention was the one calling him the voice of a generation, you know, to hype it up on their marketing. But no, it seems like that's Jason Page's decision.
I understand your anger when seeing and hearing all of this. The instinct to protect a kid is the right instinct. I'd have the same reaction if I heard that kids were getting scammed. But here's what the vendor's video didn't show you. The truth is that the trade we made was absolutely fair and in their favor.
So in a nutshell, what happened is some kids went up to another vendor to trade a card, and that vendor gave them a valuable Gengar, which they then took to Jason Page, that Gengar that's in front of him, and they traded it for one of his signed cards, which apparently didn't hold equal value, or it was a fake card as people were alleging, and that's where all of this stems from. So this is his response to those allegations.
I'm going to talk about this in terms of plain costs, not potential market value, which could be significantly higher. This card is a top 1 autographed, inscribed, graded AGS 10 company custom promo card. They don't sell these. It's a limited item. The vendor claims that it's a fake card, but it's clearly a promo card indicated by their logo on the back. And there's a market for promo cards. Many vendors, including myself, carry and sell signed, graded, authenticated promo cards that have been selling them for years.
There's a lot of misleading mumbo jumbo in there. So top 1, what that refers to is how many cards of this kind exist when it comes to grading cards. So low top means rare, and usually means more valuable. In this case, it means about as much as this card. I don't know if you hear that with the mic and the noise gets out, but what I'm saying is it's empty stickiness, because what has been graded is they call it a promo card, but it's a custom card from this company that they've rated themselves as a 10, which is already fucking shady. That's already weird. It's not an official real card per se. It's real in like tangible sense, as in it exists, therefore it is. We can bring out the fucking Renee card here, we get real philosophical, but it's not a legitimate actual official Pokemon promo card. You can tell just from the back. That's not even a real Pokemon card back. So it's not really a market for it as he suggested. Again, this is just a one-of-one from this company that they've created themselves that no one's really fishing for. So that's already kind of a little peculiar for him to be trying to paint it in that way, at least in my opinion. What he says next is just categorically false.
At all my events, AGS, for those of you who don't know, is the 3rd largest grading company by volume right now behind PSA and CGC. They give out these promo cards and they're limited, so there's a small resale value, probably $5 for some. Graded authenticated autographs can sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars.
That is a liar plan for hire moment right there. AGS, by no metric, no stretch of the imagination, not even your wettest pipe dream, is the 3rd biggest card grading service by volume or by fantasy and imagination either. When you look up all of the grading companies ranked by volume, almost nobody even bothers to include AGS because their volume is significantly lower than the big 5, or I've seen it go as far as like 8 grading services, and AGS doesn't even break into that. Their volume is just not anywhere near what Jason Page is saying, where it's the 3rd largest. There's no one on the planet that thinks that. Nobody at AGS probably thinks that either, because it's just provably false. So I don't know why he's trying to say that, so it sounds better. Although this is very prestigious, this is AGS 10, AGS custom card, but it's just not true. No matter how you spin it, AGS is not one of the biggest players in the card grading space. And when you look into them, every source talks about how they are a much smaller and newer addition to the hobby. I actually didn't even know anything about AGS until Jason Page mentioned it. And I'm someone who's very deep in the card collecting hobby. I fucking hate card grading. It's a complete scam, but I'm not going to sit here and rant and rave about it. But yeah, AGS is not what he's hyping up the emblazonment that way. That's very misleading. It is just not accurate. And also, I think it's very weird that AGS rated their own custom card that Jason Page signed as a 10. That feels already very odd. Because another big thing about card grading is that it also is card authentication, so you know you're doing something real, something genuine. But here, it's not an official real Pokemon card. It's a custom one of their own company that has a 10 on it. I feel like you don't need to think too hard. Only a few neurons need to be activated here to deduce why this might come across as a little shady.
The custom promo ABS card that I had previously autographed and inscribed, which are two different things. Here is my price list. I post this at all the shows for the past 3 years. This is where it's in. The top tier is the base price of the 2 versions of my signature. The one on the ABS card was the $100 full autograph.
And yes, I couldn't believe these prices when I saw them. I'm not a convention goer. I've only been to like 2 efforts. I've never done like like meet and greets are paid for, like, you know, a celebrity autograph or a photo or anything, so I don't know what all prices are. These feel outrageous to me. So if you look here, his regular signature is $50 and it's his fucking initials basically. But if you want his full name, like his full signature, it's $100. It's double the price to do his full name versus his initials. And it goes all the way to a premium item charge of plus $150 for it if you want it in 2 colors. It's like these prices they show on the floor. I don't know if this is standard practice, but what the fuck? I was always under the assumption that at these conventions, the meet and greet you pay for an autograph or a photo or both. I didn't know it got so deep into the nitty-gritty, nickel and diamond, where you can pay for initials or you can pay double for a full signature. It's not cheap for the initials either. It's $50 and then you only look like $150 charge for the item that you haven't signed. It feels extremely high. That's what I want to say about that.
There was an inscription for me on my card, which I charged $25
Be
for.
so
After I signed
full
the
of
card,
yourself like
$18
that.
plus shipping. People spend money on grading because it has
So
value.
proud
So
of yourself.
and for $18 grading costs, we're at $148 plus whatever the shipping cost might be for you. It was rated 10, the higher the rate, the higher value, which gives it a more inherent value to a collector. Let's just stick with the pure costs that were calculated, about $150 total costs.
Yeah, I suppose you can break it down that way, but I don't think that's
So
really
many
good.
people
Because
feeling
signature is the main bulk of that
suicidal.
value, and you have assigned that value yourself. So you could say tomorrow I'm raising my cost
Feeling
of
great about themselves.
And
there are people that are on the opposite side of the spectrum. They're gonna charge so much for a fucking signature. There will be people being suicidal out there.
Yes, the card. The kid's traded with me. There's a video of the kids holding up this exact card. You can't
I'm
see
so full of myself. You gotta pay for my signature.
The vendor's also posting a screenshot of a Gengar card in his video, but it's not a photo of this actual card we traded. It's just something he grabbed from somewhere else. In the card world, the condition of the card determines its value above almost everything else. The kids were told by this vendor that this card was worth $150.
So when this video popped off about this whole situation here, a lot of people view the vendor as like a really good guy giving the kids a great card worth $150 as claimed. It's a Japanese fossil Gengar. And Jason Page here is about to show you that this isn't a $150 Gengar that he gave them.
Now, let me show you this card. This is an ungraded Gengar Japanese fossil. At first glance, the condition looks like a heavily played HP at best. Clearly, you zoom in, you can see the ding here, the scratch there, the scratches everywhere. Another ding over there, the card, the foil is sticking out almost on all the edges of the card. There's a whole bunch of scrapes on the bottom. This thing is scraped more than any other Gengar I have seen online in the sold items. This could be labeled damaged.
I think it's inarguable that that card is damaged. That card looks like it was scratched by the house cat and they used that card as toilet paper in their guest bathroom. That card is disgusting. That card is in a terrible spot. It is in awful shape. It is not a $150 pristine card that he traded with them, as the claim was. This card, $150. It is not. In that condition, you'd be lucky to get that shit away for fucking $10. I'm exaggerating that it's probably like a $40 card. That's being pretty generous. That's assuming someone wants a really damaged copy of it in the first place.
As there are some like this on TCG Player and eBay. The vendor told them that their 2 cards are worth $77. So it was traded for $77 of value, but the vendor states it's worth $150. So based on TCG Player and eBay recent sales, that's just not true. The actual market value for this card in HP condition might be about $75. And here's how I arrived at that. You can see the TCG Player and eBay sales listings. You can see that if you zoomed in on all the cards, there's absolutely no card in any of these sold items that's even scratched as much as this is.
And he's exactly right. The reason why I think it would be $70 is because this one's in much worse shape than like all the other damaged cards I've seen listed on TCG Player as well. It's in horrible shape. It is not the $150 value that he told the kids that it was. Now, whether or not he did that maliciously to get a better deal for himself, because now he got $77 worth of value from those 2 cards to him, and he only had to part with a damaged Gengar that I guarantee he probably couldn't have moved in the first place. I don't know if he did that on purpose or he just didn't know. I'm going to tell you, knowing what I know about the card community, I feel like it's very unlikely he didn't know that it was in such horrible shape. It wasn't actually worth $150. I think this is also a lesson that vendors at card conventions and just in general in the community aren't really looking out for your best interest to give you the best deal. Like, oh, it's so cool, champ. Yeah, absolutely. I'll trade this card for $2 million, and they hand you like a fucking common from, you know, Twilight Masquerade.
We just calculated the cost value of the promo card I traded to be about $150, and the market value of this Gengar at the very high end appears to be about $75. I don't want to make this about myself. Those who know my history know that I've been on the side of feeling taken advantage of before in my career, and it shapes how I think about fairness and transparency and kindness.
Now, I honestly don't know a whole lot about Jason Page post Pokemon theme song, so maybe he is like an amazing guy. Very possible. What I can tell you is the way he calculated his own card value is also not entirely buyable, I'll say. But being very generous using that terminology, I don't think that's exactly the fairest way of calculating the value he gave to the kids trade either. So he is right that the vendor did not give them the card he said that he gave them, a $150 value card, but he is wrong that his trade was like a great one for them, and it's, you know, $150 worth of value for his trade. I think that is also incorrect.
I know you came back to my booth later that day and you traded that promo card back with us for another Jason Page autograph card, and you left happy with that trade as well. However, if you are not happy, I'd love to connect with you in private, and we can all look at these cards together. And if you want this Gengar back instead, we can trade back for this.
So according to Jason, they actually came back and traded that card with them again for another Jason Page autograph card. So I'm assuming they didn't want the HGS promo Jason Page signed card. They probably wanted a real Pokemon card there. I'm just assuming I haven't heard anything about that outside of Jason Page talking about it here. And he says, if you're not happy with that though, we can trade back into the Gengar. All right, I mean, that's fair enough, I suppose. He didn't say how he would never like scam anyone in the community or anything like that. But anyway, well, yeah, but because I do think there are a few things in here that are very misleading with the way he presents the card he traded with them. Yeah, he's 100% right about the Gengar. I think he did a good job showcasing that the vendor was not being truthful about that trade in the very beginning. But I do think the way he defended his autograph card by using provably incorrect information about AGS and the volume and, you know, this and that is just a little not true. So I wanted to just blabber about it, I suppose. Hello guys and gals, me and Boy, we have something creepy to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you can hear about this creepy ChatGPT glitch that dropped the night before. I was driving home last night and apparently people were sharing some of the creepiest images ever like shared on the internet. Okay, give me sort of an idea, ladies and gentlemen. How does this all begin? Well, somebody said basically if you go to like ChatGPT and you ask it, restore the attached photo, apologies for the photo's contents. I know it's extremely strange. No questions, no explanatory text, just the restore image, generate image. So basically people were going to like ChatGPT and God knows how much compute was being used here. Definitely a lot. People are generating some crazy images. Now what kind of crazy images, ladies and gentlemen? Well, immediately I saw this and I was like, oh boy, I think I should make a video to talk about how downright disturbing some of this stuff is. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's some other photos that are being generated. For instance, this one right over here, similar character sitting inside a pool, which appears to be an absolute, I guess you could say, irradiated wasteland. You know, some straight out of Call of Duty 4's like was it like the Ukraine mission? Where you're like sneaking through. Yeah, 50,000 people used to live here, ladies and gentlemen. Today, only this synthetic being. So of course, ultimately there were even more images that were being shared around one of this alien. Now, they have to blur out the nipples. I don't even know if they are. Yeah, I think there are alien nipples in this somehow. So I think we're a little bit feisty with some of these generations. Of course, some of these can be quite normal. For instance, like this one right here, of an alien smoking or ripping a bong, if you will, right? Of course, there are also other images too that were being generated. For instance, this girl with an uneasy smile looking over her shoulder, seeing this weird fucking thing standing out there. Now it's got what appears to be a nose for a nose, and I don't really know how to describe it. Yeah, it's actually fucking unsettled. So of course, there were some more images too. For instance, two people fed at this prom. They got an image what appears to be a baby sitting on top of whatever this thing is, and just again, like this cardboard. It looks like an image from like the 90s, if you will, very early 2000s. And of course, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, it just got weirder and weirder from here. I don't know about you guys, but this shit looks pretty fucking cursed to me, ladies and gentlemen. In some cases, the Japanese folks getting involved over here fed at the prompt. They immediately got an image of what appears to be this little girl sitting next to this demonic like figure. Give me Silent Hill 3 vibes. If I'm being completely real. So a lot of people can have, a lot of people can ask is how does the image mod when fed this simple prompt with no image to restore? Think of some of the craziest things right over here. Man sitting with a crucifix in his hand while a giant, I would say, was like a bluefin tuna sitting with. How would you generate an image of this fucking crazy Donnie Darko looking shit inside what appears to be very derelict kill dungeon? And of course, we all know where this image kind of comes from. Where ultimately the hands aside, Todd Howard should be the one wearing that. Teletubby outfit, holding the shotgun. And the image that I actually have to block out, which is the most disturbing by far. This image is of a girl laying inside a kitchen, completely passed out. Again, I don't know where this image sort of came from, where the training information really fired from, but it is genuinely unnerving. Other images I found too were obviously of Barney sitting inside this room with chairs all around him on top of what appears to be a electric. So again, ladies and gentlemen, again, it just keeps getting more and more disturbing. People overnight were finding out that when fed this prompt, we would get images of the former president Bill Clinton laying next to an alien. Now I would consider this to be more on the funny end, but yeah, you kind of wonder, it's like the same prompt. Everyone's getting sort of all these vastly different images, right? What the fuck is going on? Why are we getting Majin Buu sitting inside what appears to be or laying down in this derelict dance sort of like room? It really does have sort of these like early 2000 kind of vibes, right? Like somebody captured this on like a Polaroid or something. I don't know what kind of training data would be required to produce this image, like basically being like latched on somewhere. I don't even know if it's like it actually has like orthopedic replaced by little hook chains. Maybe it's like fused together because the model's hallucinating. I don't know where in hell you would get the training data to like end up getting this from the prompt provided. Of course, certain images that were generated start to show you exactly where the training data got its images from. We've all probably seen this, and it looks creepy as fuck. Actually, this generated image is pretty much shot for shot similar to an image of I believe it was like a kids party or something, maybe like a hospital or something. I don't know the entire context of the story. You can see that a bunch of these creepy Teletubbies, or like these Teletubby like costume members were sitting around this kid, and obviously the way the photo is taken, the lighting all makes it look creepy. But this was posted 10 years ago. So yes, you can kind of see that it's, you know, you take all of humans like actual, you take all of the actual like data off the internet and put it together. Yeah, you can basically generate weird recreations directly of those images. And sometimes man-made horrors like this baby being held, this creepy looking at. So one thing that's kind of a commonality for this entire piece is obviously the graininess of the footage, the low light, and yeah, everything does look creepy. So I want to kind of dive into this and see exactly what was happening. So I'm getting my own local artificial intelligence because now I'm not going to fuck with ChatGPT. I'm not even going to give them my attention here in this case. I'm going to see, can I attempt to do this locally? So I got my own local Hermes model. Actually fired up two models, a large language model and a small image generation model. And basically I had the exact same prompt that people were feeding ChatGPT and actually built some images. So for instance, on the small stable diffusion model, it built images immediately like this, right? I don't know where the training data for this could come from, but it genuinely is very creepy. A lot of things
sort of mixing together. For instance, images like this. I wouldn't necessarily say that's creepy, but you can see that it's got old, restored, sort of everything kind of has sort of this, it sort of has this like similarity in terms of restoration. How the fuck does this work, ladies and gentlemen? This is a weird, creepy, possibly glitch that people have found. I agree with you. Now, image models, you just download them and run them yourself. So if you want to not use ChatGPT, you just run this stuff on your own. But to give you an idea how ChatGPT kind of works is, according to them, this is their image generation model, and actually has been like releasing every year. It's a huge part of ChatGPT. Basically, we make these images, you feed this natural language, and ChatGPT will create an image based on the prompt that's fed into. Now, I guess if you want to kind of look into how images are made, basically at the end of the day, the way that images are produced is in multiple ways. One of the most popular is what we call like reverse diffusion, or just diffusion models in general, stable, reverse, or whatever. You see that image starts off like this, and when you feed an image of like say dog or Shiba Inu, the denoising starts to happen based on the context, the tokens, and sort of like all the regressions that happen afterwards. So it starts from here, and it ends up with this kind of smeary looking AI image. You can tell images are always AI. You like garbled fucking text, like a weird smear, or like a weird like uncanny stare into the camera that like a lot of the characters that generates makes, right? So that's kind of I guess a rough example of how shit like this works. I don't know if you guys remember things like Loeb, for instance. Loeb was this creepypasta character that was discovered by an individual that basically found that when they were prompting in negative weights accessing the latent part of these models, they would actually generate this fucking creepy character. They would generate the same character that would pop up in numerous different images, right? It would be just this persistent demonic looking character that would pop up. And I think it was something when they were actually prompting with like the -1. So basically they would just have like Marlon Brando, but they would generate the -1 would probably bring in like Loeb in some capacity into the image. How the fuck does this kind of shit works? Well, let's actually look at the prompt really quickly and just kind of demystify like how you get into that creepypasta side of like fucking LLMs, right? It's not magic. It's not like we just uncovered the dark side of the fucking spooky system. Basically, there's 4 steps to how this whole thing basically structured itself, right? One of them is the fact that the anchor for this entire thing is missed. So for instance, when you first start out and say restore the attached photo, basically there's actually no restoration. You never fed it a photo. So effectively that latent block has nothing visual to actually grab into. Basically, kind of denoises it like some sort of vacuum, right? It doesn't have the image to restore. So at that point, emotions start to actually take over. Now, AI doesn't have emotions, but it does start to pick up on certain words. So for instance, the word very strange and don't accept explanation by themselves are not nothing. But combined together, the AI is going to associate that to hey, there's this photo that I don't know. And it seems to be disturbing because the person said it's strange and don't accept explanations, right? You could replace the word very strange with very sexy or very very sweet, and you could get far different photos, right? Strange could actually be accelerated by saying it's very scary, very horrific, very violent. You understand? Except probably violent would probably trip the image generation model and go, hold on, can't make anything illegal. And of course, the third aspect of it is the word restore. Like I said, restoration. Like one of the images that we saw, very low light, very like dimly lit, almost felt like footage that was basically restored. The word restore literally feeds right into that actual prompt. And of course, because image generation, our regression takes over. So once you already have all these like 3 things, they compound more and more as the image is generated. Basically meaning that yes, people have found a way to make ChatGPT, and to be honest with you, most similar vision models, more similar image generation models create creepy shit, right? It's one of the reasons why like again, a lot of these like companies put in guardrails to make it so that people can't find ways to use their image or video generation models, make stuff that is very very grotesque, very disturbing, in some cases possibly illegal. And yeah, it's kind of like the actual thing demystified. You know what I mean? Like last time I saw this, I was like, there is some creepy shit floating around. And of course, the rational part of me came in and said, no, this is just people who found a way to like write a specific prompt to go from normal images being generated to actual spooky, disturbing images being swapped out. And that's basically kind of the story over here. So I guess like, at the end of the day, listen, if you hate me, at least you kind of learn something on this channel. A lot of it has me to, a lot of stuff has me excited, but at least I can kind of explain to you guys how this crazy black magic technology actually works. No, there was actually no creepypasta. There was actually no horror. Actually, this is working pretty much as intended. You know, the AI takes this prompt and it basically grabs onto these 4 steps that it collapses on, and that's what leads to again, Barney sitting alone in a fucking satanic ritual room. Yeah, there's no, a lot of people are wondering, maybe this is the secret way to unlock the parts of the training data where you can prove that ChatGPT trained off of like really illegal shit. And ultimately, that's a very serious accusation to make. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, the training data for a lot of the stuff is basically grabbed from every single corner of the internet. Some of the most positive goofy cat videos, some of the most insane creepypasta photos that you've ever seen float around. You know, Jeff the Killers, your Russian sleep experiments, you know, your goddamn like Ben Drowned, if anything, everything that has been trained off of the spooky side of the internet still exists in this training data somewhere, right? Anytime you use the words creepy, scary, or horrific, you're always sourcing and bringing out that part of the space in the training data to reflect itself into your generated image. So at least you thankfully learned something. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be so scared, ladies and gentlemen. ChatGPT is not full of spooks like a large language model. It's just trained on a lot of data, and it's correlated points to other points, and has made billions of parameters of information. So very shocked when you go to an actual image generator and you ask it, hey, generate a strange image, makes those images, and you go, oh my god. I think one of the things I may have to ask is obviously the spookiest image in this is like a girl passed out on the floor of the kitchen. You kind of wonder where the training data kind of came, you know, for that. Maybe it came from like some social media post, maybe it came from some dark corner of like a chat thread. These are questions I think are worth asking. But ultimately, the creepy stuff is only generated because that's just the direction everyone fucking prompted the thing to take in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, there's been creepypasta floating around on ChatGPT. It's been floating around for years. People are finding ways to break into that spooky side of the internet, or at least these LLM models. You know, if it's on ChatGPT, I'm sure it can probably also be found on other image generation models, you know, things like Gemini, what else generates stuff. I don't really know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, yeah, creepy shit, man. I was driving over, I was like some of these images, and I was like, oh my god. And I actually looked into it, researched it, and you know, it all made sense. If you like yourself, please like, comment, subscribe, just like, have you ever been so inebriated that you tinkle your britches? Interesting. Have you ever been so drunk that not only do you wee your trousers, but you also happen to be a federal judge who was operating a motor vehicle at the time of the urination after crashing through multiple signs without even realizing that that's happened, and then avoid jail time as well? I don't think so. I feel like that might be exclusive to Thomas Langton here, whose body cam dropped a couple months ago, showing just how super drunk, which is an actual term by the way, he was while operating this vehicle that could have led to not only the death of himself, but the death of innocent people. Again, he hit signs, but also just as easily been people. So we have to remember this is a geriatric fossil who happens to be a federal judge, so obviously he's not going to get any real punishment. So we got the lightest slap on the tuchus with some probation. And when you believe sports fans, Thomas Langton couldn't even do that, right? He's already in less than 3 weeks since this ruling failed to submit for his alcohol and drug test. And I still don't believe he's going to get any consequences for that. They're teasing the idea that maybe he spends a brief stay in the slammer, but I honestly don't even think that'll happen. It's just so fucking ridiculous. Anyway, let's take a peek at Thomas Langton's turbo drunk driving body cam. The term that they use is super drunk, by the way. Take a look at this side. Sir, can you get out of the vehicle or is your door stuck? No. He was driving around like bubble here. Every single airbag that's ever existed is all just blown up all at once in this guy's vehicle, and he's still driving that bitch around, having no idea that anything's even awry. He is so drunk this guy probably thinks he's in a space shuttle right now.
Not exactly sure why. He's deployed.
You're not sure why? No. Okay. Well, inside your car, we're gonna take you struck something. Like, okay. You do a favor, walk around the back of your car, okay? What seems to be the problem, officer? Oh, your airbag deployed. Yeah, I'm as confused on that as you guys are. We're all thinking the same thing, right? How could these airbags deploy when there's clearly no damage to my vehicle? Curious case, quite the conundrum. As you can see, the vehicle's fucking shoot up and spit out tons of damage from hitting the signs they blasted through. He's like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going on here. So hot. It's just a manufacturing error. I don't know why these deployed. Okay. Do me a favor, stop. Back your car. Back your car. Back your car. Step over back your car. Okay. Step. Put your bike inside your car. Put your car right here. Okay. Perfect. What's your name? My name? Yeah. Tell me how much I drink today. Nothing tonight. Nothing. No. Okay. Did you take anything? You don't even know. No. Tom did this also really hard. So, spoiler alert, he is hammered. This dude is plastered so much so that he peed himself. So that's why you're going to see his lower body censored. He's not hanging on there. He's not, you know, fucking in his birthday suit downstairs or anything. It's because he peed himself, so I guess they had to blur that. I'll go ahead and give you the video on VAC. It was a 0.27. And you can see he is not handling that well. His body's at war with that alcohol in there. He feels like on the verge of shutting down. The way he cannot like listen to any of what the officers are saying, nor can he actually move his body overly effectively. So like as they're telling him to get against the car, it wasn't registering with him. He's fucking lagging. So they basically had to like move him there themselves manually. Like he couldn't do it all naturality anymore. So they had this whole interaction. He literally cannot process anything of what they're saying, nor can he like actually pilot his own body throughout the talking because he's so drunk. Okay. Well, you're in an accident here. You struck some signs. Your vehicle was hauled in. Your airbag went. So tell me you struck something, right? I'm actually a federal judge. Okay. It's always incredible to me how every single person in a position of power when they get pulled over by the police on at least most of the body cam I've seen instantly try and use that to like weasel their way out of it. So this guy's slightly mentioning actually I'm a federal judge because he's under the impression that I just get off of this instantly, but it didn't immediately. That had to come later when the corruption really got to take place. Step away from your vehicle for me. I'll wait for your vehicle for me. Step toward me one step. Yeah, toward me one step. Okay, very good. Right, so you got the vehicle for me. Yeah. Your right side. Okay. You see my finger? You're looking at my finger. You're looking at me. You're looking at my finger. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Once you follow my finger, your eyes up over your head. Okay. You understand that? Yeah. Okay. Need you look at my finger. Yeah, I can follow my finger. You understand? Okay. Right. You follow me? Look at my finger. Okay. Yeah. All right. You're not tracking my finger. Right. You're looking at me. Once you look at my finger for me, right? Yeah. Look at that. You see the finger? Okay. Track my finger with your eyes. Now move your head. Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Move your head. You need to move your chest. Not doing that at all. Smash that one. That was expertly done. Holy Toledo. This guy has to go back and I'll tell you what. So Tom over here really putting on a strong showing for being sober. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being sarcastic here. She's actually just so Tommy's so fucking drunk.
He couldn't even figure out how to step forward towards the officer until like the 10th time he asked him to do so. He still didn't even understand what like the tracking the finger meant. He basically kept locking eyes romantically with the officer. Every time the officer tried to move his finger, he just stayed looking straight through the officer's soul. And only once he noticed the finger and then followed it. And the officer recognized this was going nowhere. It was like trying to teach a dog to do a backflip. It just wasn't landing, so he just says, look, you're not doing this at all. So instead we went to a different field sobriety test because this one was a bit of a dud. Right, no, sir, I want you to follow my instructions. Just stop that one again. Right? I want you to imagine that straight line right there. Okay? I want you to place your left foot on that line. I want you to place your right foot on your left foot, heel, change that for me. so? No, sir. Won't you watch my... Okay. All right, sir. Won't you stay right here? Step back and get strong so we can get strong. Another books, Thomas, one of the best walkers on the planet. You see the way he does that with just authority? He invented walking. Holy Toledo, Thomas. I've never seen someone sober or drunk walk so effectively, so confidently. See the way he held his chin high like that? Damn, looking at a savant. So the officer's trying to explain to him like the next one's gonna be walking straight line. But Thomas is like, all right, now walk. Like he's giving commands to his body to follow. Like voice commands are so calm, but he also calm on PlayStation 2. So he starts walking. Wait, there's no weights. Maybe it started again. You're right. Now walk. He does it again. He starts his waddle. The officer he calls that one pretty quickly. He recognizes that was going nowhere. A really interesting speedrun strategy though from Thomas. That's cool. He actually sequence broke this. I haven't seen that before. He may have just changed the meta for speedrunning field sobriety test. I gotta tell you. No, I can't. Well, I'll show you real quick. I gotta get Scooby-Doo and the crew out there, Thomas. You're right. We're all confused on how those airbags deploy. It's just not adding up. It's not making any sense. Yeah. You see the damage inside your vehicle? Yeah. Okay. Was this here when you started your drive up? It was not. No. Okay. We had to report your vehicle struck some signs on the road. About a mile back that way. Okay. Would you explain your airbag deploy? Here in Emmett? Yeah. On this road. Just about a mile back that way. I can't explain. You have no memory of the signs? No. Well, in that case, Thomas, there's only one realistic explanation here. A burglar must have broken into Thomas's car, kidnapping him, dosing him with amnesia juice or forgetful liquid, and then put on a joyride, blasting signs, causing damage, panicking, freaking out, leaving him, and staging Thomas in the driver's seat, all without his knowledge and elaborate frame job. So, question remains: who's the perpetrator? We got a maniac on the loose. We got to catch them. Thomas, you got to think really deep. Who did this? Which one of these scoundrels out there broke into your car and busted through a bunch of signs and framed you for it? Can you pick a number between 19 and 21? Can you pick a number between 19 and 21? Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, why? What would be just the question I'm trying to assess? 15. Okay. I actually busted out laughing when he said that. I've never seen this in a field sobriety test before. Pick a number between 19 and 21. And I thought he was just like fooling around, just having fun. Now at this point, it's so clear that this guy's hammered. But I see him further out into just how drunk this guy is because they haven't even do the breathalyzer because he was chewing gum, which I guess is like an issue when doing the breathalyzer, so that had to wait, which is why showing the damage on the car to poke around about like what happened. And in the meantime, while doing that and still waiting for the breathalyzer, he asked this question, and the guy's like, oh, kind of hard. I mean, it's a brain buster. A number between 19 and 21. Shit, bro. There's too many options to pick from. Oh man, this is kind of magic tricks about weird riddle. And then the guy says 15. It's like honestly, kind of a galaxy brain field sobriety test. Like I've never heard that. That was kind of hard. This guy's so fucked up. And according to him, he's been driving for over 3 hours. Do you know how many people's lives were in jeopardy for over 3 hours with this guy who can't even answer the most basic question imaginable? Behind the wheel of the vehicle like this, he's already multiple times. Who's to say he didn't also cause other mayhem across this 3.5-hour expedition? That is some frightening, scary shit. What I want you to do is I want you to recite your ABCs for me without singing. You didn't see anything with you. You can remember A, B, C, D, E, F, U, R, A, T, S, E, R, C, D. Every time I watch that one, it gets better and better. So that's recite your ABCs. I'm gonna give him the Thomas. You know, cool rush to that one. I don't think we need any evidence to confirm how drunk this guy is. He also said that it's not medications or anything. It's taking medications. There's only one culprit left here, and it's ye old alcohol in his system. But these, I haven't seen these two field sobriety tests done before. And like I thought he was just taking the piss at first, but clearly this is just in Thomas's pants. These are effective as FSTs because he is failing the fuck out of them. He is flunking hard. He can't even do his ABCs. And then when he tries to desperately start singing them, all hell breaks loose as well. I'm arresting you for dropping the influence. You are very clearly intoxicated. They tried to revisit the breathalyzer, but Thomas tried to get a little tricky on him, so he wasn't exactly following the directions or doing it properly. Eventually, it does end with them arresting him for driving while intoxicated, which I think pretty clear evidence to support that. And then they did actually just DAC, which was the 0.27.
Like I say, that I am disappointed in myself. I mean, in front of you this morning. I apologize to you. I also apologize to all the other drivers that I shared from which were not happy. Yes, Lights was arrested in October last year for drunk driving. According to the prosecutor, time he was arrested, blood alcohol content level was 0.270, which under Michigan law falls under a super drunk charge.
I don't know, just it sounded like he was slurring his words during that as well. I feel like he was already fucking drunk by the time he was trying to make that apology to everyone. They're like, so disappointing, I can't believe that. I don't have this one foundation. I don't know what came over here. It's like he's still drunk. Like, probably since that arrest, he just had a day of sobriety. But maybe it's the audio quality. I don't really know. But yeah, under the Michigan laws, there super drunk charges. It was misdemeanor charges and no prison time. Instead, they just want to make sure he stops drinking alcohol.
I think that it is more than appropriate for the court to place your operation to make sure that you're continuing to abstain from alcohol.
I don't know why we're taking this so lightly here. He was super drunk driving and doing so. Two signs that we know of. It could have been a lot more chaos out there across his journey that we just don't know about. That wasn't reported. This is something that should be taken far more seriously. Instead, just all right, it was pretty embarrassing. It was no good. But we need to make sure that you abstain from alcohol going forward. Okay, that's the punishment. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, it's because he's a federal judge. I mean, everyone knows exactly why he's getting no punishment. A normal person would get some serious punishment, I imagine. Though sometimes if the person also has extenuating circumstances, aka money, they did away with it too sometimes. But in a lot of cases, a normal person doing the exact same thing this judge did is not going to be getting this kind of sentence. It's just complete fuckery. This is just so outrageous. He was a danger to himself and everyone on the road, knowingly drunk driving, super drunk driving. Excuse me, I'll use the proper nomenclature. And he doesn't get any consequences for it at all. Other than I guess like the shame and the embarrassment of how stupid he looks in the body cam. It's just not right. It's just so ridiculous. Like I said, he couldn't follow through with the demands of probation, which is just submitting for the drug and alcohol test twice weekly. He already failed that. Yeah, I just wanted to yap about this. That's really about it. Hello guys and gals, me Muhar, and yesterday a PlayStation reveal, a state of play happened, something that apparently was like in theaters. And I'll be really real with you, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a system that has been released in 2020, so 6 years ago lifespan. And I'm just gonna be real with you. I really think that these games that are coming out are all that crazy impressive. Now, I want this video to come across as like a totally negative thing. Actually, one of the things I dread talking about with video games specifically these days is just talking about video games for actually what they are, as opposed to the culture war fighting that happens back and forth. There's a reason why I've talked less and less about a lot of games recently. It's not because I'm not a fucking gamer anymore. I love playing video games. All right, bitch, I was playing some goddamn Left 4 Dead 2 the other day with the boys. We're playing this Resident Evil mod of the game, which like allowed you to fucking play the entirety of the first game in Left 4 Dead engine. Totally crazy shit. I like playing video games. The reality of it is that I'm somebody that I feel like I'm living in the fucking like Twilight Zone. Where I feel like everyone that I want to talk to about like, video games is so like detached from it. And I'm just the only one that sort of sees everything for the repetitive nature that kind of is. So anyways, yesterday, PlayStation had this reveal, and there was like a whole bunch of games they showcased, right? They showcased Cool Indie stuff like this bunch of the shit. I played the David Diver games. Love that shit. Absolutely wouldn't mind playing this masterpiece. I'm sure it's gonna be a masterpiece. There's a lot of remakes, like a Tomb Raider remake. You got Rayman Legends being remade again. You know, last time Ubisoft made a fucking great platformer. Just gonna redo that one again, ladies and gentlemen. There was some horror stuff. There was some marathon slop. But ultimately, one of the two games that kind of hit me in this list was one of them was this Marvel Wolverine. Now, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, I love me the Spider-Man games back when they dropped in like what 2017, 2018. I thought Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 was one of the best superhero games out. But not even just superhero games, like one of those open world experiences you're just like ziplining through New York. And yeah, I thought that shit was awesome. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, look at things like Marvel Wolverine. You know, it's one of those things where I feel like I kind of played this game already. You know what I mean? Like it really just feels like a reskin of Spider-Man. And then you just put Wolverine inside. Like literally the stealth element is sort of copy and pasted in my opinion from the original like Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man 2 was one of those games where like when I talk about it, I showed my disappointment. And I feel like a lot of people kind of talk about that game as weird culture war lens, which is one of the things I hate about it. Like I hate talking about video games on my channel. The whole discussion gets co-opted by people who anytime like a woman shows up in a video game or fucking minority, always like that's drop with the you know, one of those, you know, just like scream into the high heavens. Whereas like when I'm looking at a video game like that, I just think, man, you know, it looks pretty. Like Spider-Man 2 is a game that definitely looked prettier than Spider-Man 1, no doubt about it. Obviously on PlayStation 5. But the only issue that I really had was I already played the game back in like 2018. So obviously looking at a game like Wolverine, obviously I'm sure this game will probably review really well. I'm sure a lot of people pretty much enjoy it. I'm sure this video might even get demonetized for the fucking decapitations that you're seeing in the gameplay. Ultimately, it really just feels like Spider-Man that I've already played. And by extension, that might as well kind of like extrapolate over to the Batman Arkham games that I've been playing since like what 2008, 2009. You know, I feel like I'm playing the same superhero slop effectively for the last 2 decades of my life. Okay, when I was a teenager, the superhero games felt the same, and when I'm in my 30s, yeah, sure they look prettier. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like why did I buy a PlayStation 5? When in reality, it really feels like the console itself has effectively just become the PlayStation 4 Pro at this point, right? Where yeah, you know, like games, you know, it's a game that I played back in the PlayStation 4. So now it looks definitely higher res. You got some ray tracing, obviously, look at those color reflections. So just like fucking reality. And of course, 60 frames per second. Obviously, you can never deny that whatsoever. Now, there's another game too in this list called God of War Lofi, which basically is a game that takes place in the God of War universe, and you play as Faye, Kratos' deceased wife from the first game. She kind of makes appearances throughout God of War Ragnarok, and of course now she has her own goddamn game. So ultimately, you know, this is one of those games where you know, right now people are looking at this in the culture war lens. Like obviously some of the top tier discussions, I think Asmongold was like saying, nobody wants to play this like a woman or 40. Everyone's been saying that she's been like uglified, and it's just like a woke media trying to like uglify women. At the end of the day, right, ladies and gentlemen, I think she looks fine to me. I don't really care if I'm playing as a woman character. What I personally kind of have like a little issue in this is that we look at gameplay for this. It's already what I've seen with God of War. You know, it literally is just God of War. I didn't finish God of War Ragnarok. I got basically to the end of that game, but I had one problem, right? Like I love God of War 2018. I
really fucking love that game. I thought it was a pretty great title for when it came out. When God of War Ragnarok dropped on my PlayStation 4 and 5, it was one of those games where I was like, it felt literally like a DLC. So I didn't really feel like a sequel. Yeah, it looked prettier. Yeah, it had some, you know, it looked prettier. It ran at a higher frame rate, but it just felt like the exact same retread gameplay-wise of what I played in 2018. When I had my balls blown away back in like God of War 2018, 2019 got tied as fuck. When I played Ragnarok, I was like, what I've seen here is what I've already been blown away by. And the reality of
thing is that looking at this game, I definitely can say it looks prettier for sure. Not on the same par as something like God of War Ragnarok. At this point, visuals in video games have gotten so good that it all just like the diminishing returns of it. We're long away from the days of PlayStation 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, where like those jumps actually felt like real tangible technical jumps. So I'm kind of seeing over here is again the same sort of gameplay that I would have seen in the last two God of War releases, right? And I don't feel like the scale of it is really evolving at that same level. Even in this section where like she's going through the sort of corridor, I remember way back when the PlayStation 5 was launching, motherfuckers were like, but do you know that we're gonna get rid of these because we have SSD now, we don't have to worry about loading zones? This literally is like another fucking loading zone. I know we're kind of stuff like this, but then you get to the combat obviously, and you know, again, you have to go through effectively a pretty lengthy cutscene to even reach the actual gameplay. I'm kind of going through it. I shouldn't be bitching about like cutscenes whatsoever. I really love Kojima games like Metal Gear Solid, which effectively still to this day hold the record for like the longest cutscenes in video games. Again, to rule with it, ladies and gentlemen, yes, these are again similar fights and patterns. The UI even feels incredibly similar. I think the only new feature that I might be seeing is that you can jump and double jump at any given moment. Which I don't know, you guys, I'm playing video games, no fucking kid. Jump buttons are not going to blow my cocks away any fucking more. And ultimately, I think the discourse surrounding this has kind of left me a little bit more jaded than I once was. For instance, you got people on the actual God of War Red going, I just can't seem to understand this community after the announcement of the new game. I don't know. To me, the gameplay looks really interesting. It feels more dynamic. It's cool that we're getting the jump and double jump back, and the combat has clearly been ramped up. I don't know if you're watching the same footage now, but it just felt like the same combat. I mean, it felt like the same intensity that I saw in the beginning of the original like, God of War 2018. You know, you're fighting, I think like Baldur. You're fighting I think Lord's Kid in the beginning. I forget the name. Sort of the beat. But I remember the intensity of that first cutscene. I felt the exact same intensity with this recent review. And you had like God of War Ragnarok, which again, I didn't even get to the end of that game. I think the furthest I actually got to that was when like Rhea, she joins your team, and like you both are like sort of you're just mushing through the desert together, and I sort of like tapped out of the game at that point because it felt so much like 2018 that it just got like burned out planes. So of course, obviously when you go back, it's like story concept seems interesting, which I think is actually pretty real. Obviously, anything God of War kind of touches upon like any of these scenarios where you go into a new like nest of mythology to beat the shit out of. That's pretty cool, right? I mean, so many different mythologies in one place sounds great. All of a sudden, people don't like this game because we're not playing as Kratos, and on top of that, we're playing as a woman. So this is what I'm talking about, like this whole gaming discussion, and when people bring like whole culture side, not to say that isn't a discussion point because ultimately that's where we're discussing is video games, and I guess that's where the discussion is these days. But it feels like, you know what I mean? Like I say, like I feel like I'm on a different fucking planet when it comes to like giving a shit about video game, where I don't look at the whole wokeness side of things. I just look at effectively what we've gotten in the span of basically 10 fucking years. I really feel like PlayStation is kind of had the worst this generation of gaming, right? Where like, you know, PlayStation 1, like when I was growing up, tons of different types of JRPGs, but PlayStation 2 to me was the best PlayStation generation I think ever fucking existed, where you really just had the weakest system at the time, bringing out the most amazing bangers, E-rated bangers, M-rated bangers, the amazing third-party support for PlayStation 2 was so paramount that it, to me is still the best gaming console ever made. PlayStation 3, you know, we take for granted how amazing the PlayStation 3's like life cycle actually was with how many games we got all the way from launch to the very fucking end of the actual console life cycle. You know, the beginning of PlayStation 4 when that generation felt like, you know, a lot of these game companies were kind of taking advantage of hardware and pushing it to new limits. But it feels like with PlayStation 5, we're at a sort of like point where the games feel as if we have not matured or evolved gameplay-wise as anything that I've seen in the PlayStation 4. And that's just how we're at. Like, yeah, the games look sharper and they run faster because the hardware has gotten better. But I don't think we've seen any fucking, at least I haven't seen any game that justifies this new console generation that just keeps getting its prices increased every so often. Again, that's totally out of the realm of what Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo want because you know, AI bros have kind of jumped into our fucking land and pillaged it all the way through. But when it comes to the whole gaming side of things, right, like to me, the only game that I'm actually genuinely really excited for this year that kind of shows me it's worthy of a new generation is like Grand Theft Auto 6. And you know, Grand Theft Auto 6 literally looked exactly the same as GTA 5 with the world simulation, NPC count, the amount of like it looked like if it played, if it felt, if it ran, if it looked, if the technical demonstration was like GTA 5 levels after how many years of us playing that game, I wouldn't be excited. I would actually be so sorely disappointed with GTA 6 that I would fucking lose it. I'd be on my fucking crack. Simple as that. But that's the only game where like from trailer 1 all the way to trailer 2, you know, 2 trailers and screenshots we've gotten looks to be a game that's genuinely technically impressive. I'm not just talking about graphics wise. I'm talking about the NPCs on screen, how the NPCs interact with each other. The fact that you can look at the entirety of Vice City and still see vehicles load into the distance shows me that the team behind that is actually putting together a game of a generation almost, right? Maybe it's me hyping myself up, but I don't really see any other game that matches that quality release from any other developer publisher out there. And you know, even from Sony, right? They're putting so many of these games into this like movie basket where it feels like if you put Wolverine and God of War next to each other, it almost would confuse you. You almost feel as if you went to a generative AI and told it to like spit out third person action adventure gameplay. And that's just I guess where my mind kind of is right now. I guess that's where my thought processes are. It's not that I'm like done with like gaming. It's just like I feel like a lot of the games that are coming out, the discourse surrounding them isn't even focusing on the fact that these games, at least from like a gameplay perspective, seem like they're hard stuff in like pre-COVID form, right? Maybe COVID did have some sort of like play in this where like games were so severely delayed, the industry got so fucked up because the world was on pause. I guess, you know, technically speaking, it's gonna be a while before we actually get newer, more unique games. And who knows even when that's gonna happen because we have hundreds of millions of dollars that you're pumping into something. Are you gonna play a fucking safe? Or are you gonna make games like, you know, are you gonna make like that one game that is like a labor of love that you know is gonna be a complete market loss, especially in an industry where even if you make like a fucking 10 out of this God of War game, if it's like a 100 on Metacritic, absolutely sells gangbusters. You know damn well Sony is still gonna lay off hundreds of developers from Sony Santa Monica Studios, and that's just the reality of the situation. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'm thinking about this kind of like all throughout yesterday. Like I watched gameplay with my friends, and even my friends, you know, it was all like we're excited for the indie stuff, and generally we are positive, but none of us were as blown away with the technical showcases of these games as we were like back in 2018, 2019. I think that's really kind of the story, right? Like PlayStation 5 has been such a, it's like that generation that I feel in like 10, 15 years, you know, Game Crash doesn't fucking happen or something. We'll look back and say that's where like I think we hit the pause. That's where I think innovation kind of chilled out. The whole like movie era of Sony games sort of came out, and that's just kind of where we got hard start a little while. You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's just kind of where my mind is. I guess the other thing I can say too, like even when it comes to the games I think are really great, you know, games like even Resident Evil Requiem or Elden Ring, for instance, like I got them like a week after it came out. You know, those are games I look at and say, yeah, you know, something that I already played back on PlayStation 4 in some capacity, things like Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3. Except here I have obviously that open world that also was coincidentally running on last generation systems anyways too. I feel like we're just hard stuck somewhere, and I don't know, everyone gets so caught up in the culture war like argument for video games. And I just feel like I'm like the one guy or like the few nerds that are out there looking at video games and thinking, yeah, nothing here genuinely feels like so technically mind-blowing. Like that's really visually look better. But gameplay wise, if you put God of War 2018 next to this new God of War that they're releasing, or if you put, you know, Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2 next to Wolverine, are you gonna see a fucking massive difference other than the different characters? Like that's kind of where I'm at. I guess. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like comments, subscribe, just like First person to smile gets 2,000 Flint tokens. Who's man enough to claim the bounty? Yeah, I'm a little late to this topic it seems, but I just heard about it from Slot Live, putting it on my radar here, giving me a nice play slot. Just when you thought you saw the most pathetic garbage imaginable from the crypto community with things like NFTs and all the shitcoin rug pulls, they find a new low, a diabolical white bat.
A crypto site that I've seen for obvious reasons, and also a thing called bounties where you could put up a challenge and ask anybody to do anything you wanted, and then when they do it, you then pay them crypto.
This dog shit sounds extremely similar to that Emma Roberts movie Nerve. I remember bits and pieces of that one, but it was basically people do dares for money on stream. So it'd be like, ramp off a park, tow truck, holy shit, here's 5,000 bones, that kind of thing. It's basically that. I think whoever made this would have sit here watched the Black Mirror episode about this, or Nerve, or one of like 100 other things about this exact same trash. And now it's actually here.
Posting a video about this as well as rules, saying that you basically just have to connect your Twitter account to your crypto wallet, submit proof that you completed a bounty, and then if it's accepted, you get the money. People's reaction to this sort of stuff is often compared to the TV show Black Mirror, but it's probably worth mentioning there is quite literally an entire Black Mirror episode about this very same concept.
Off rip, I feel like this is an IQ test and you immediately fail if you follow step 1 of connecting your crypto wallet to your Twitter account. That just seems like a recipe for disaster. You deserve all the financial misfortune that befalls you for doing something as fucking stupid as that for a sketchy, shady ass website here. It doesn't take a whole lot of thinking juice to recognize why this is a terrible idea that can only end in disaster. It's brand new and it already has been ending in disaster for a few of these sad gullible idiots that are trying to claim bounties doing reckless shit.
So I had a quick scroll through the site. Looks like there's currently 410 live unclaimed bounties with an $158,000 prize pool. Someone supposedly put this bounty up for a prize of $690,000 simply saying KYS. So if this was actually real, it's definitely not on the site anymore.
Now, the site that's introduced this feature is one that was actually notorious for oodles of scams out the wazoo. Their site became synonymous with fraud basically, and also became known for some streams on there where some individuals were torturing animals and trying to use it as a way of making money for themselves there. If you don't want me to torture this animal, I'm going to need your clams. Animal cruelty became something of a trend there. Also people threatening to take their own lives with the same premise. If you don't want me to take my own life, then I need you to bust open that wallet here. There also was someone from the community who did actually take their own life, and immediately people tried to financially capitalize off of it on this other platform. I'm not going to say the name of it, but you probably have a pretty good guess of what it is. And this is now their newest venture here with the bounties for anything. You can see that this probably isn't really a match made in heaven.
Pretty much all of the challenges involve doing something and then promoting a meme coin. We've got this one paying $870 if you build a 6-foot statue of Tom Tom support in Times Square. Another one paying out $1,800 if you get 100 100,000 views in a video mentioning the name of their meme coin.
If you're one of these pathetic pinworms, these rancid piranhas still desperately clinging and gripping onto meme coins like it's your fleshlight in the big 2026, you are a fucking loser. Take a hard look in the mirror. Jiminy Christmas, zoinks!
Sounds like pretty easy money, but I think I'll keep that since I also saw this one paying out $2,600 to quit your job on camera. And then I went to the submissions, and 5 people have submitted videos of them quitting their jobs on camera. So who gets the money? Is it the first person, and then the other 4 just quit their job for no reason?
Whoa, hold your horses there, Squirt. It's not for no reason. They get to be left in the eternal glory of being one of the proud goobers that quit their job to try and claim this bounty, and that's worth more than gold. So yeah, it's a very interesting question. What happens when multiple people submit for the bounty to claim, and they are legitimate submissions? Well, is it the first person to submit that gets paid out? Do they all split the bounty? What is the protocol? And I looked it up, and the website does actually have an explanation for what happens in cases like this. Now, interestingly enough, the website does say no illegal content, no crimes or harassment or violence and things like that. I'm surprised they even mention it. I thought it'd just be pure fucking go hard wild pandemonium over there. But it also says that once the money's been escrowed from the bounty, the website is the arbiter, the sole arbiter. So they're going through each bounty, looking through each submission, and deciding who is approved for that payout, which already seems extremely unsustainable considering the scale of this operation. They're going through thousands, if not tens of thousands of bounties, which could have hundreds of thousands of video submissions. You're telling me this website is going to reach everyone one of those, I doubt it. Actually, it's fucking like, I'd be really surprised if they have a team of, like, hundreds and hundreds of people do that every minute, but that is what they claim. That is the order. And the way they handle cases like multiple submissions is the website goes through and determines which ones are approved, which ones meet the requirements, and which ones are rejected based on, I guess, their discretion. So in case of quitting your job, Nolan noted multiple people submitted, and they all seem to quit their job with video evidence. So what is the website going to do? Who's getting paid out? It says that it could go to one person, or it could be split among the submitters. So you're telling me that all the people that quit their job might either be rejected even though they did exactly what the bounty said, or have their bounty split. So you quit your job for a fraction of the bounty, which also wasn't high enough to justify actually going and just quitting your job like that, by the way. Pretty fucking stupid. But now you're getting a very small piece of that. Yikes. Also, knowing this, why would you ever submit for a bounty in the first place, considering that even if you do everything exactly as the bounty describes, the website might come in and just have a chip on your shoulder saying, nah, I was rejected. That doesn't mean it. Or it could just stay live long enough because they have such a backlog to go through that other people then start submitting. So now you have to split with 100 people. It's just super dumb. The whole thing is an extreme mess and really, really fucking stupid.
They have to split the money. Another one paying up $2,500 saying to get a tattoo of the name of the meme coin anywhere on their body. And currently, I've seen 13 people do this. So I guess good luck splitting that 13 ways, or maybe getting $0.
That's exactly right. And what an immediate great example for it. So 13 lobotomites got a fucking shitcoin branded on their body to try and claim this bounty, and now it's going to be split 13 ways, or you're getting $0 because your shit might get rejected. So people did this under the impression that, oh, I'll get this tattoo for $2,600. That's not what's going to happen. And if that is what happened, like they chose everything first, and the other 12 people get shafted because they didn't know there was going to be the first 13 people may have known that. It's so like, it's hard to even find the words to describe how dumb this shit is.
And that's probably one of the worst ones I saw. Is someone submitted a video to oil up their booty cheeks in return for $6.20. Like, come on, man, have a little bit of self-respect. At least ask for $8. Even on Twitter theorizing that this would just turn into assassination markets. Though some is definitely very nice as I had to scroll through, and nothing actually looked illegal, just theory, jobless, or in the case of guys that quit their jobs, literally jobless.
So it does seem like they are actually following through on that rule of no illegal activity for bounties. Don't know how long that's going to last. I guess we'll see. But as of right now, it's just a bunch of degenerate cringe. So yeah, appreciate Slap Life for putting this one on my radar because I hadn't actually heard it until his coverage of it, and I couldn't resist the urge to yap about it. That's really about it.
Yep.
Eu vou mostrar pra você uma operação que foi muito bem no Brasil para capturar os bandidos que conseguiram desviar quase quase R$1 bilhão de bancos brasileiros. Eles simplesmente fizeram o maior assalto aos bancos do Brasil. Nós tínhamos no passado o maior assalto no valor de 160 milhões e foram levados do Banco Central. Só que dessa vez eles não cavaram túneis, não usaram armas, eles não apontaram nem fuzil pra cabeça de ninguém. Eles simplesmente conseguiram invadir o sistema através da internet. O hacker do mal, muito bem colocado. 813 milhões de reais. E agora que tem a vergonha aqui no Brasil. Deixa eu contar um negócio. Nós conseguimos prender os responsáveis lá na Europa. E de repente a justiça lá na Europa mandou soltar. Sabe por quê? Dizendo que a justiça brasileira é ineficiente demais. Você vai entender essa história. Vamos lá. Sempre jogado pra cima. Carros de luxo. Fuga em jatinho. Muito deboche. Ostentação.
É, na edição foi para um dia, não me lembro.
E uma vida de vaidades no exterior.
É? E passa aqui com você por aqui?
Vaidades pagas com dinheiro do crime. Um esquema de fraudes digitais descoberto pela Polícia Federal, que terminou no maior assalto já registrado contra bancos no Brasil. Não teve tiro, não teve explosivo, não houve invasão de cofres nem de agências bancárias. E agora, o balanço geral vai revelar como um grupo de hackers conseguiu desviar 813 milhões de reais via Pix. Um golpe só foi possível depois da invasão ao sistema de uma empresa de tecnologia responsável por fazer a conexão entre os bancos roubados e o Banco Central.
Esse crime é de tanta relevância que ele se encaixa num fenômeno recente da criminalidade. Os números indicam que os crimes patrimoniais estão deixando de ser praticados de forma violenta, de forma presencial, física, e estão passando a ser cometidos via cibernéticas, por meios digitais.
29 de junho de 2025. Para colocar o plano em prática, o grupo se espalhou por diferentes cidades do país. Esse hotel de luxo em Brasília, ao lado da residência oficial do presidente da República, foi usado como base da operação. Outra parte da quadrilha estava neste hotel em Goiânia. Ali, os próprios bandidos registraram em vídeo bastidores da ação que mais tarde acabaria no ataque milionário.
Você vai ter que mesmo, porque um você só começou aqui. Você tem uma senha, mas você vai colocar um pelo já, fica desligado, você quer entender. Mostra o meu provisório aí. O dinheiro distribuído nas contas criadas para servir de fonte entre o roubo e o destino final dos recursos. E tudo só foi possível por causa do aliciamento de um funcionário da empresa de tecnologia responsável pelas operações do Pix entre esses bancos roubados do Banco Central. João Nazareno Roque, técnico de informática, entregou uma chave de acesso aos bandidos e, em troca, recebeu R$15 mil.
O que é muito característico desse caso, também outras fraudes eletrônicas, é o fato que os criminosos procuram dilapidar, dar destino aos valores subtraídos de uma maneira extremamente rápida.
Em menos de 12 horas, os bandidos transformaram grande parte do dinheiro em criptomoedas.
Só precisa de um dia para fazer um
Nesta mensagem de áudio, um dos suspeitos disse primeiro que é preciso apagar os rastros das transações. Do outro lado, um dos integrantes faz a cobrança.
Vocês viram volta de Dubai, sabe?
3 dias depois da invasão hacker, os bandidos começaram uma fuga em massa do Brasil. A rota dos suspeitos foi reconstruída pela polícia de Brasília. Eles seguiram para Goiânia, onde embarcaram um jatinho. A quadrilha passou por Curitiba e cruzou a fronteira até Buenos Aires. Alguns ficaram na Argentina, outros seguiram para a França, Espanha e Alemanha.
Já foi deflagrada uma operação em que foram presos alguns integrantes e também apreendidos valores relevantes, inclusive criptativos, decorrentes desses crimes.
Com a apreensão dos primeiros celulares, a polícia descobriu que o mesmo grupo vinha aplicando golpes há pelo menos 5 anos. Neste vídeo, Ito Jodi, conhecido como Preto Pix, aparece comemorando mais um golpe contra o sistema Pix num bar no centro de Goiânia. Mas a rotina de golpes, luxo e ostentação terminou depois de uma nova ação da polícia.
Polícia Federal!
4 meses depois do ataque hacker, a polícia prendeu 25 pessoas do grupo em vários estados brasileiros, no Paraguai, na Argentina e na Espanha. Foram apreendidos com suspeitos 20 carros de luxo, bloqueados 28 imóveis e 50 milhões em criptomoedas. Dos 813 milhões, 263 milhões foram recuperados. E o que parecia ser o desfecho da maior investigação de crime cibernético realizado aqui no país acabou ganhando um novo rumo. Para pudessem ser investigados e depois julgados pela justiça brasileira, os 6 presos lá na Europa deveriam ser extraditados, trazidos aqui pro Brasil. Mas a justiça espanhola está dizendo que o nosso Ministério Brasileiro da Justiça perdeu o prazo para enviar a documentação. E por conta disso, a justiça espanhola mandou soltar os 6 presos, entre eles o ídolo que você conheceu anteriormente demais. O jornalismo da Record teve acesso ao documento enviado pelo Departamento de Justiça da Espanha. O Ministério da Justiça negou qualquer atraso e afirmou ter adotado todas as providências dentro dos parâmetros legais. Não conseguimos contato com a defesa dos investigados.
Precisamos entender que a cibersegurança é uma lição de casa. É necessário. O investimento nunca supera o valor do prejuízo, assim 10%, que seria o valor do investimento perto de um prejuízo depois de um ataque cibernético.
Foram identificados 29 integrantes da organização criminosa. Atualmente, 19 deles estão presos. É totalmente impressionante o que você viu aí. O que mais me choca é que os caras foram presos lá na Espanha. A justiça brasileira está dizendo que não, peraí. A justiça espanhola não está falando coisa com coisa. Resumindo em miúdos, eles usam outras palavras. Mas a justiça espanhola comentou, olha, vocês não ficaram atentos aos prazos, vocês não conversaram com a gente, não pediram a extradição, o crime não foi cometido aqui na Espanha, mas não tínhamos motivos para continuar com eles na cadeia, por isso mandamos soltar. E eles foram soltos e fugiram de novo. Já a justiça brasileira não.
I wonder if there was any bribery involved on the release of those guys.
Não, pelo amor de Deus, nós respeitamos todos os prazos. Vocês é que estão confusos. Eu não acredito, xerife, que a justiça espanhola ia mandar soltar.
Yeah, I think there was some cash still laying around that wasn't apprehended. I still think, yeah.
Com certeza não, eles têm tratados, têm que respeitar esse tratado entre os países, viu, passar. Agora, veja bem, como que entraram, como que deu início? Um funcionário abriu uma portinha. Do hacker do mod precisam de uma janelinha, eles procuram uma janelinha, uma portinha pra eles entrarem e invadir as contas e cometerem crimes. Agora, a polícia agiu, agora o Ministério da Justiça precisa explicar por que não cumpriu o prazo, se não cumpriu o prazo.
Ela pedimos uma nota que disseram foi o seguinte: não, a gente cumpriu o prazo sim. A justiça lá na Espanha não sabe o que está dizendo. Em outras palavras, foi o que eles disseram aqui.
Oh.
A polêmica história de Marcos, um menino de 9 anos que viu a mãe ser assassinada cruelmente pelo padrasto. Eu vou pedir agora a sua atenção, eu vou pedir pra você parar agora o que você tá fazendo. Só não para se a comida tá no fogo, não quero botar fogo na tua casa, pelo amor de Deus. Se você tiver de bobeira, já fica aí comigo, porque tem uma reportagem especial. Esse caso pode virar filme, série, novela, pode ter certeza disso. Nós viajamos.
It's kind of funny, this reporters in Brazilian television, they're kind of charismatic like that. I don't see that shit often in here.
Esse caso pode virar filme, série, novela, pode ter certeza disso. Nós viajamos vários dias para executar essa reportagem. Vamos lá, vou começar de novo para você entender essa história desde o começo. A história do Marcos. Esse rapaz aqui, o Pai Moraes, você que tá comigo, a gente já tá um tempo junto, você já me conhece. É possível uma pessoa guardar uma mágoa, um plano de vingança por 10 anos? É possível, você tem jeito de fazer. Mas é possível uma criança de 9 anos ter dentro dela um plano de vingança que dura 10 anos? Acho difícil. Mas é o Pai Moraes, vamos lá, por isso que eu tô dizendo, para, porque a história é forte. O Marcos é um menino de 9 anos, tá numa festa, ele falou pra mãe, eu vou juntar umas latinhas aqui, vou vender, no final de semana eu tenho um dinheirinho. Ele falou, tá bom, filho, vai lá, vai brincar, filho. Quando ele olha, ele ouve um barulho, é a mãe sendo assassinada. Ele viu a mãe sendo assassinada com 9 anos, esse garotinho viu a mãe ser assassinada pelo padrasto. Rafael é o padrasto. Até então, um homem que cuidava bem da família, que cuidava bem dos enteados, tava tudo bem. Mas de repente, o Marcos olhou pra minha mãe tá sendo morta. Gente, o meu padrasto tá fazendo. O Rafael teve uma crise de ciúme e matou a mãe do Marcos. Rafael vai preso e vai pra cadeia. Um menino de 9 anos. Falou assim, quando ele saiu da cadeia, eu vou matar. Ele tinha 9, ele fez 10, fez 11, fez 12, fez 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. E agora, com 19, o Rafael saiu, o padrasto saiu da cadeia. O Marcos ficou consumido por esse desejo de vingança. Foram 10 anos imaginando como seria fazer justiça com as próprias mãos. Chegou agora 2026, Rafael, o padrasto, começou bom comportamento, começou a trabalhar dentro da prisão, bom comportamento, todo mundo adora, o cara ganhou diploma, ganhou emprego, o pessoal falou, cara, seu lugar não é aqui. Ele passa a cumprir pena em regime domiciliar. Marcos fica sabendo. Agora, com 19 anos, ele monitora a rotina de Rafael, arma uma emboscada e mata o padrasto. É uma história polêmica, porque na pequena cidade de Frutal, no interior de Minas, onde o Cidade Alerta esteve, as opiniões estão divididas. Tem gente que defende Marcos dizendo, olha, o cara matou a mãe dele. Tem gente que acha que ele tem que pagar pela morte do padrasto. O Cidade Alerta foi até lá, onde tudo aconteceu. Nós conversamos com as famílias do assassino e da vítima. E fomos atrás de Marcos, que está solto. Será que ele vai falar? Bernardo Armani traz essa reportagem com produção de Ludmilla. Tem um detalhe. No meio da reportagem, a gente descobriu que esse cara, o padrasto que matou a mãe do Marquinhos, enquanto ele trabalhou, ele mandou dinheiro pra sustentar os enteados, porque ele disse que não queria deixar faltar nada pra ele. Olha essa história. Só que o garoto não viu esse ato como um ato de bondade, ele viu como um ato de obrigação. E aos 19 anos, ele chegou a ser preso. Tem um momento da prisão. Qual é o momento da prisão pra gente? O Marcos chegou a ser preso depois da morte do padrasto. Aí ele foi liberado. E agora ele pode voltar para a cadeia. Olha lá o momento da prisão. Vai dar certo, Deus abençoe. Vai dar certo. Deus abençoe. Olha o detalhe que chamou a nossa atenção. Chamou a atenção aqui na tela Campos. Vem cá, pode voltar aqui. Ele está no momento da prisão com a mesma camiseta que ele estava quando ele tinha 9 anos. Ter matado a mãe dele não saiu mais da mente deste garoto adolescente jovem que foi lá e matou. Foi preso, foi solto. Mas agora, volta ou não volta para a cadeia? Reportagem especial na velocidade.
Um menino que carregou a mãe assassinada no peito por boa parte da vida e esperou 10 anos para se vingar. Remexer no passado é algo que ainda dói uma década depois. Marcos era o filho mais velho de Glauciane. Aos 9 anos, ele catava latinhas quando foi avisado que a mãe havia sido atacada. Ver a mãe morta com mais de 20 golpes de faca foi um momento traumatizante. O assassino é Rafael, então companheiro de Glauciane e padrasto dos 3 filhos dela. Mas o suposto amor à companheira e à família dela não impediu Rafael de cometer o crime que mudaria a vida de todos, principalmente das crianças. O casal participava de uma cavalgada. Um momento de lazer se transformou em tragédia. Durante o evento, Rafael ficou com ciúme de Glauciane e atacou até a morte com uma faca. Rafael foi condenado a 23 anos de prisão.
Em nenhum momento ele questionou o tema, questionou os regimes, pleiteou algum benefício, ele dizia que ele precisava pagar.
Nessa instituição prisional, Rafael começou a trabalhar como inspetor, auxiliando outros detentos e a ele mesmo a construir um novo futuro.
Estudou, fez a faculdade dele aqui, carregou diploma, sou orgulho.
Dona Maria Aparecida conta que Rafael se preocupava com os filhos de Glauciane. A família nunca soube que ajuda vinha do assassino.
Eu recebi dinheiro, ele me passava dinheiro, quando mandava coisa pra esse, que eu não tinha, ele me passava, mas eu não podia falar nada, não falava nada, que o dinheiro era dele.
Antes os irmãos inseparáveis, mas o crime mudou Marcos, que se afastou.
Depois que a mãe faleceu, meu irmão separou, não era mais soldado, mas não era mais um amigo.
Na cidade de Frutal, em Minas Gerais, o rapaz nunca escondeu que um dia iria se vingar.
Eu falava, meu filho, olha, você sai da área, você fosse bondade. Não, ele não fazia nada, tinha muita coisa, ele não me tratava, ele não fazia, ele me perdoou, mas...
Quando a pena de Rafael foi transformada em prisão domiciliar, Marcos, agora um jovem de 19 anos, cumpriu a promessa de criança. Marcos está de vermelho e desce de uma moto apressado, para deixar o capacete pelo caminho. A moto apressada, para deixar o capacete pelo caminho. Ele já sabia que Rafael aguardaria pela namorada na saída do serviço. A vingança chega pelas costas. Marcos atira 5 vezes no assassino da mãe. Ele corre agora como um criminoso, mas o sentimento que carrega é outro.
Ele fala pra mim que agora, esse dinheiro, que isso agora, eu vou trabalhar, e vou ter meu dinheiro e vou conquistar minhas coisas. Não foi 3 meses, não foi 3 meses, não matou.
Este vídeo foi gravado 2 dias depois da morte de Rafael. Marcos está indo se entregar à polícia e com a mesma camiseta em homenagem à mãe que usava quando criança.
Vai dar certo, Deus abençoe.
Ao se apresentar na delegacia, a família foi informada que o período para a prisão em flagrante já havia passado e Marcos foi então liberado para ser investigado em liberdade. A prisão do jovem já foi decretada, mas agora ele é considerado foragido.
Eu vi isso com a mãe dele, só que ele ficou 10 anos praticamente preso. Ele pagou Deus na hora. Agora ele fugiu, vai sendo idolatrado. Ele tá sendo herói na boca do povo. Ele tá achando. Porque ele fez uma vingança, ele tem que ali. Não vai voltar. Nem a mãe dele, nem meu filho vai voltar.
Que tragédia essa história.
Oh.
Que tragédia essa história. Primeira coisa, o Rafael tinha uma ótima relação com a mulher e com os filhos dela, mas quando ele bebia, ele se transformava. Eles estavam numa festa, numa cavalgada, lá no evento, numa quermesse, sei lá, e ele bebeu. E a moça conversando com o pessoal ali, com várias pessoas, ele foi tomado pelo ciúme, atacou e matou a moça. Ele era violento, não, ele era agressivo, não, ele tinha um histórico, não, ele foi tomado pelo ciúme, pela fúria, não era nada demais. A moça só tava conversando, ele matou ela. Foi preso na prisão, ele se arrependeu, ele não entrou com nenhum recurso, ele disse, eu tenho que pagar até o final da minha vida, eu tenho que pagar tudo que eu tô devendo, eu errei, eu tenho que pagar. E eu acredito que esse cara tenha realmente mudado, porque ele era um exemplo dentro da cadeia, tanto é que ele conseguiu propostas de emprego, todo mundo queria. E o cara, quando ele recebe autorização pra sair da prisão, o filho da mulher que ele matou, o enteado, que jurou vingança, quando tinha 9 anos, executa o padrasto de forma
surta o padrasto de forma cruel e corre na companhia de um amigo, sobe uma moto e vai embora. E eu pergunto, por que vocês não falaram com ele? Porque ninguém sabe onde ele está. Neste momento, ele está escondido. A gente foi atrás dele, a gente procurou por ele. É uma história de vingança que durou 10 anos. Esse é o grande problema de não liberar essa mulher, sabe? Vamos pensar dos dois lados, né? Tá falando da criança de 9 anos que perdeu a mãe com mais de 20 facadas. Há quem diga assim, mas é justo ele faça isso. Desculpa, a gente tem que apelar pra justiça. O que é justo, ela foi presa e pagou pelo erro dele. Agora, eu entendo essa mãe dizer isso, mas ele pagou pelo erro. Olhando por outro lado, o filho dela volta pra ela, mas a mãe nunca ia voltar. Eu penso o seguinte, a justiça sabe direito, mas infelizmente ele guardou isso dentro do coração dele e agora ele também vai pagar. Ele também vai pagar. Ele jogou a vida dele fora porque ele tinha uma vida pela frente. Aconteceu uma tragédia, ele tinha que conviver com isso e esquecer. Não, mas o que chama atenção da mãe do Rafael é que muita gente tem uma corrente defendendo a atitude do Marco, pouca gente defendendo ali do outro lado, dizendo, olha, ele errou, ele não deveria ter feito isso.
God damn it. Just say. What do I think about this? I don't know. Just saying, I think that Allah says enough. No, just say. Just say. Just say. Just say. But that may be it. Oh yeah, let me check this again. Celtics, my mothers. Or auto. Okay. The fuck? What? What?
This case just keeps getting better and better. I know people in my audience are probably saying, listen, I'm sick and tired of hearing about Dragonfly Energy and Battleborn. They make batteries that you can use in solar systems, boats, RVs, stuff like that, and they're just genuinely horrible batteries. But they're not just horrible batteries, they're also, in my opinion, horrible people. They are suing my friend Will Prowse for doing an honest battery review on YouTube. You can see that here. It's dated June 2nd, 2026. Please do keep that in mind. Now, one of the mistakes that I made is I sent a message to their CEO, Dennis Fairs, in my last video, and I said, you have until Friday of last week to drop the lawsuit. My goal is to get him to drop the lawsuit because I believe it's frivolous. That is no longer my goal. Please do not drop this lawsuit. Please keep this lawsuit going. If anything, I want to be able to fly into that myself and be able to live stream this look on your face, the judge's face, and the jury's face in court when we present the evidence against you, because this just keeps getting funnier and funnier. So, in the complaint, they allege that Prowse's testing is intentionally abusive and invalid. The abuse is demonstrated in the video and accompanying release data include that the charge current was simultaneously 49 amps, 30% over the 37.5 amp maximum specified in the manual. So Will's a shitty tester, and he doesn't know how to test your products at all. Check this out. When you go to their website, it says 37.5 amps right now. Go to battlebornbatteries.com, product 75 amp hour 12 volt. I go download over here and I click download the data sheet. It says max charge current 37.5 amps. So I was noticing that I couldn't find it on archive.org even when I looked for this. This URL does not show up on archive.org. And the reason for that is because they had a different URL for the battery back then. When you use a different URL for the battery, I was able to find it on archive.org. And when you look on archive.org, you can go to the data sheet. And when you get the data sheet, what does it say over here? Max charge current 50 amps. Now, when did they change? This is the part that really highlights this company as an absolute piece of shit. Check this out. So if I go and I try to download the data sheet, hit download, and download the evidence folder, I'm just going to replace that one that's right over there with this one. And now I'm going to go over to my terminal and I'm going to see when that file was modified. What do you think that file's metadata is going to have? Exit tool, modified date, June 1st, 2026. June 1st, 2026. When did they file this lawsuit? June 2nd, 2026. They changed the specs on the battery the day that they issued a lawsuit against the reviewer, claiming that he tested it at the wrong specs, and that's why it's trade libel. Imagine if Ford advertised the Ford Mustang as 4 seconds 0 to 60 time. I were to do a video showing actually the 5 seconds 0 to 60 time. Ford sues me, and the day that they sue me, they changed it to say that the Mustang has a 6 seconds 0 to 60 time. This is absolute fucking clown world. But wait, it gets better. Even on their own YouTube channel, they have a video saying that you can charge at the full capacity of the battery. So this is a 75 amp hour and 100 amp hour battery. Now, we'll test a 100 amp hour battery at 49 amps. But don't trust me when I say that you can charge the battery up to 100 amps. Trust them. Check out this video. It's going to take a while. I guess it's probably going to get removed from the channel soon. I'm going to put the link down below because I want every single one of you to make sure this is archived properly.
Keep in mind, you can charge at 100% capacity of the battery, but this will shorten the cycle life. The battery and the BMS can handle a 100% charge rate.
The battery and the BMS can handle a 100% charge rate. Whose YouTube channel is this? Battleborn. You know I'm going to subscribe to make sure I stay updated too. Dennis, please, Mr. Dennis Fairs, continue with this lawsuit. Keep suing Will. In the state that Will is in, if something is considered to be a slap suit like this, in the state of Nevada, I'm not a lawyer, this is just stuff I found on the internet, but what I have in my writing over here, a special motion to dismiss Freeze Discovery forces Dragonfly without real proof early, and if it succeeds, makes Dragonfly pay Prowse's legal fees plus up to $10,000. So not only could Will have all his legal fees paid for, he could actually make $10,000 off of this. And above all, you'll be just a good fucking talk. Can you imagine the CEO's face when I start playing back a video on their own YouTube channel saying you could literally charge this battery at double the amperage that Will did in a review that they're suing him over? When we show that you change the specifications of the battery on your website one fucking day before you sued him, the look on the judge's face, the look on the jury's face, and above all, the look on your face. It's going to be worth it to buy that plane ticket to Nevada just to see that and live stream it to the world. Please keep suing Will. This will be the fastest $10,000 you ever made and the most entertaining. I want to get paid for this.
I don't even care. I find it funny. That's it for today. As always, I hope you learned something. And shout out to Will's community. Will already tells all you guys that you're amazing, but I just want to say that to you. There are many details that I've been looking into for this case. You can see this document is a lot of work that I was putting together, trying to figure out everything, make sure I had all my ducks in order before I did the video that I did, to make sure that everything was airtight. But there are elements that I didn't find, and you guys found those elements. And the moment that something happened to Will, you immediately jumped in to help him. Anytime one of the people from Will's community get a product and ship, he always says, you can send it to me, I'll even drive out to you to see and check it out, and I'll do a video, unbox it, I'll see what's going on with the product and see if I can help you out. Will always goes to bat for his community, but it's really amazing to see this community also goes to bat for him. None of you are gonna let him get fucked without doing something about it. And you all came together and you dug up as much information as you can to make sure that Will doesn't get fucked. Thank you. That's amazing. You guys are really inspiring. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.
This morning, Apple announced a new AI-powered Siri for the second time, along with a bunch of other AI stuff, and this time, it's gonna be better. They promise. They paid Google like $1 billion a year to make it good. I'm Riley Murdoch, this is TechLinked, and Apple's senior VP of software / man with the most eyebrows, Craig Federighi, announced that the new Siri AI will be focused on providing their customers with useful tools, going out of his way to call out other companies for pursuing AI for the sake of AI. Oof, Frederico, coming out swinging, that's what I call it. Just like last time, they touted the new Siri's ability to access your personal context, which is basically all the info and apps on your device and in your account to enable an actually useful digital personal assistant. They're also quick to call out that they've architected the system with a focus on privacy, using local models whenever possible, and utilizing Apple's private cloud compute for anything cloud-based. So anything that gets processed by the cloud is encrypted and can't be accessed by Apple. And as much as we give Apple a hard time, this does actually seem like one of the differentiating factors that makes them seem only slightly less dystopian than the other guys. Apple demoed Siri AI's frankly impressive capabilities by having a forgetful guy named Mike get concert tickets, remember where his friend lives, and look at pictures from his family vacation, things you could all do before, but now you can have Siri look at your photos for you. Apple's also launching a dedicated Siri app, which is where all of these interactions will be stored, allowing you to return to them in the future if you want Siri to pick back up where you left off. Siri AI will be rolling out in all of Apple's various OSs, all of which feature the 27 moniker now, including macOS 27 Golden Gate, the name for which was introduced with a skit by the marketing team that had all the awkward energy of a first-year improv class. That's why I love it. In addition to Siri AI, the new OS also has a handful of non-AI features, including a liquid glass setting slider to define how liquid and how glass you want your OS. I want my OS goopy as hell. There's also an upgrade to Spotlight Search powered by improved indexing and improved child safety features, giving parents the ability to block inappropriate websites or apps and be in control of who their kids are messaging, which is great for me because we have a blanket no hunters policy in our house. People who are named Hunter? Sorry. The Meta AI apps For You feed has People who are named Hunter? Sorry. The Meta AI apps For You feed has reportedly been serving users with a bunch of suggested prompts for the AI based on at least their location, according to The Verge's Robert Hart. He's based in London, so prompts for the AI based on at least their location, according to The Verge's Robert Hart. He's based in London, so his feed was filled with very British prompts like tea, manners, pubs, royals, and of course, soccer. I mean football, sorry. I told you to be quiet, Jeremy. If you click any of those suggested prompts that kind of look like news articles, Meta AI will generate an article-looking thing for you. Meta appears to be recreating the same kind of low-quality AI engagement bait that has long plagued social media, except now you don't even have to go to the social platform. You can get it right in the app. When The Verge pressed Meta for details about safeguards, labeling, or whether the content should be considered news or fiction, Meta eventually said the feature was only a test. It would be discontinued because you found out about it. I wish all companies just caved to questions like that. Hey, why are you raising RAM prices? Oh, no, we'll lower it right away. It was just a test. They're testing my patience. Yo, the quick bits are about to drop faster than the DigiDestined kids from Digimon when they were falling into the digital world. Remember that? Google just made a huge AI infrastructure move, agreeing to pay SpaceX about $920 million a month through 2029. How's that for a subscription price hike? For access to loads of NVIDIA GPUs and compute power. The idea is to help meet growing demand for Google AI services while SpaceX locks in a serious new revenue stream ahead of its IPO. Of course, Google owns a little chunk of SpaceX, so I think everybody's making money, quote unquote, on this performance. Everybody except me. New York State has passed a 1-year moratorium on new data centers that have a peak power demand of at least 20 megawatts, the first state-level measure of its kind. The pause gives the state time to study data centers' local costs, along with environmental and grid impacts. The move, which is now awaiting the governor's approval, reflects the backlash over rapid AI infrastructure growth. Critics, though, warn the bill could slow investment, while some supporters are calling for even tighter regulation. Hey yo, data center regulation and the Knicks are in the NBA Finals, big bong, which is the thing they say in New York. Ask anyone. Signal, DuckDuckGo, NordVPN, and other companies are pushing back against Canada's proposed bill C-22, saying its lawful access rules could pressure apps and VPNs to hold more user data and weaken user privacy protection. While Google and Meta have also criticized the bill, Signal and some VPNs have warned they may leave Canada, blocking new signups and withdrawing their services from the country, something that is an entirely foreign concept to Canadians and our polite sensibilities. Sorry, you just gotta be a little bit more okay. What? I'm leaving. You can do that? For all those of you who are wondering whether it's possible to run Windows 95 on a graphing calculator, I'm happy to answer this question for you. It's yes, apparently. Reddit user Far Temperature 3580 got the 31-year-old operating system to boot on a Texas Instruments Inspire calculator using the Tiny 386 x86 emulator. Unfortunately, it takes 7 minutes to boot, so Clippy won't be helping you write your cover letters on a calculator anytime soon, or getting sexy for you. That's a deep cut to a previous TechLinked episode, and that's all I'm gonna say. And Team Group won an award at Computex for their external SSD that can be remotely wiped via a signal sent using built-in 4G. The drive performs a secure wipe and then activates a hardware-level destruction process intended to make data recovery extremely difficult or even mission impossible. Imagine Tom Cruise sliding from the ceiling to get your SSD, and with the press of a button, he gets nothing. That's my personal data, Mom. I mean, Tom. I meant to say Tom. It's my data, Tom, not Mom. Don't look in there. You better ask your mom if you can come back Wednesday for more tech news. When she gets back from my place, sorry, I didn't have to. Now I'm gonna continue my Digimon rewatch. I'm about to meet Etamon, the Johnny Bravo of Digimon. Oh, mama. What?
Get them holy slop. Anyway. Oh, okay, what is this about? I'm sad. I don't know what. What do I do? Slow, because I may not understand.
Hoy sí que estoy triste, la verdad. creo que sí se murió. Les voy a mostrar aquí que sembré unas plantas el año pasado, pero creo que las sembré muy tarde. Ya casi venía el invierno y las plantas que sembré, algunas no prosperaron porque como se pone súper frío, creo que se murieron. Y son bastante caras, creo que cuestan como 80 o 100 dólares cada una. Pero se murió
$100.
una y uno está casi ahí, casi muriendo. Mire, se los voy a mostrar. Bueno, miren, compré estas que dan de las mismas flores que tengo enfrente. Esas también van prosperando, porque apenas comenzó el verano y están prosperando. Pero está el palito de pino que está acá. Está bien, pero algo como que le está cayendo alguna plaga y se está secando. Pues no sé qué le voy a poner. Pero el que sí me preocupa es este. Y este ya se murió. He tratado de todo para ver si lo recupero, pero no se puede. Aunque tiene una parte verde, miren. Esta que está aquí está bien. El árbol que está aquí. Bien. El árbol que está aquí. Lo recorté porque no soy jardinero. Nomás lo corté ahí para que no esté grande, pero no le he hecho ningún estilo ni nada. Así que nada, como me gustan las flores, me puse triste que me esté muriendo mi planta. Pero bueno, la voy a tener que arrancar, yo creo, de una vez. Para no estarla viendo así y sembrar una nueva. Así que si ustedes tienen alguna idea cómo poderla recuperar, pues déjala ahí en el comentario. Y si a usted le gustan las flores, también, déjenlo en los comentarios. Este es uno de rosas. Miren todas las que trae acá. Miren. Tengo unas amarillas enfrente, se las voy a mostrar. Estas me dijeron que son amarillas, pero miren. Hay unas rosadas aquí. Estas. Y estas sí son amarillas. Les voy a mostrar las que están allá. Al otro lado aquí también tengo rosas, miren. Voy a mostrarles otras que tengo. Estas son las que más me gustan porque este árbol sí ha crecido bastante. Mañana lo voy a limpiar porque esta es una planta venenosa que me lo anda matando. Y no voy a permitir que me mate. Pero lo último mañana. Así que miren, esas están hermosas, ¿no? Me gustan. Belleza de flores. Bueno, nada, mis amigos, solamente les quería compartir mi tristeza, que se me están muriendo mis arbolitos allá, miren al fondo. Gracias por ver el video, loco, pero ya lo van a ver muy pronto, que tendré un jardín muy bonito ahí. Lo voy a arreglar. Así que nada, thank you very much por ver los videos. See you later. Bye bye.
Oh, gardening went wrong. Gardening situation is sad. Mhm. Mhm. Okay.